This man just woke up from a deep coma within a hospital. But the truth is far stranger. He was discovered 40 years in the future. Back in the past, Seo Mun-Yeop was not just a man. He was a monster. His team was on the brink of total annihilation, leaving him no choice but to dive in alone. Terror gripped everyone watching. He left them with one final command: write a book about his legend as a great hero. With that, Seo Mun-Yeop sealed himself away with the enemy, spending decades fighting an endless horde of monsters. But after 20 long years of battle, he finally wakes up in a hospital bed. The world had changed completely, yet he remained exactly the same. But when Seo checked his status window, shock paralyzed him. Alongside his stolen abilities of appraisal and throw, he had awakened a new, insane skill: immortality. In simple terms, he is now immune to death itself in a world ruled by the strong. Yet, humanity went about its daily routine, completely ignorant. They had no idea they weren't the only ones here. A thug on the street bumped into a hooded figure, scoffing at him to watch his step. But a terrifying truth lay hidden. Another civilization was flourishing right here on Earth. The existence of the Burrower Civilization was finally revealed. Humans, living deep underground. An independent empire, separate from the surface, suddenly emerged amidst a massive explosion. Chaos erupted instantly as the Burrower Civilization launched a sudden invasion. Humanity stared into the abyss of extinction. They tried to counterattack, but their weapons were useless. Not a single bullet or missile could harm them. The creatures used mysterious arcane powers to defend themselves, neutralizing even military-grade technology effortlessly. But soon, the tides of war began to turn. The Burrowers' peculiar energy started affecting humans, triggering mutations. Some developed special abilities, transforming into Espers. These superpowered humans rose up to fight back against the invaders. One by one, they crushed the underground dungeons, reigniting the dying flame of hope. Eventually, the gate to the final dungeon was thrown open. In the spring of 2005, the world's 7 strongest Espers gathered for the final push. They stormed the last dungeon, the Burrower's base, and brought an end to the long, bloody war. Victorious, they were hailed as the 7 heroes who saved mankind. They stepped out of limousines into blinding camera flashes, rewarded with unimaginable fame. The public and press worshipped them, bestowing immense wealth and honor upon the survivors. But one person never returned. Seo Mun-Yeop, the leader of the 7 heroes, never got to enjoy the glory. Instead of gold, he was honored with a cold memorial, a statue unveiled in his memory. The survivors became celebrities, while the fallen leader became a legend frozen in stone. 17 years passed. Suddenly, a narrator's voice booms across the international battle arena in Seoul. France launches a devastating attack against Korea, leaving the Korean competitors paralyzed. The narrator screams the name of the culprit: Nathan Bernard. He is absolutely slaughtering the opposing team. The French ace attacks his opponent, slamming him ruthlessly into the ground. Nathan has already secured 6 kills single-handedly. A spectator watches the broadcast in disbelief, wondering if a monster like this has ever existed in the league's history. Commentators declare him one of the top 3 Espers of this era, while the Korean national team teeters on the verge of total defeat. Korea has only one player left standing: Baek Hayan. Even with 0 chance of victory, she charges directly at Nathan. She unleashes her signature whip in a desperate frontal assault. The audience and the coach watch with bated breath as Hayan strikes with everything she has. Nathan merely scoffs, remarking that this is exactly what he expected from the daughter of a 7 hero. But he delivers a cruel reality check. She can never win with a weak team like this. With a single counterattack, the French player crushes her. Korea loses. The national team failed to defeat a single player. Nathan Bernard is crowned the match's MVP. The crowd laments, remembering the golden age when Korean Espers dominated the world. The coach reflects bitterly. Despite clearing countless dungeons, they failed to adapt to the new era. The defeat is crushing for Coach Baek Ju. It is an utter disgrace for the country that birthed legends like Seo Mun-Yeop and Baek Ju. He grips the railing, trembling in the face of total humiliation. Commentators admit the truth. Despite the strong opponent, the performance was pathetic. They can only imagine the public's disappointment. Online forums explode with outrage at the shameful outcome. The criticism is relentless, with people questioning why the coach, one of the legendary 7 heroes, didn't step in to compete himself. The crowd boos and shouts insults, demanding the entire national team be replaced, claiming Baek Hayan is their only real player. A spectator yells that he didn't pay to watch this garbage. Baek Ju, the fallen hero, stares at the empty game pods, lamenting the mess he's in. His 3rd game as head coach has ended in yet another devastating defeat. The player disconnects from the module, severing her link to the virtual battlefield. She mutters bitterly, feeling as if the crowd believes everyone except her is replaceable. She can't help but question the reality. Are the famous willpower and strength of Korean Espers truly just things of the past? The coach stormed down the hallway, his voice dripping with disdain. He declared that their mentality was trash, and their skills were even worse. The era of true legends was long gone. Bitterly, he concluded that the best heroes had departed simply because they were all dead. He froze in the middle of the corridor, the weight of the truth crushing him. A heavy sigh escaped his lips as he whispered the name Munyop. Coach Jae looked up, his gaze locking onto an old, faded photograph hanging on the wall. He muttered that the world would be a better place if his old friend were still breathing. Suddenly, a figure loomed in the doorway, reminding him that the interviews wouldn't wait forever. The assistant urged him on, warning that everyone was getting restless. Hearing this, the coach let out another long, weary sigh. He agreed to go face the music and apologize to the entire nation. He clapped the young man on the shoulder, grumbling that being a scapegoat was the only reason they hired him. Jay turned back, his eyes cold. He declared victory impossible, with this sorry excuse for a team. They were weak, fragile, and lacked the heart of warriors. His assistant pushed back, arguing that he had barely taken the helm. This was just the beginning of their journey, but the coach cut him off. He intended to hand in his resignation right there on live television. He marched toward the exit, throwing back a final ultimatum. Unless the legendary Seo Mun-Yeop walked through those doors, hope was dead. Without him, the national team was doomed. In his mind, the coach steeled his resolve. He couldn't afford to waste any more time on a sinking ship. Resignation was the only path left. But just as he made up his mind, his phone began to vibrate violently in his jacket pocket. It was the association president. Expecting another lecture, he answered, only to hear the president frantically ask if he had seen the news. Jay scoffed, replying that he had seen enough. He saw the national team disgrace the country with his own eyes. "No, you fool," the president shouted. Confused, the coach asked what could possibly be more important. The next words left him paralyzed with shock. High above the city, a dimensional portal ripped open. A lone figure plummeted from the heavens, crashing into the center of the bustling square like a meteor. The earth-shaking impact sent shockwaves through the crowd, freezing everyone in terror. Chaos erupted in Gwanghwamun Square. People screamed, pointing at the armored man who had landed right beside the statues of Admiral Yi Sun-sin and King Sejong the Great. But there was a third statue, one dedicated to the man who sacrificed himself to save 6 heroes. And sitting right at the base of that broken monument was Seo Mun-Yeop himself. Phones flashed like starlight as the crowd went wild. Screams of recognition filled the air. There was no mistake. It was truly Seo Mun-Yeop. The president screamed through the phone, asking if Jay was deaf. Why couldn't he grasp the magnitude of what was happening? Beneath the statue built to honor his sacrifice, the living legend slowly lifted his head. The president dropped the bombshell that would shake the world. Seo Mun-Yeop had returned from the dead. The scene shifts to the past, where a lone warrior faces an endless tide of shadow monsters. Steel sings against bone as he parries a crushing blow with his shield. But there is no respite. A sea of enemies surges toward him. Hungry for blood, he digs his heels in, bracing for the impact. The shadow creatures hiss, their eyes glowing with malice, before they lunge as one. Behind him, the massive dungeon gates slam shut with a thunderous thud. He confirms the seal is locked. There is no way back. Completely alone, he stands against the Legion and their dark master. High above, the dungeon lord looks down, amused by this final defiant insect. With a roar, Munyop charges, ready to fight until his last breath. Suddenly, he jolts upright, gasping in a pristine hospital bed. Air floods his lungs as he sits on the edge of the bed, trembling. A woman enters, relieved to see him awake. Clutching his throbbing head, he demands to know where he is. The nurse gently informs him he is safe in a hospital. But the hero's eyes dart around, his mind reeling with confusion at the sterile surroundings. Then comes the killing blow. She tells him the year is 2021, not 2005. "Impossible," he barks, panic rising. He swears he entered the final dungeon in 2005. The nurse realizes he needs more than just words. She grabs the remote and flicks on the television. The screen flickers to life, showing a breaking news anchor speaking his name, Seo Mun-Yeop. The headline screams the impossible. The leader of the 7 heroes has returned alive after 17 long years. The reporter explains that he plummeted from the sky, discovered unconscious, but miraculously suffering only minor scratches. Even stranger, he hasn't aged a single day since he vanished. Experts are already theorizing a massive space-time distortion event. The remote drops from his hand. 17 years? To him, the battle in the dungeon happened only days ago. The nurse nods solemnly, pointing out the window. That explains the deafening roar coming from the streets below. She pulls back the curtain. An ocean of reporters has been camped out there since the moment he was brought in. Looking down at the media vulture frenzy, Munyop scoffs. Even after 17 years, the world is still noisy. He turns and demands a mirror. She hands him a small glass. He stares into his own reflection, stunned. The face staring back is exactly the same as the day he left. He should be 47 years old, yet he looks barely a day over 20. A chilling thought strikes him, is this even his world anymore? Then, a far more terrifying realization hits him like a truck. His eyes go wide as he grabs the nurse. My money! What happened to my fortune? The nurse smiles sweetly. According to your will, every cent was donated to the Children's Fund. Munyop's soul leaves his body, desperate. He asks about his mansion. It's a museum now. His luxury car? Sold at a charity auction. The hero who saved the world is now completely broke. The news struck him like a physical blow. Seo Mun-Yeop realized the harsh truth. A museum was not a home. In an instant, the savior of the world had become a penniless vagrant. He gritted his teeth in bitter regret. If he had known this would happen, he would have stashed away a fortune for himself. The nurse offered a gentle reassurance. She told him no one would dare abandon a hero. Baek Jeho had already made contact and was speeding toward the hospital as they spoke. He nodded silently. The nurse excused herself, leaving him with a simple instruction. Ring the bell, if he needed anything. Even seeing the world with his own eyes, reality felt like a dream. He decided to grill Jeho for the gritty details later. For now, survival came first. He needed to check his condition. His eyes flashed as he activated his signature ability, the scanner. This was the power that crowned him the strongest in existence. It allowed him to instantly analyze and visualize every hidden detail of a target. He could see beyond current limits. He could detect dormant potential waiting to awaken. This insight allowed him to grow faster and stronger than any other human in history. Because of this, he rose to command dungeon raids, while others were still learning to crawl. A memory surfaced. A desperate young man begging to be his disciple. That boy was Baek Jeho, destined to become one of the legendary 7 heroes. At first glance, Munyop had dismissed him as a failure, but the scanner revealed a shocking truth. The boy possessed limitless potential. He took the boy in, but with a cold warning. He could teach him, but he could not guarantee his survival. The young Jeho swore to give his life for the chance. Back in the cold hospital room, he scanned his own stats. Strength, agility, speed. Everything remained exactly as it was 17 years ago. Then, his eyes widened. His mentality stat sat at 110. It should have been impossible. The human limit was capped at 100. But the surprises were far from over. A new line of text glowed on his status screen. An ability he never possessed before. Immortality. How could such a godlike power exist? New abilities were only born from extreme, specific circumstances. He theorized he must have acquired it during that final, catastrophic dungeon battle. Suddenly, a loud crash shattered his train of thought. A familiar voice roared his name. He turned toward the door just as Baek Jeho burst into the room. Munyop stared at the figure before him. He asked if it was really Jeho. Tears streamed down Jeho's face as he confirmed his return. Munyop bluntly noted that his old student looked much weaker now. Jeho wiped his eyes, chuckling through the tears. He claimed peace had made him soft. Later, on the hospital rooftop, Munyop asked if he was done crying. Jeho retorted that he would understand when he got old. Tears just leaked out on their own. But Munyop grinned. He was still young and knew nothing of such things. Munyop shifted the mood. He asked if Jeho had kept his promise. The older man blinked, confused. What promise? Munyop reminded him about his biography. Realization dawned on his friend's face. Jeho explained he had hired a famous fantasy novelist for the job. Munyop asked sarcastically if the story started with him hatching from a mystical egg. It was not just a book. Documentaries and films had transformed him into a mythical deity. Even with terrible scripts, the craze had gone viral. The movie was a global box office smash. Munyop cut to the chase. Why did that matter to him now? He vented his frustration. He went into that dungeon expecting to die, only to wake up 17 years later. He knew he was not crazy, but accepting this reality was a different battle entirely. To make matters worse, he had saved the entire world, yet here he stood, homeless, penniless, forgotten by the payroll. Jeho placed a hand on his shoulder. That was what friends were for. He promised to support him financially. Munyop noted that the crybaby had truly grown up. He asked if Jeho had made his fortune starting a business during the lost years. His friend shook his head. He had simply lived off dungeon rewards. There was a limit to how much one man could eat and spend. Munyop wondered how a clueless guy like him hadn't gone bankrupt running a company. Jeho admitted he had the same fear. That was why he hired professionals to handle the thinking. Munyop asked if he was unemployed now. Jeho denied it instantly. He had a job. Curious, Munyop pressed for details. Jeho straightened up. He was a coach. The head coach of the national team. Munyop asked why. He whispered it so timidly. What kind of coach? Jeho asked him to wait and pulled out his smartphone, displaying a match video. Munyop leaned in, studying the chaotic images on the small screen. He asked if these were the old dungeons they used to raid. Jeho shook his head. This was a virtual reality sport known as Battleground. Virtual dungeons were generated digitally. Two teams entered the field to fight for supremacy. After the war ended, the world repurposed its Espers for entertainment. It had become the most popular sport on the planet. Munyop scoffed, calling it child's play. But Jeho corrected him. The top players could rival the 7 heroes of old. The Battleground World Cup was now a matter of national pride. Munyop went silent for a beat. He asked for Korea's ranking. Jeho stared blankly. Munyop asked if the man was going deaf from old age, and repeated the question. Where did Korea stand? Munyop reasoned that since Korea had produced so many legendary Espers, they must be at the top of the leaderboards. Jeho hesitated. He confessed the truth. Korea was in last place. The paper cup slipped from Munyop's fingers, tumbling off the ledge. Silence stretched between them. Munyop turned, his expression unreadable. He realized a fundamental truth. When a great evil vanishes, the hero who defeated it becomes the next problem to solve. Inside the luxury sedan, Seo Mun-Yeop shifts his gaze to Baek Jeho, demanding an explanation for his cryptic words. Baek Jeho gritted his teeth, stating that political cowardice is exactly why their nation became a laughingstock in the global battleground arena. Seo Mun-Yeop's eyes narrow as he deduces the truth. The higher-ups were terrified of Espers after the war, fearing their power would challenge the status quo. Jeho confirms the grim reality, explaining that battleground restrictions were merely a leash to control every strong Esper, himself included. Yeop scoffs, staring out the window. He doesn't need a history lesson to imagine the chaos that followed. He assumes the strongest Korean Espers fled the country, taking their talents abroad to become star athletes or coaches for foreign nations. Baek Jeho lets out a bitter laugh, admitting he should have shattered the legs of the scoundrels who dared to manipulate them back then. Yeop reminds him with a smirk that he chose a different weapon, using his silver tongue to confront presidents and ministers instead of violence. Glancing in the rearview mirror, Jeho's expression darkens as he mentions they had to rebuild from ashes, and the current athlete pool is pathetic. He turns to Seo Mun-Yeop to press the issue, but Yeop slices through his sentence with a sharp, absolute refusal. Jeho slams the steering wheel, complaining he wasn't even allowed to finish. But Yeop knows the pitch. Joining Battleground is a waste of his prime. Seo Mun-Yeop's voice turns cold. It isn't a waste. He ended his life as an Esper in that final dungeon, regardless of Jeho insisting it's just a sport now. He retorts that he never carried the weight of the world on his shoulders to begin with. Leaning back, he asks if he really looks like the heroic type who bleeds for the sake of others. Yeop explains his brutal philosophy. As a youth, he fought to survive. As an Esper, he fought for fame. Now, he just wants to live for himself. He paints a chaotic picture. The media going feral over the world savior returning to rescue Korea, piling mountains of expectation on his head. Baek Jeho shoots him a serious glance, asking if he truly has zero interest. Seo Mun-Yeop doesn't hesitate. He hates it. To him, modern Battleground is nothing more than a glorified circus. With a heavy sigh of defeat, Jeho accepts the rejection, realizing there is nothing he can do to sway him. Yeop watches him in silence, but Jeho suddenly declares that the nation's Espers aren't a lost cause, prompting a confused look from the legend. A massive holographic billboard lights up the night sky, displaying Ba Han, and Yeop admits she is a stunning beauty. A proud grin spreads across Jeho's face as he reveals she is his daughter. Yeop is floored, remembering a 6-year-old child, not this 23-year-old woman. Jeho tries to laugh off the shock, commenting on her beauty while lamenting that 17 years flew by in the blink of an eye. Jeho tells Yeop to stop looking at her like that, and the returnee quickly apologizes for the awkward realization. The car glides under the moonlight, finally arriving at a sprawling, ultra-modern mansion. Han Soo-ji, Jeho's wife, rushes out to the driveway, calling out Seo Mun-Yeop's name in disbelief. She greets him warmly, amazed he is back after so long, but Yeop jokes that for him, only a week has passed, making his aging a punchline. She turns to her husband, worrying about his fatigue, but Jeho dismisses it. Driving is the least he can do for a friend who returned from the dead. Watching the couple, reality finally crashes over Seo Mun-Yeop. He actually survived. He is really here. The realization hits deep. He is standing in a peaceful world, one without blood-soaked wars or deadly dungeons. Standing before the mansion, he wonders what to do with this second life. For now, relaxation is the only mission as he grabs the TV remote. Sprawled on the sofa, Seo Mun-Yeop surfs the channels, bored, until something on the screen makes his heart skip a beat. He bolts upright. They are replaying Stairs to Hell. A wide grin splits his face. He finally gets to see the ending. Clenching his fists in triumph, he declares, "This is it. This trivial pleasure is the very reason he fought to survive." Baek Jeho walks into the room, stunned to hear the legendary hero announce plans to binge-watch a series with a mountain of snacks. Yeop doubles down, vowing to watch every single show he missed since the year 2005, leaving Jae-ho completely flabbergasted. Jae-ho rushes over, grabbing his shoulders, asking if he seriously intends to become a shut-in watching TV reruns. Seo Mun-Yeop reminds him of the promise to let him do whatever he wants, but Jae-ho rips open the curtains to reveal the nightmare outside. Yeop drags himself off the sofa to look. Beyond the window, a literal army of reporters has laid siege to the house. He turns back, disgust written on his face, calling them annoying leeches. He realizes his peaceful retirement is under attack. With a sharp glint in his eye, Seo Mun-Yeop orders Jae-ho to gather the vultures for tomorrow morning. He clarifies his intent. He will gather them only to tell them to get the hell out of his life. The next day, the venue is blindingly bright as Seo Mun-Yeop and Baek Jae-ho step onto the stage, the press noting the hero's terrifying calmness. The announcer declares the press conference open, and Yeop faces the storm of camera flashes without flinching. Gripping the microphone, he introduces himself, acknowledging his miraculous return and the bizarre situation he now finds himself in. Beside him, Baek Jae-ho watches with a sigh of relief, convinced that this time, his unpredictable friend is actually handling the situation with grace. But Seo Mun-Yeop shatters that illusion instantly. He bluntly declares he isn't grateful in the slightest, telling everyone to ask their questions quickly and then get the hell out of his life. Jae-ho realizes with horror that the man hasn't changed a bit. He quickly steps in for damage control, announcing they will take questions one at a time. When asked how he returned from the nightmare of the final dungeon, Seo Mun-Yeop shrugs. He replies that he has no idea. He simply woke up in a hospital bed. Next, he denies having any memories of the last 17 years. He adds that he had zero contact with the other heroes and has no intention of reclaiming his lost assets. Bored out of his mind, he demands the next question and points a lazy finger at a reporter desperately raising his hand. The man asks if he is aware of the phenomenon known as Battleground, managed by Coach Baek Jae-ho. Yeop confirms he knows of it. Then comes the big question. Does he plan to become a Battleground player? A wave of whispers sweeps through the crowd of reporters, anticipation hanging heavy in the air. Baek Jae-ho observes silently, knowing this was the moment everyone had been waiting for. Seo Mun-Yeop's answer is short and brutal. He has absolutely no interest. The reporter presses for a reason. Yeop repeats his lack of interest, but the man makes a fatal mistake. He provokes the hero, asking if he lacks confidence. On the giant screen, Seo Mun-Yeop points directly at the reporter. He smirks, retorting that the only thing lacking in this room is the hair on that man's head. He states that Battleground looks boring and declares he has no intention of dancing like a clown for their entertainment. Yeop hopes that satisfies their prying curiosity, making it clear he will not tolerate any further harassment. He bids them a cold farewell. As he turns to leave, Baek Jae-ho tries to wrap things up politely, but a voice cuts through the noise, asking them to wait. A desperate reporter begs for just one final question before the legend walks away. He mentions a player named Gerald Walker, who accused Yeop of being beneath his level. Seo Mun-Yeop falls silent for a heartbeat, simply repeating the name Gerald Walker. The reporter explains that Walker is a superstar in the United States, hailed as the pride of the tanker position. Yeop asks if this Walker is the strongest player alive. The reporter hesitates, admitting there are actually 3 great kings at the very top. He lists Nathan Bernard from France, Roy Meyer from Ireland, and Daniel Mance from Germany as the true apex predators. The reporter clarifies that while Walker is incredibly skilled, he is not ranked among those top 3 legends. Seo Mun-Yeop lets out a long sigh, acknowledging that 17 years have indeed passed. He turns to the camera, sending a message to Walker. Don't be so cocky when you aren't even in the top 3. He adds a chilling challenge. If Walker wants a real fight instead of playing a game, he should come meet him in person. Then, Yeop raises a finger and delivers the killing blow. He declares he will personally bury the man in his backyard. Elsewhere, the broadcast plays on a massive screen. Zachary Wood, CEO of the player agency, asks Walker if he heard the insult. A hand crushes the remote control into dust. Gerald Walker screams Wood's name, ordering him to prepare the private jet for Korea immediately. Suddenly, an official match against the United States is announced to the world. On the phone, Baek Jae-ho panics, asking how this happened so fast. Seo Mun-Yeop complains about the noise and tells Jae-ho to take it outside, and the coach agrees. Yeop grumbles that he couldn't hear the TV because of the shouting and asks what is going on. Baek Jae-ho breaks the news. The match is in 2 weeks. Yeop simply replies that he doesn't care. Jae-ho explodes, blaming him for mentioning Gerald Walker's name. Seo Mun-Yeop asks who that is. Jae-ho reminds him it is the very man he promised to bury in the backyard just moments ago. Yeop finally recalls the name. Jae-ho explains the man has been furious since the public humiliation, but Yeop just dismisses the guy as petty. Jae-ho explains the gravity of the situation. Since Walker cannot fight Yeop directly, He will seek his revenge by destroying the Korean team. Seo Mun-Yeop questions what the team has to do with him, calling Walker a weirdo for targeting innocent bystanders. Baek Jae-ho puts a hand to his forehead, defeated. He tells his friend to just cheer up, saying he will have to suffer the fun in his place. Suddenly, Seo Mun-Yeop sits up, interested. He asks about the national team match and questions if Hayan will be there. Elsewhere, Baek Hayan arrives at her home, announcing her return to her mother. Seo Mun-Yeop startles on the couch. In the hallway, Hayan's mother greets her daughter, surprised she arrived so early. Hayan explains she rushed over the second she heard Uncle Yeop was there, desperate to see him. She asks where her uncle is. Her mother points to the living room. Seo Mun-Yeop offers a greeting from the couch, and Hayan locks eyes with him. She sprints across the room and tackles him onto the couch. He complains she almost killed him, but Hayan just beams, saying how happy she is that he is back. Seo Mun-Yeop gently pats her head, confessing he was afraid she might have forgotten him after all this time. She assures him that is impossible, reminding him he was the one who smuggled her sweets when her parents forbade it. He comments she grew up fast, and she replies she is already 23. Hayan asks if he returned for the official match. Yeop shakes his head, stating he came only to see her. The match means nothing to him. She leans in closer, her expression turning serious. She asks if the rumors are true that he really doesn't want to play Battleground. Seo Mun-Yeop immediately suspects Baek Jae-ho put her up to this. He dismisses the topic, firm in his stance that he is not interested. Baek Hayan pouted, demanding to know the reason, but Seo Mun-Yeop simply waved her off, insisting her uncle had a mountain of work to finish. Clinging to his arm, she unleashed her puppy dog eyes, asking if a cute plea would work. Munyop shut it down instantly, prompting her to mutter that he had changed. "You guys are the ones who changed," he retorted. She turned away, recalling how he used to grant every wish, but he reminded her that back then, she only ever asked for snacks. Spinning back around, Hayan finally dropped the act. She needed him to accompany her to the league for an avatar verification test. Avatar? What's that? Munyop asked, glancing at the TV with zero interest. He made it clear he had absolutely no desire to go. Hayan pleaded, explaining her father was too tied up to take her. Wearing him down, Munyop finally sighed in defeat and asked for the location. She grinned, telling him it was a surprise. Moments later, they arrived at the majestic Korean Battlefield Association, greeted respectfully at the entrance. A staff member bowed politely, inviting them to follow him down a corridor pulsating with advanced technology. Munyop and Hayan trailed behind the guides. One official informed Hayan they would start with her avatar verification immediately, and she nodded in readiness. The system hummed to life, scanning her weapon and armor data to perfectly synchronize her digital avatar. Hayan slid the VR helmet on, initiating the neural link. In a flash of light, her avatar materialized within the virtual arena. From the safety of the control room, Munyop watched the screens intently, honoring Hayan's request to see her skills. Inside the simulation, she requested a target. Instantly, the system generated a massive, wolf-like beast that snarled before her. Munyop raised an eyebrow at the realism, asking if this was normal. The staff explained that Battlefield was a hyper-realistic VR sport designed to recreate combat perfectly. "It's almost indistinguishable from reality," Munyop muttered, his interest finally piqued. He leaned forward to gauge Hayan's true potential. The beast charged at breakneck speed, leaping for the kill, but Hayan calmly readied her whip. With grace, she vaulted into the air, dodging the fangs. In the same motion, her whip snapped out, coiling tight around the creature's neck. With a violent yank, she flung the beast across the arena. Hayan didn't hesitate, drawing her sword and dagger as she closed the distance. A single, fluid strike sliced through the air, cleaving the monster cleanly in two. She stood over the dissipating pixels, analyzing her work. The system announced the synchronization was complete. As the connection severed, Hayan broke into a triumphant smile. Back in reality, she rushed to Munyop, fishing for compliments. He bluntly told her she had a long way to go, prompting her to dare him to do better. Munyop started to decline, but she cut him off, insisting he just needed to create an avatar for fun. She had heard the legends of his strength, but mere stories weren't enough. She needed to witness it with her own eyes. Her voice softened. By the time she was old enough to watch him fight, he had already retired. She stared at him, her eyes filled with expectation. After a heavy silence, Munyop let out a long sigh. He agreed to test just once for her sake, making Hayan beam with pure joy. The staff member stepped forward, eyes wide, asking if the legendary Seo Mun-Yeop was really going to take the test. Normally, a full attribute measurement was required, but since this wasn't an official match, the staff excitedly waived the protocols to get straight to the action. Munyop gestured to his casual clothes, asking if he could enter the simulation just as he was. The staff warned he'd be weaponless in a tracksuit, quickly ordering weapons. Two men struggled to haul a heavy spear and shield over to him. Munyop gripped the equipment, frowning. To him, the heavy gear felt feather-light and unfamiliar. The staff explained it was standard battlefield issue. Munyop shrugged, saying it would do, and stepped into the test chamber. Just the spear is enough, he declared. Inside the simulation, he braced himself to experience this virtual dungeon firsthand. The system swept over him, digitizing Seo Mun-Yeop's data to reconstruct his legendary form as an avatar. "Can you hear me?" The staff's voice echoed. Munyop opened his eyes, now standing in a perfect virtual replica of the test room. "Feels just like stepping through a dungeon portal," he mused. The staff confirmed perfect synchronization, while Hayan's voice cheered him on. Stretching his limbs, he requested the same monster Hayan had fought. The staff member eagerly complied. A button was pressed in the control room. Digital particles swirled in the arena, weaving together to form a nightmare. The massive beast roared to life. Munyop's eyes narrowed. He recognized this creature immediately. It was a Salabun. He noted it looked different from the wild ones. The staff explained this was a special variant, one that could only be defeated by using aura. They had programmed the ultimate version using all recorded data. The Salabun lunged with terrifying speed, but Munyop sidestepped the attack effortlessly. He stared the beast down. Deciding the standard issue spear was garbage, he tossed it aside with a clang. He took a stance and launched a single, focused strike. In the control room, Hayan and the staff watched, their jaws hitting the floor in disbelief. Did he just kill it with a flick to the forehead? The staff stammered. Munyop stood over the corpse, looking unimpressed. The operator's mind reeled. Salabuns were apex predators, not insects to be flicked away. "Send another," Munyop commanded. "I need to test something." As a new monster materialized, a dangerous grin crossed his face. This was the perfect playground. Seo Mun-Yeop scoffed, kicking the carcass at his feet. "Is this it?" Barely enough to break a sweat. He looked around with bored eyes. "Tell me there is something. Anything. Stronger than this trash." Suddenly, a sharp voice cut through the air, speaking a foreign tongue, the world's greatest superhuman. Hearing the strange accent, Seo Mun-Yeop spun around, eyes narrowing at the intrusion. Chaos erupted in the control room. Alarms blared as red lights flashed across the consoles. The staff froze in panic, voices rising in confusion. What in the world is going on? Fingers flew across the keyboard as a technician fought to regain control, but the screen turned blood red. Warning: unauthorized external connection detected. The system was being breached. Sparks showered the room as the console exploded, hurling the technician backward. Meanwhile, down in the arena, the very air ignited. From a roaring pillar of flame, a hulking figure emerged, wielding a massive axe and shield. The ground shook as the newcomer landed. He locked eyes with Seo Mun-Yeop, a savage grin on his face. "So, is the offer still on the table? Or are you too afraid to dance?" Seo Mun-Yeop offered only a cold, silent stare. The warrior scoffed, mistaking silence for fear. "Quiet? Ha, I knew it. You didn't actually expect a real challenger to show up, did you?" He hefted his axe, his aura flaring wildly. "Today, I expose the truth. The title of 7 Heroes is nothing but a hollow label. And I'm going to prove it right here, right now." Boom! The warrior launched himself forward, a blur of speed and violence aiming straight for the legend. Yet, Seo Mun-Yeop didn't flinch. He simply stood there, watching the approaching death with bored eyes. Crash! The axe struck. Nothing but the arena floor. Dust billowed as the impact shattered the warrior's shield in an instant. Confused, the challenger looked around wildly. "What? Where did he go?" A whisper came from right behind his ear. "Scared yet?" The warrior froze. Seo Mun-Yeop materialized from thin air. "Because I'm definitely not." A smirk played on Munyop's lips. Finally. This might actually be a decent warm-up. He snatched up his spear, twirling it once before dropping into a lethal combat stance. The real test begins now. The two titans circled each other, tension thick enough to choke on. Up in the booth, Seo Hayan trembled. "What is happening down there?" A calm voice cut in behind her. "Don't worry. Just watch." The control room door slid open with a hiss. Hayan and the staff spun around, startled by the sudden intrusion. It was Baek Ji-ho. He strode in, radiating authority. "I authorize the breach," he announced calmly. "There is no cause for alarm. Everything is going exactly to plan." Hayan's eyes went wide. "Association President Baek?" She frowned. "You said you were too busy to attend." Ji-ho shrugged. "Plans changed. We discussed this, but it seems the memo didn't reach your team in time." Standing beside him, Vice President Park Jin-tae crossed his arms, looking toward a foreign woman in the corner. "Well, Miss Moss, is this display sufficient for you?" Emma Moss, manager of the legendary Gerald Walker, nodded slowly. "Yes, thank you for accommodating our unique request." Her eyes were glued to the screen. Flashback. Baek Ji-ho stood before Seo Mun-Yeop, a table groaning under the weight of a feast between them. From the shadows, Park Jin-tae watched the negotiation unfold. This was the bait. The only way to spark Seo Mun-Yeop's interest in the battlefield again. Back in the present, steel blurred. The two combatants clashed with speed the eye could barely track. Clang! The spear met the axe in a shower of sparks. The shockwave was instant, a crushing pressure that rippled through the entire arena. The air itself screamed under the force. Seo Mun-Yeop skid backward, carving deep grooves into the floor as he used one hand to break. Gerald Walker wasted no time, raising his axe high for a devastating follow-up. Munyop didn't panic. He analyzed. His eyes glowed with a supernatural light, activating scanner eyes. Time seemed to slow as he dissected his opponent. A holographic interface materialized in his vision. Gerald Walker's vital data scrolled past in a cascade of numbers and charts. Incredible, Munyop thought. Strength and endurance are at maximum. He is the ultimate tank class. This man wasn't just a brute. He was a fortress on legs. What are you looking at? Gerald roared, confused by the pause. Fight me. Seo Mun-Yeop just smiled, a dangerous glint in his eye. You are strong. I will give you that. A thought crossed his mind. The mysterious power he had awakened in the hospital. The gift from the abyss. Perfect. This was the ideal dummy to test his new limit. Munyop gripped his spear tighter. He vanished, reappearing as a streak of light charging straight for Gerald. Gerald braced himself, reading the trajectory perfectly. He swung, but suddenly Munyop halted. He froze mere inches from Gerald's face, defying the laws of momentum. Gerald's eyes widened in shock. What? Why did he stop? He had a clean shot. Nose to nose, Munyop whispered. Let me show you something fun. He slammed his palm onto the arena floor. Boom! The ground erupted, shattering into a million pieces. In the control booth, Hayan screamed in terror. Uncle! Gerald was baffled. Why didn't he dodge? Why stop there? It looked like madness. It looked like Seo Mun-Yeop wanted times to die. The shockwave engulfed them both. Munyop took the full force of the blast. But the recoil slammed into Gerald Walker like a freight train. Gerald was launched backward, crashing into the wall with earth-shattering force. The arena was a ruin, debris scattered everywhere, with a massive object embedded deep in the stone. He has to be dead, Gerald thought, gasping for air. But from the swirling dust cloud, a cough echoed. Asterisk, cough asterisk. Damn it. This smoke is uselessly thick. Silence fell over the control room. Mouths hung open. No one could comprehend what they were seeing. Gerald stared, trembling. Impossible. Seo Mun-Yeop rose from the rubble, dusting off his shoulders. Not a scratch on him. So, Munyop grinned. How was that? I told you I would show you something fun. His eyes flashed. Behold the power of true immortality. Pretty cool, right? Above them, the analysis screen flickered to life, displaying a single, terrifying ability. Immortality. Gerald's voice shook. How? How could anyone survive a direct hit like that? When I crawled back from the dead, Munyop explained casually, I brought a souvenir with me. An absolute, unbreakable body. And thanks to you, the test was a rousing success. He glanced down. Even the minor scratches were vanishing instantly. Ah, this is a problem. I heal too fast. We can't have a proper match like this. He tapped his earpiece, startling the tech crew. Hey, control room. Listen up. I literally cannot die. It's a perk from surviving the final dungeon. The staff member stared at the audio feed, brain short-circuiting. Excuse me. What? Seo Mun-Yeop sighed, looking at his hands. It is too unfair for a spar. Is there any way you guys can turn this cheat code off? The man confirms the settings, asserting it's not difficult. He then requests a specific handicap. His immortality must be sealed, and the staff member obliges, fingers flying across the panel to deactivate the special ability. Gerald Walker catches every word of the conversation. Seo Mun-Yeop shrugs casually, claiming he only activated it to test the sensation since it was his first time wielding such power. But then, a sharp grin forms. He admits the real reason. He disabled it so his opponent wouldn't have a single pathetic excuse when he inevitably loses. Rage flares in Gerald Walker's eyes. His knuckles turn white around his weapon as he stomps across the cracked arena floor, closing the distance. He casts his spear and shield aside in disgust, sneering that the rumors of Munyop's arrogance were understated. But Munyop snatches the spear from midair with terrifying ease, retorting that his strength far exceeds the rumors too. Gerald Walker scoffs, vowing to judge that for himself. He barks at Munyop to get on his feet so they can settle this without any more talk. Still crouching, Seo Mun-Yeop looks down on him. He yawns, suggesting Gerald should defeat the top 3 rankers before challenging him, adding the sting that Gerald isn't even on that list. That does it. Gerald lunges with a ferocious blow. Munyop dodges effortlessly, mocking him again, asking if he struck a sensitive nerve. The warrior launches himself skyward. Steel meets steel as they exchange a flurry of strikes, the air cracking with the impact of their rapid collision. Spear clashes against axe in a symphony of violence. Munyop lands gracefully, but when Gerald blinks, his opponent has vanished into thin air. A chilling voice whispers from behind. Over here. Gerald Walker spins around in panic, trying to locate the threat. Too slow. Seo Mun-Yeop thrusts his spear over his shoulder with surgical precision, the shaft slamming directly into his opponent's face. Gerald reels back, disoriented. Munyop readies his weapon, impressed that Gerald reacted at all despite his limited vision. Playtime is over. Munyop decides to end it now. Focusing all his energy, he hurls the spear with velocity that breaks the sound barrier. Boom! The thrown spear impacts Gerald Walker's shield with the force of a freight train. The weapon ricochets, exploding against the arena wall in a cloud of debris. Seo Mun-Yeop turns with a satisfied smirk as Gerald Walker touches down. Leaning heavily on his shield, Gerald realizes the terrifying truth. The spear changed trajectory at the last second. The level of control required is God tier. Seo Mun-Yeop spreads his arms, declaring an easy victory, but Gerald drops to one knee, gritting his teeth. He insists the fight isn't finished yet. Munyop reveals he missed on purpose. Gerald stares blankly, his mind unable to process the sheer gap in their abilities. Munyop offers some free advice. Ditch the massive tower shield. He tells Gerald to stop fighting like a generic tank class. He explains that the massive defense obstructs his field of vision. Gerald stiffens, realizing his fatal flaw has been exposed. Munyop deduces Gerald uses the shield to buy time to scan the battlefield. But against a true master, that split-second blindness is a death sentence. Therefore, switching to a buckler would serve him better long-term. Gerald asks if this is just mockery, but Munyop replies coldly. Even with the tips, Gerald would still lose. Gerald Walker considers the words. It hurts his pride, but he decides it wouldn't hurt to try the new approach. In the control room, the team watches in stunned silence. Baek Jae-ho can't believe Munyop is coaching a rival who is already a formidable monster. Seo Mun-Yeop turns to leave, dusting off his hands. He's done his part, and he has TV shows waiting for him at home. He pauses, glancing back at the staring Gerald. With a greedy hand gesture, Munyop demands a consulting fee for the lesson. Gerald agrees to pay, but there's a catch. Munyop raises an eyebrow, asking what the condition could possibly be. A rematch. In the official league match in 2 weeks, Seo Mun-Yeop flatly refuses, stating he has zero interest in the battlefield or the money. Desperate, Gerald grabs his arm, offering a blank check for his participation. Munyop shakes him off, telling him to get lost. The warrior steps closer, eyes burning with determination. He swears that next time, the outcome will be different. He insists a talent like Munyop's shouldn't rot away. Munyop retorts that it's his life to live. The two lock eyes in a tense standoff. The control room team holds their breath watching the confrontation. Association President Park Jin-tae watches the screen, silent and calculating. A sly smile creeps across Park's face. He sees an opportunity to manipulate the board. Elsewhere, a woman sits glued to a television drama. Lying on his couch, Seo Mun-Yeop is also engrossed in the show, shouting at the character's poor choices. Suddenly, a breaking news banner cuts the feed. He bolts upright, groaning in frustration. They interrupted right at the climax. The anchor drops a bombshell. Seo Mun-Yeop had refused the battlefield, but a secret negotiation with Gerald Walker has changed everything. Munyop blinks in confusion as the reporter cites an anonymous informant who leaked footage of their private confrontation. The terms are revealed. The American team demands Seo Mun-Yeop's participation in a friendly match if they crush Korea 11-0. And the news claims Munyop has already accepted. What? He jumps to his feet, screaming at the TV. When did he ever agree to such insanity? At the Korean Battlefield Association, the door to the president's office is kicked open with a thunderous crash. Seo Mun-Yeop storms in, aura blazing, demanding to know what the hell is going on. He marches toward Park Jin-tae's desk while security struggles to hold him back. The man's aura flared with murderous intent as he demanded the name of the rat who leaked the tip, vowing to crush their throat with his own bare hands. He slammed his phone onto the table, playing the video where the editors had maliciously cut out his refusal, making it look like he agreed to the proposal. As he swore to hunt down the leaker, the association president slowly rose from his chair, his presence commanding silence. Park Jin-tae bowed deeply, a formal apology to the legendary Seo Mun-Yeop for this public relations disaster. He explained the impossible position he was in, citing the American Association's pressure and their alliance with Walker as reasons he couldn't say no. Munyop's rage subsided slightly, understanding the politics, but hesitation still clouded his eyes until Park Jin-tae placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. The president smirked, revealing he had already crafted a master plan to protect Munyop, proposing a specific condition for his participation. The clause was absolute. Seo Mun-Yeop would only join the friendly match if the American team achieved a perfect victory with 0 casualties. He waved his hand dismissively, assuring Munyop that the current Korean team was weak, so the Americans winning flawlessly was impossible anyway. Munyop exploded in frustration, screaming that he had left the battlefield forever and asking why the hell they wouldn't let him retire in peace. But the president remained calm, pointing out that the condition was a trap designed to fail, meaning everyone could save face without Munyop actually fighting. Park Jin-tae suddenly grabbed Munyop's collar, desperation in his eyes as he played the friendship card, begging for just one favor. He struck the final blow, promising to donate all profits to Munyop's favorite orphanage. Munyop groaned, trapped by his own conscience and their long history. With a heavy sigh, the legend relented, warning that this was a one-time deal, causing Park Jin-tae to beam with victory. Overwhelmed with joy, the president leaned in to kiss him, but Munyop shoved his face away in disgust, growling that it was fine. He cemented the deal with one final decree. If even a single American player died during the prelims, his participation was void. Park Jin-tae agreed with a fox-like smile, swearing on his honor to uphold the promise. The deal sealed, the president offered to treat him to the finest tuna sashimi in the city, guiding the grumpy hero out of the office. But as they walked away, Park Jin-tae glanced back, his playful expression vanishing into a look of cold, calculating seriousness. Back at his desk, a secret report lay open. The simulation results showed Korea losing every single set, and he whispered a quiet apology to the unsuspecting Munyop. The media storm began instantly, with anchors announcing the association's official confirmation that Seo Mun-Yeop had accepted the U.S. challenge. Channel after channel broadcast the same breaking news. The return of the king to the battlefield was imminent. Headlines screamed across the screen, hyping Seo Mun-Yeop's shocking entry into the Rank A match. At home, Munyop stared blankly at the TV. Furious that the incessant news coverage had preempted his favorite drama series, he gritted his teeth, realizing the old man had played him again, and decided it was finally time to cut ties right as his show was interrupted by another report about him. Sighing at his misfortune, he walked to the window, but a sharp sound from the training grounds below caught his heightened senses. Focusing his gaze, he saw a blur of motion in the training area. Someone was navigating the obstacle course with impressive speed. It was a woman moving like a phantom under a man's supervision. Munyop watched as the instructor hurled a projectile directly at her. Asterisk. Snap. Asterisk. Her weapon intercepted the object mid-air. Munyop realized it was Baek Hayan, pushing herself to the limit. Her father, the legendary Baek Jae-ho, praised her reflexes, but warned that she was still too slow to protect her teammates in a real raid. Munyop approached the duo, teasing that the old tiger was bullying his cub again. Before activating his times analysis eye asterisk, a system interface overlay appeared over Baek Hayan, displaying her stats, teleportation skills, and rope mastery in glowing text. Munyop's eyes narrowed as the data revealed a harsh truth. Her agility attribute had already hit its absolute genetic cap. Her potential for speed was far lower than her father's prime, meaning she would never fight like him, but her stamina and strength had room to explode, making Jae-ho's training completely wrong for her. On the lawn, Hayan collapsed, gasping for air, begging her father for just a moment of respite. She turned, startled to see Seo Mun-Yeop looming over them, his voice cold as he stated she wouldn't kill a single American player at this rate. He stared at her, his gaze piercing through her exhaustion. Hayan asked if he had been watching, and Munyop bluntly stated that training her agility any further was a waste of time. Baek Jae-ho argued back, insisting she just needed more effort, but Munyop cut him off, declaring that Hayan was a different beast entirely. He told Jae-ho to abandon the speed training immediately, explaining that nature had set a limit on her that no amount of sweat could break. He pointed out that her agility and whip mastery were already perfect. She had nowhere left to grow in that direction. Munyop explained that while she had speed, she wasn't her father. He then turned his intense gaze to Hayan, who looked back with wide, curious eyes. He asked what her next move was after snaring an enemy. She replied she would disrupt their balance for her team, but Munyop shook his head. That was the loser's mindset. Seo Mun-Yeop delivered the cold reality of the battlefield. Copying her father's support style was useless for her. She didn't have a legendary team to finish the job. She needed to become the executioner herself. Seo Mun-Yeop snatched the whip and sword from her grip. "Watch closely," he commanded, radiating casual confidence. "This isn't rocket science." He stalked toward the training dummy like a predator. Asterisk. Snap. Asterisk. With a single fluid motion, the whip lashed out, coiling tightly around the target's neck. Once the prey is ensnared, he lectured, "You don't hesitate. You close the distance instantly." In a heartbeat, steel flashed. Asterisk. Shing. Asterisk. The sword sang through the air, slicing the dummy clean in half before the top piece could even hit the ground. He pivoted to Hayan and her father. "Do you see now?" The silence was deafening as they stared wide-eyed. He dropped the harsh truth. "You can't kill a real enemy with just a whip. You need the blade to finish the job." Seo Mun-Yeop forced her into a close-quarters combat stance. Does the trainer understand the mission now? He didn't wait for an answer. We start with 500 strength reps. Hayan and her father froze, their jaws practically hitting the floor. His aura flared, imposing and absolute. I said move. 500 reps. Now. There was no room for argument. He reminded them of the ticking clock. You have exactly 14 days until the Rank A match. Make them count. Meanwhile, at the U.S. National Team Hotel, John Kim couldn't believe his eyes. Gerald Walker had evolved in mere days. Walker wiped his sweat. Is the difference really that obvious? I thought you were crazy, John admitted. Switching your shield style just because you met Seo Mun-Yeop? It seemed reckless. But I was wrong. John watched the footage in awe. You've overcome your greatest weakness. You're not just a tank anymore. You're top 3 material. The agent cautioned him. It will be tough to adapt against speedsters like Nathan, but for your career, this is a game changer. Walker cut to the chase, his eyes gleaming with ambition. So, what is this improvement worth? In cold, hard cash. John Kim did the math. At least $10 million. If you master this style, your next contract negotiation is going to be legendary. Asterisk $10 million. Asterisk. The number echoed in Walker's mind like a victory bell. He glanced at the TV, seeing a report on Seo Mun-Yeop. Send him $10 million. Now. His agent gagged. What? Call it a consulting fee. Walker smirked. He reached out, clutching the air as if crushing an enemy. I'm going to drag him onto the battlefield with me. He owes me a fight. Walker pressed a hand against the wall, burning with anticipation. Just wait a little longer, Seo Mun-Yeop. The stage was set at the Seoul International Battle Stadium. The day of judgment arrived. The historic Rank A showdown. Korea versus the United States. The broadcast began, the atmosphere electric. The entire world is holding its breath, one commentator shouted. The dream match. Seo Mun-Yeop against America. Destiny is decided today, the screen flashed. Here they come. The full lineup of the Korean warriors stepped into the spotlight. The camera panned to the giants of the West. The United States team stood like titans, ready for war. The aces were revealed. Baek, the Spear of Korea, a master of close combat, and staring him down, Gerald Walker, the Iron Wall and Ace of America. From the stands, Seo Mun-Yeop watched like a hawk. The commentator's voice rose. And there she is, Hayan's debut in her new role. The camera zoomed in on Seo Mun-Yeop's stoic face. The battlefield was revealed. An ancient castle dungeon, crawling with the undead. First obstacle, the announcer roared. The relentless skeleton warriors block the path, but that's just the appetizer. The second floor holds the Death Knights, and the final boss, the Dragonvon and the terrifying Lich. For the uninitiated, the vital rules were flashed on screen. The tension spiked as the Korean team marched into the arena. The American team followed, radiating power. Who will claim glory today? The commentator wondered. The strategy battle begins now. Game start. The declaration echoed through the stadium. Both teams dove into the dungeon, rushing toward destiny. Contact. The American team collided with a horde of skeletons instantly. Walker stepped to the front, a mountain of steel. It was a slaughter. With perfectly synchronized movements, the U.S. team began the hunt. Asterisk, crunch. Asterisk, Walker shattered the first skeleton into dust. Look at that defense, the commentator noted. The Americans are slow, yes, but once they set up, they are an impenetrable fortress. Hayan gripped her weapon, knuckles white. While the Americans played it safe, the Korean team was a blur of motion. Suddenly, a gasp from the booth. Wait, what is that strategy? Madness. The Korean team blasted through the skeletons without swinging a weapon. They were sprinting, ignoring the monsters in the second area entirely. Baek kept his eyes locked forward. Don't stop, just run. It was a massive gamble. If this worked, they stole the momentum. If it failed, they were dead. I don't believe it, the commentator screamed. Korea is ditching the long game. They are sprinting straight for the boss room. Total aggression. The risk was catastrophic, but the reward? Massive hunting points and total control of the battlefield. If they killed the boss, the first floor would seal in minutes. The American team's plan would be completely destroyed. They're there. The Korean icon slammed into the boss zone, face to face with the nightmare. The Korean team engaged the first floor boss, the skeleton warrior. Hayan and Baek drew their weapons. Do or die. Panic rippled through the U.S. comms. Walker, hold position. Something's wrong. Walker paused, sensing the shift in the air. Paulward, is the recon done? He needed answers. Now. What is the unexpected situation? The scout's voice trembled with the report. It's Korea. They've already started the boss raid. Walker defied all logic. Instead of rushing the second floor, he abandoned the standard playbook and set his sights directly on the boss room. Speed was the only variable that mattered. He turned to his female teammate, demanding she use her ability to launch him like a human cannonball. Meanwhile, the Korean team had the skeleton warrior cornered. Victory seemed inevitable as they advanced, trusting Hayan to deliver the killing blow. "Hold formation! Cover her!" the leader screamed. But it was too late. A dark blur tore through the air, closing the distance at supersonic speed. Reflexes were useless against such velocity. Before she could even blink, Walker slammed into her with the force of a freight train. She was blasted backward, her mind unable to process the assault. The Korean team froze, paralyzed by Walker's ghostly appearance in their midst. Baek Ja-ho realized the terrifying truth instantly. Walker hadn't just run. He had used his teammate's skill to fire himself across the map like a missile. Asterisk, crash, asterisk. Her body crumpled against the dungeon wall. The merciless system notification rang out. Khan was dead. Walker smirked, dusting himself off. Focusing on the boss? Not a bad plan. But against me, the outcome is always the same. The rest of the American squad emerged from the shadows behind the skeleton. With the Korean formation shattered, they descended on the weakened boss like a pack of wolves. The system chimed again. First floor boss, defeated. The area would seal itself in 10 minutes. Time to clean up the trash, Walker decided. The American hunters turned their blades toward the surviving members of the Korean team. The commentators went wild. Unbelievable. In a split second, the American team has wiped the floor with their opponents. It was a massacre. The Korean team faced total annihilation. Walker stepped forward to deliver the final execution. The last defender lay paralyzed on the cold ground, helpless. With a single strike, Walker ended it. The scoreboard flashed the brutal truth, 11-0, a perfect game. Hayan walked down the corridor, the nightmare of the match replaying in her mind. She paused before a door, the bitter taste of total defeat heavy on her tongue. Peeking inside, shame washed over her. Even with her uncle's legendary support, she hadn't even thrown a proper punch before dying. Suddenly, a voice commanded the room. "Eyes up, everyone." Hayan looked up, startled by the man's intense presence. It was Seo Mun. Watching that match, all my eyes nearly popped out of my skull. "You need to listen to my advice now." A player tried to protest, mentioning Coach Baek. Seo Mun cut him off instantly. "Shut your mouth. I'm stepping in," Seo Mun declared, his voice cold. "Because if I don't, I'll end up having to carry this entire team myself." He paced the room. "You tried a winning play, but you lack the skill to execute it. Your average levels are pathetic compared to the Americans." He didn't sugarcoat it. "With your current strength, your chance of victory is exactly 0%. But," his eyes gleamed, "surrendering is shameful. So listen close. I will teach you how to take Walker's head." Seo Mun began the strategic briefing. "The Marta-born Palace, a dungeon the director and I conquered in our youth. The layout is simple," he explained. "But the skeletons on the 3rd level? They are a true nuisance," he scoffed. "With your skills, reaching that far would be a miracle. Forget the future. Focus on the failure you just committed. Your strategy in the first set wasn't wrong," he admitted. "But a plan is useless if you are too weak to fulfill your role." He pointed a sharp finger at the vanguards. "You, frontliners. You rushed the boss room blind. No scouting, no vision on the enemy. You walked straight into a trap. And the rear guard? You should have covered the moment the line broke. Instead, you stood there like statues while Hayan was slaughtered. 11-0. You lost because you have forgotten the absolute basics of combat." He shook his head, looking disappointed. "National team? What a joke." He turned his back. "Enough, talk about the past. Here is the strategy for the second set." The briefing ended. The bell rang. Round 2 began. Instantly, the Americans moved. A 6-5 split formation. The fast group surged ahead to secure the hunting grounds first. Walker took command of the second unit. The hunt was on. Their strategy was ruthless, optimizing every ounce of their ace player's talent. The crowd gasped, awestruck by the Korean team's sudden movement. "Wait!" the commentator shouted. "Baek Hayan!" She vanished and reappeared instantly. The entire Korean squad was sprinting, abandoning their usual turtle tactics. "They're on the offense!" the caster cried. "And look at Hayan's positioning." Seo Mun watched from the sidelines, a satisfied smile curling his lips. "That's it. Good." The plan was precise. It required absolute obedience to his orders. Only through perfection would the opening reveal itself. Hayan charged forward, swearing this time would be different. Deep in the dungeon, an American vanguard halted. He scanned the shadows. "Walker, report." No sign of the enemy nearby. He frowned, puzzled. "It's a single path. They must be focusing on the second half." Little did he know, the trap was already set. To Walker, the shift in the battlefield's atmosphere was undeniable after the disaster of the first set. He dug his heels in, standing firm. He knew it was only a matter of time before Seo Mun-Yeop played his hand. Suddenly, something shattered against the cave wall behind him. Walker spun around, eyes wide. What was that noise? Boom! A massive explosion tore through the dungeon wall. Through the smoke and flying debris, the entire Korean team soared into the air. They crashed down, instantly encircling the shocked American squad. The American formation crumbled in surprise. Walker's mind raced. How on earth did they get here? Flashback. Seo Mun-Yeop had issued strict orders. Scouts, take point. Hyun, you're the fastest, check the enemy's status immediately. His eyes narrowed seriously. If Walker's group has fewer than 5 players, do not engage any monsters or bosses. The team looked at him in shock. He smirked. Everyone thinks Martha Bourne's palace is a one-way road. But they're wrong. There is a secret passage, he revealed, complete with a teleportation point. It is perfect for an ambush. He pointed at Hyun. Use it. The entrance looked like solid rock to everyone else. But Seo Mun-Yeop tapped his temple. I will show you exactly how to find it. Through that passage, you can flank the Americans undetected. His command was absolute. All 11 of you, rush that route and slaughter the American team while they are split up. Back in the present, the dust settled as the Korean team burst from the explosion. They struck the Americans from the rear without mercy. Baek Hayan landed right in front of an enemy player, Seo Mun-Yeop's voice echoing in her mind. When you face Walker, ignore the head. Aim for his legs. In the past, Hayan had questioned him. Why the legs? Munyop's explanation was cold and calculated. His current condition makes him vulnerable there. He switched to a smaller shield, Munyop noted. That leaves his lower body exposed, and he hasn't fully adapted to the balance shift yet. The pressure of a no-casualty run, combined with a surprise ambush, and facing an Esper, the Americans will crack. Seo Mun-Yeop looked her in the eye. Just trust me and follow my lead. Back in the heat of battle, Hayan whispered, Thank you, Uncle. The Korean team charged before the Americans could form a defensive line. Power surged into Hayan from her team's support caster. A teammate channeled every ounce of mana they had, transferring it directly to her. She lunged at Walker. Clang! He blocked the strike and instantly cut down 2 Korean players, but Walker froze. She wasn't there. She had bypassed him using teleportation. Her real target was the American support in the back line. She struck from behind. The system voice roared. Baek Hayan has secured 2 eliminations. Walker gritted his teeth, realizing he had been played. The support was the true objective all along. Roaring with fury, he swung his axe and crushed another Korean player. 3 kills confirmed. Walker keyed his comms. Vanguard, return to base immediately. The situation was dire. 3 American heavy hitters against 8 desperate Koreans. The Vanguard was too far away to help instantly. But Walker laughed. A team like this? Easy pickings. He charged forward, his axe thirsty for blood. He spun like a whirlwind, obliterating another opponent. Kill number 4. Suddenly, Hayan rushed him from behind. Walker turned, expecting a clash, but the air was empty. Down here! She surged from below, her blade biting deep into his exposed leg. Walker reeled from the impact, stumbling as Hayan danced out of range. The great Walker dropped to his knees. The American team held strong, but the chaos had taken its toll. One of their players fell to a surprise attack. The Korean team pressed their numerical advantage. They threw bodies at the enemy, sacrificing 7 players just to drag down 3 American elites. A lone Korean player approached the fallen giant. Walker looked up from the ground, panting. Did Seo Mun-Yeop train you? He sensed the sudden lethal shift in her combat style. Hayan silently pointed her sword at his throat. Walker glared back, a smirk forming. Impressive. The stadium erupted. The crowd roared at the impossible turnaround. The scoreboard flashed the truth. The Korean team had eliminated 5 American players. Coach Baek sat in stunned silence, his eyes wide at the outcome. Seo Mun-Yeop just leaned back in his chair, totally relaxed. See that? He asked. I told you I would help you catch Walker. The commentators went wild, screaming about Korea's incredible, unexpected performance. But sadly, the clock ran out. The match ended with the American team winning 2-0. If only the Korean team hadn't run into the returning American vanguard, one commentator lamented. We could have seen a miracle today. Walker stared up at the massive scoreboard, reflecting on the battle. He glanced at the stats for the second set. The Korean national team faced the world's strongest and tore 5 of them down. The commentators agreed unanimously. The highlight of the match was the Korean team smashing through the wall, but the driving force behind this legendary turnaround was a single player. She was responsible for 4 of her team's 5 total kills. The crowd chanted her name, the Ace of Korea, Baek Hayan. XBC Sports anchor OG stepped forward to interview Coach Baek Ju. Coach, your thoughts on the match? She asked. The national team showed a completely different beast today. Baek Ju nodded. We lost. But this experience, it is the fuel we needed. The reporter leaned in, eager for the scoop. But tell us, How did you devise such a brilliant strategy? The reporters can't stop buzzing about the game-changing tactic from the second set. They call it the memorable strategy involving the secret passage. Baek Jae-ho nods, admitting the brilliance of the move. It was especially impressive considering the dungeon was notorious for having only a single path. But then, his eyes drift to the side to reveal the mastermind. He confesses the team received outside help for that specific play. Watching from the shadows, Seo Mun-Yeop observes the broadcast. He grumbles under his breath, annoyed at Baek Jae-ho's subtle attempts to rope him in. He realizes the coach is still pulling strings to drag him back into the spotlight. Just then, Baek Hayan steps forward for her turn at the microphone. The reporter heaps praise upon her, calling her the match's most impactful player. Then comes the golden question. What kind of training led to this explosive growth? She doesn't hesitate. She credits her uncle for the intense recent training and her sudden position switch. Seo Mun-Yeop watches the screen, his expression tightening. He lets out a frustrated sigh. Why are both father and daughter obsessed with talking about him? But he shrugs it off. After all, they are speaking the absolute truth. Park Jin-tae approaches him with a knowing smirk. He comments that Munyop still gets prickly whenever he feels embarrassed. Seo Mun-Yeop ignores the jab and points toward the interview zone. He asks why the association president is hiding here instead of basking in the limelight. Park Jin-tae replies that it is better to let the stars shine. He asks what Munyop wants, but then admits his own reason for coming. Pure nostalgia. Only a handful of veterans, including the two of them, knew about that secret passage. Seo Mun-Yeop admits he was the architect of that strategy. However, he scoffs. Using a secret passage in a sports match felt a bit underhanded to him. He explains his logic. To avoid being forced into a corner, he relied on a cunning method rather than a brute force guerrilla attack. The president mentions the rumors that Munyop trained Hayan to find her true talent. Munyop dismisses it, claiming that is old news. Park Jin-tae stands tall. He confesses he enjoyed seeing a legendary strategy back in action after so long. He insists that Munyop's talent is far too precious to rot away in retirement. Seo Mun-Yeop can only agree, acknowledging his own incredible worth. Then, Park Jin-tae drops the hammer. He asks what Munyop thinks about unleashing that god-tier talent once more. Seo Mun-Yeop raises an eyebrow. He reminds the man that he already won their bet, but the president pleads for just one final request. He promises to vanish from his hair forever if he refuses this time. He reveals that the Korean Professional Battleground League season is imminent. Munyop scoffs, asking if he expects him to suit up as a pro athlete. Park Jin-tae shakes his head instantly. He denies it, claiming he would never make such an unreasonable demand. Instead, he reveals his true plan. A charity match featuring famous players right before the league kicks off. He wants Seo Mun-Yeop to step into the arena one last time. He fully expects Seo Mun-Yeop to shoot down the proposal. But then, the unthinkable happens. Munyop replies that he will actually think about it. Park Jin-tae freezes in shock. This is the man who always rejects what he doesn't want to do. To hear him consider it is a miracle. Munyop shrugs, acting as if it is nothing major. He explains that watching Hayan play sparked a flame of curiosity within him. TV shows are entertaining, but they lack the visceral thrill of real combat. And since real dungeons no longer exist, this arena is the only battlefield left where he can truly fight. Park Jin-tae explodes with excitement. He ruffles Munyop's hair, shouting, "That is the spirit!" He thrusts his phone forward. The footage of the Rank A match has already surpassed 10 million views in a single hour. The video is viral with over 11 million hits now. The comments are flooding with praise for the Korean team, Hayan, and the mysterious strategist. Seo Mun-Yeop pushes him away, annoyed, telling him to calm down. He steps back, rubbing his head, commenting on the president's monstrous strength. Park Jin-tae apologizes for his outburst. But Munyop cuts him off with a cold reminder. He hasn't officially confirmed his participation yet. Park Jin-tae beams again, undeterred. Just the fact that the legend is considering it is amazing enough. Seo Mun-Yeop narrows his eyes. Isn't the professional league about to start? Holding a charity match this close to the opening feels suspicious. Park Jin-tae flinches, realizing the genius has already figured out his scheme. Seo Mun-Yeop lays down the law. If he is to step onto that stage, he has conditions. Park Jin-tae stares intensely, ready to hear the price of a legend. The association president doesn't hesitate. He vows to give Seo Mun-Yeop whatever he desires if he plays in this match. With a devilish smile, Seo Mun-Yeop accepts the proposal. The scene shifts back to the training center. Baek Jae-ho approaches, a practice sword gripped in his hand. He marches toward Seo Mun-Yeop. The legend waits, a spear resting casually on his shoulders like a predator at rest. Baek Jae-ho asks what is going on. Munyop explains calmly. Since the president bowed to all his conditions, he has agreed to enter the charity match. He sighs theatrically. He was given a second chance at life and fully planned to spend it rotting in front of a TV. Baek Jae-ho steps closer, but since Munyop has decided to fight, he refuses to go in half-hearted. He needs to prepare. Munyop ruthlessly criticizes the national team's training regimen. Baek Jae-ho lowers his head, apologizing for his failures as a coach. The coach looks up, confused. Why is he being dragged into this? It is great that Munyop wants to play, but this feels personal. Munyop grins wickedly. He refuses to be the only one suffering. Besides Baek Hayan, there are no other players worth their salt. Baek Jae-ho begs to be left alone. It has been 17 years since he last fought seriously, but Munyop is relentless. He promises to whip the old coach back into shape, whether he likes it or not, even through his reluctance. Baek Jae-ho finds himself listening to his friend's overflowing confidence. Seo Mun-Yeop's eyes flash with power. He activates his analytic ability, scanning Baek Jae-ho's hidden attributes. The verdict is in. He is weaker from years of slacking, but regaining his glory is possible. A sadistic smile spreads across Munyop's face. Starting tomorrow, welcome to hell. Baek Jae-ho finally realized the gravity of his mistake. He was doomed. In a flashback, the legendary Seo Mun-Yeop laid out his two non-negotiable conditions for Park Jin-tae. The demands were absolute. First, he had to play on the same team as Baek Han. Second, and most shockingly, Baek Jae-ho himself had to participate in the match. The association president ran the numbers instantly. With 2 of the original 7 heroes returning to the field, the sponsorship revenue would be astronomical. He didn't hesitate to make the call. The news exploded across the internet. Seo Mun-Yeop, Baek Jae-ho, and Baek Han in a charity match. The countdown to the legendary event had officially begun. Back in the gym, Seo Mun-Yeop explained his philosophy. His cunning technique wasn't magic. It was simple physics. He just needed to be a fraction of a second faster than his kill. His trainer wasn't impressed by the lecture, scolding him for stating the obvious. Munyop just smirked, agreeing to push his speed to the limit. The atmosphere shifted instantly. The trainer settled into a combat stance, ready to strike. Steel flashed as the trainer lunged. Munyop danced backward, dodging the blade by a hair's breadth before slamming his shield into the counterattack. The blows rained down like a storm, but defense was his domain. When the dust settled, Munyop grinned. For the first time in years, he actually felt good. But reality hits hard. The trainer reminded him that 17 years had passed since his prime. It was time for a break. Munyop stretched his aching limbs, groaning. Getting back into shape at his age wasn't just difficult, it was torture. Still, his ego wouldn't let him quit. He claimed it was just a warm-up, but the trainer wasn't buying it. They had been grinding for 8 hours straight. The old man had had enough. He wanted to watch his favorite show, reminding the legend that he wasn't a machine anymore. Rest was mandatory. But there was no time for TV. Seo Mun-Yeop checked the clock. They had a crucial appointment they couldn't miss. Their destination loomed ahead. The massive, imposing headquarters of the Korean Battlefield Association. Inside, they were greeted by Yoo Hyun-yu, the technical team manager. He confirmed Munyop was there for the avatar synchronization test. Beside him stood Mr. Brown Turner from the World Battlefield Association, the man responsible for overseeing today's high-stakes procedure. Before the machines could start, Munyop raised a hand. He questioned the necessity of all this. Why more tests? Hyun-yu explained the situation. Since Munyop had skipped the basic athletic screening, they needed raw data to build his in-game avatar. Without it, the synchronization would fail. Munyop looked around, genuinely impressed. The precision of the technology was light years ahead of his time. Hyun-woo confirmed the system's power. It scanned every fiber of a player's physical constitution, mirroring it perfectly within the digital world. He dropped a bombshell. The tech could even manifest Esper powers the user didn't know they had. Munyop's interest was piqued. Then came the revelation. The battlefield system wasn't just code. It was built from the Esper ability of a specific, mysterious individual. That sounded suspicious. Munyop narrowed his eyes, accusing them of being a front for the Burrows, the underground monsters. He pressed harder, asking if the enemy was pulling the strings of the World Battlefield Association. Yoo Hyun-woo frantically denied it. Munyop laughed coldly, daring the enemies to show themselves. A nervous Hyun-woo quickly ushered the volatile legend toward the measurement room to diffuse the tension. Inside the testing chamber, the mood shifted to business. They would measure the holy trinity of stats: strength, agility, and aura. The instructions were simple. Give everything. Accurate data meant perfect synchronization. Holding back was not an option. First up, strength. Munyop gripped the lever of the testing machine. The moment the signal fired, his muscles coiled like steel cables. He pulled with everything he had. The force was so violent his hand slipped from the lever as the machine groaned, processing the raw impact. The digital panel flashed. 8,113. A solid number. But the technician signaled for another try. He went again. 8,119. Then 8,117. He analyzed the data himself. In game terms, this translated to a strength stat of 79. Munyop asked what was next, trying to hide his reaction. Yu Hyun-yu noted casually that his strength was merely average for a hero. That stung. But next was agility. The test required him to hit alternating switches on the walls until the final alarm screamed. Munyop centered himself. Average strength? Fine. But speed? That was a different story. His eyes locked into focus. Start! He became a blur. He ricocheted from wall to wall, smashing the switches with terrifying precision. The observers gasped. Hyun-yu couldn't believe his eyes. How could a tanker move like an assassin? Munyop skidded to a halt in the center of the room. He demanded his score. The display lit up with a shocking number. 963. Not enough. He muttered that a little more effort could break 970. He launched himself into a second attempt. When he stopped, the board read 971. The technicians were stunned into silence. He hadn't just broken the threshold, he had shattered their expectations. Munyop asked for the world record. Hyun-yu revealed someone had an agility stat of 107. Munyop knew instantly who it was. Nathan Bernard. He had studied the tapes Baek Jae-ho sent him. Nathan was the benchmark, the rival he had to surpass for the charity match. Munyop analyzed the gap. Nathan was fast enough to rival Baek Jae-ho in his prime. Finding anyone with over 100 agility points was nearly impossible. A fire lit in his eyes. He snapped his fingers. He wasn't done yet. The target was now 975. He took his stance in the center of the room, the world fading away as he focused for one final, legendary attempt. Something felt different today. A sudden surge of energy coursed through him, telling him he was in peak condition for the test. The test commenced. A sharp glint flashed in his eyes. He smashed the first switch on the wall. Then, like a blur, he dashed between the targets at breakneck speed. To the spectators, he was nothing but a streak of light, faster than ever before. The measurement ended. He slammed to a halt in an instant. Heavy breaths escaped his lips. The observers stared at the score in disbelief. Yu Hyun-soo couldn't wrap his head around it. How was this even possible? Still catching his breath, Seo Mun-Yeop turned to them. How was it? He knew, without a doubt, he had moved faster this time. The number 107 blazed on the panel. It tied the record of Nathan, the fastest Esper to ever walk the planet. Munyop frowned in thought. How did he match that score? His agility was only 97. That was lower than Nathan and Joe at their absolute peaks. He realized the truth. He had transcended his own stats in that fleeting moment. Let me test my strength again, he demanded. There was something he needed to verify. The setup remained the same. He narrowed his eyes, gathering every ounce of focus. He gripped the lever and pulled. Muscles screamed as he poured all his power into the motion. The observers gasped. The numbers were climbing rapidly. What's the number? He asked. The result was shocking. 890. A massive leap from his previous attempt. Are you finally warmed up? Someone asked. Maybe I'm just more focused, he replied coolly. He stared at his own hand. Had he gotten stronger? No. This power exceeded his physical limits. He quickly shook off the thought. His scanner eyes revealed the truth. His stats hadn't changed at all. Yet, something felt different. A sensation he knew all too well. A memory from the distant past surfaced. He had felt this exact sensation once before. Alone, fighting for his life in the last dungeon. He realized it now. When standing at the precipice of death, he could unlock a superhuman level of focus. His mind transcended human limitations. That intense focus amplified every other ability he possessed. That was the secret. But a wave of bitterness hit him. What was the point? He had no more battles to fight. His focus and immortality were just useless decorations now. It felt like a cruel joke, as if fate was shoving him back onto the battlefield. Finally, it was time for the aura level test. Focus on the marble sphere, the instructor directed. He placed his hands on the cold surface. An interesting device. Back in his day, things were different. They could only estimate aura through weapons. Yu Hyun-soo stepped forward. Aura is determined by innate talent, he explained. That is why we prioritize this measurement for all rising stars. Seo Mun-Yeop recalled his own stats. When he first awakened his scanner eyes, his aura was 96. He had done everything to gain those last 4 points. He hovered his hand over the sphere. Tension filled the room. The observers leaned in, holding their breath. How high would the legend's aura climb? His aura sat at a perfect 100. He focused, channeling that raw energy straight into the sphere. 100 was the absolute limit for humanity. But as the measurement finished, the sphere began to change color. The instructor stared in sheer disbelief. The panel flashed a number that shouldn't exist. 1030. Well, what's the result? Munyop asked casually. Hyun-soo stammered, his voice trembling. You just shattered the highest human record. Shockwaves rippled through the observers. A confident grin spread across Seo Mun-Yeop's face. He flashed a thumbs up. Who do you think I am? Yu Hyun-soo swallowed hard. The previous record belonged to Seo Lan, one of your fellow 7 heroes. Munyop's expression shifted in surprise. I never thought I'd see that number beaten, Hyun-soo admitted. That girl. She possessed a monstrous amount of aura. Munyop chuckled at the memory. Her mental fortitude was weak, but her ego? Enormous. They used to argue constantly because of it. The testing phase concluded. There is one more thing, Hyun-soo said gravely. Munyop raised an eyebrow. What is it? Your immortality skill, Hyun-soo began. It is banned from official matches. Munyop nodded. He expected as much. Automatic victory was hardly fair. The association apologizes for the restriction. We are prepared to offer compensation. Munyop waved his hand dismissively. I don't care about the restriction. He took the money anyway. Then he dropped a bombshell. I don't need immortality to win, anyway. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the city, a fanatic leader addressed a massive crowd. We shall be saved by time's him, asterisk. His voice boomed. The revelation proving our faith has finally arrived. He thrust a document high into the air. Behold, contemplate the glory of our Savior. It was a newspaper article. The headline screamed of Seo Mun-Yeop's immortality, the undeniable proof that he was their Messiah. The crowd erupted in ecstasy, chanting his name. Seo Mun-Yeop, Seo Mun-Yeop. It was time to prove their devotion. Later, as Munyop exited the building, a sea of hooded figures blocked his path. Seo Mun-Yeop paused, blinking in confusion. Who the hell are these guys? The crowd roared in unison. Savior, hero, the one who will deliver the world from destruction, his companion sighed. That is the Seo Mun-Yeop Foundation, a pseudo-religion that worships you as a living god. Seo Mun-Yeop Foundation? He muttered the name, searching his memory. Then it clicked. Wait, I saw them outside the hospital. His companion nodded grimly. The very same. They believe the apocalypse is returning, the man explained, and that you have returned to save the chosen ones. Seo Mun-Yeop calls them insane, but his companion grimly notes that he thought the same thing until Munyop actually rose from the dead. Now these fanatics wander around with blissful smiles, eagerly awaiting the apocalypse. Munyop decides to teach these lunatics a violent lesson, but his companion blocks his path, begging him to just let it go. But Munyop ignores the plea and charges forward. With a powerful leap, he lands atop a high wall, looking down on the swarming masses. With the authority of a king, he roars for absolute silence. Yet the crowd continues to scream for salvation, forcing him to bellow again, asking if they are all deaf. Finally, a hush falls over the area, and he notes with satisfaction that they have shut up. He addresses the sea of people, claiming he perfectly understands their emotions, which only prompts them to frantically chant Savior once more. Seo Mun-Yeop points a finger of judgment at the crowd. He orders them to quit the nonsense and vanish immediately, branding them all as raving lunatics. The hooded followers freeze, visibly stunned by their idol's harsh rejection. He demands to know if they are jobless, and screams for the leader of this foundation to step forward, threatening to tear him apart. But the crowd begins to whisper, twisting his logic. They believe the Savior is pushing them away only to test the strength of their faith. United in delusion, they resolve to prove their devotion, leaving Seo Mun-Yeop utterly baffled. Suddenly, thousands of voices begin chanting Seo Mun-Yeop in perfect unison. He wonders what kind of brain rot infects these people as the chanting intensifies. His companion watches the escalating madness and realizes the situation has gone critical. Munyop gives them a ruthless ultimatum, 10 seconds to scatter, or he starts breaking bones. Time's up. He dives into the crowd like a wrecking ball while his companion screams for restraint. Moments later, several Foundation members lie unconscious on the pavement. Sitting atop a throne of piled bodies, he grabs a terrified boy and asks if he still wants to follow him. The boy shakes his head, tears streaming down his face. Munyop advises the kid to ignore these cultists and tells him to be careful on his way down. He hops off the mountain of groaning bodies, dusting off his hands. He declares the trash sorted and tells his partner it's time to resume training. His companion calls out to him. Munyop turns, asking what he wants, only to be told he is the craziest person alive. Munyop takes it as a compliment and points to his followers as the real psychos. Worried that the reporters might return to catch this scene, his companion suggests they retreat inside. But Munyop shrugs, claiming if the press returns, he will simply assault them and send them packing too. The elder warns that violence only attracts more flies. However, Seo Mun-Yeop reveals this was exactly how he purged the stalkers who dug into his orphanage days. Meanwhile, one of the followers who was punted into the sky soars over the city, screaming and questioning if this man is truly their savior. Munyop grumbles, unable to grasp why people are so obsessed with the lives of others, and his companion can only nod in agreement. Suddenly, Munyop freezes in his tracks, prompting his friend to ask what is wrong. A strange energy ripples from a distant building. Seo Mun-Yeop dismisses it as nothing, and the scene shifts to the day of the charity match at Incheon International Airport. The arrival of Joe Feldman, the legendary American field agent, triggers a massive commotion. The crowd buzzes with excitement, realizing the world's heavyweights have arrived for Seo Mun-Yeop's match. Feldman remarks that it has been 15 years since his last visit, noting that the U.S. field agency only achieved dominance by recruiting waves of Korean Espers. His assistant sighs, lamenting the loss of Mr. Baek, a true diamond in the rough. But Feldman corrects her, explaining that in the beginning, none of the 7 heroes had any interest in the battlefield. She adds that young Soo-an showed some interest, but quit the moment her Esper rating was downgraded. Feldman recalls the footage of Soo-an's avatar test with a shudder. He notes that her extinction ray at full power would have ended an 11-on-11 match in 3 seconds flat. He clenches his fist with burning determination. Since this is the chance to recruit the strongest Esper on Earth, he swears he will not let Seo Mun-Yeop slip through his fingers. His assistant interrupts his monologue, pointing toward a group of reporters swarming nearby. Suddenly, Joe Feldman's focus is snapped away by an approaching figure. Jake Rand, the top European field agent, has entered the airport, instantly locking eyes with Feldman. Rand strides forward and offers a greeting to his American rival. He suggests a fair and honest competition, but Feldman knows better. As camera flashes erupt around them, the tension spikes. Feldman refuses to let his prize be stolen. Elsewhere in the shadows, 2 men observe the standoff. One mentions that the man responsible for destroying their dungeon business is finally venturing onto the public battlefield. The Moreau brothers, owners of the infamous Paris Lumiere Battlefield Club, decide they cannot simply ignore Seo Mun-Yeop. With greedy enthusiasm, they declare they will force him to sign with them at any cost. The 3 powerful factions now face off in the airport lobby. Glances clash like swords, determination burning in every eye. A palpable pressure crushes the air between them. None are willing to lose Seo Mun-Yeop to the others. Sudden, the sharp click of high heels echoes through the hall, silencing the room. The continent's untouchable queen has arrived. A walking tactical weapon makes her grand entrance. The youngest of the 7 heroes, Soo-an, reveals she is only here to see a certain boy she knows. Meanwhile, at the event location, a massive crowd gathers under a sky lit by fireworks, and someone remarks on how suffocatingly packed the arena has become. Inside the roaring arena, a spectator gripes that the global population didn't drop enough during the war, only to be sharply reprimanded by a bystander. The first man scoffs with zero remorse, but he is warned to watch his tongue, since this is a legendary event. Suddenly, a sleek limousine pulls up to the red carpet. The passenger murmurs that he will consider the advice as he prepares to exit the vehicle. Seo Mun-Yeop steps out of the luxury car and strides onto the red carpet. A confident smile plays on his lips as he declares it is finally time to have some fun. The crowd erupts into a frenzy of cheers, leaving Baek Je-ho bewildered as to why the masses are so obsessed with a guy like him. Munyop smirks, claiming it is all thanks to Je-ho's hard work in making him look presentable. Suddenly, reporters swarm them like vultures, begging for a quote from the legend. Baek Je-ho immediately shoves Munyop toward the hungry press pack. He hisses a warning to keep his mouth shut and not say anything psychotic. Surrounded on all sides, Munyop grows annoyed at being used as live bait. A reporter thrusts a mic in his face, demanding answers about the attack on the Seo Mun Foundation followers. The interrogation is relentless, covering his violent altercations and his feelings on the match. Then, they drop a bomb. Shulan has arrived after 17 years. Munyop is visibly shaken at the mention of Shulan's name. The reporter confirms the Chinese hero landed in Korea today, specifically to watch the charity match. Munyop questions why she would bother coming. The reporter explains she is here to find a specific boy she knows who is participating in the match. A cold realization hits him like a truck. When she says boy, there is a very high probability she is referring to him. He nervously taps the wall as he escapes into the corridor. As he passes, other competitors whisper in awe, wondering if the skills of the living statue live up to the legend. Approaching Baek Je-ho, he keeps his voice low and asks if his old friend heard the breaking news. Je-ho confirms that Shulan is indeed in Korea, noting that the day of reckoning has finally come. A colleague grimly advises Munyop to carry a physical shield everywhere he goes. Munyop scratches his head, recalling he was a bit rude to her in the past. Je-ho corrects the record, reminding him that he used to curse at her until she broke down in tears. Munyop doubts she would seek petty revenge after all this time, but he nervously wonders if she might use her annihilation ray on him. Je-ho offers no comfort, unsure if time heals that kind of trauma. Je-ho then twists the knife, reminding him that he hasn't changed a bit from the guy who used to torment her relentlessly. The words trigger a memory, transporting his mind back 17 years to the height of the chaotic era. The flashback reveals the Chinese Esper Shulan, one of the 7 legendary heroes chosen to conquer the final dungeon. As the only daughter of a powerful dynasty, she possessed immense abilities and lived under strict government protection. The 17-year-old girl was raised like fragile royalty. But that fragile nature, the type to cry over failure, was exactly what Seo Mun-Yeop despised the most. That is why Munyop tormented her without mercy. He would scream at her to think before acting and ask if her head was merely a decoration. He mocked her reflexes and poked her forehead, demanding to know why she refused to unleash her powers when ordered. Munyop claimed a headless chicken would be a better teammate and demanded she at least use her Esper abilities properly. The young girl could only tremble as she stared into his furious eyes. Back in the present, Baek Jeho and his colleague shake their heads in pity, predicting they will soon need to organize a second funeral for him. Jeho decides to save the mourning for later. They have a much more urgent matter to deal with right now. He turns to the assembled group of players and commands their attention. He begins briefing them on the mechanics of the charity match, assuming they know the basics. However, since there is a completely new variable on the battlefield, Jeho quickly runs through the match procedure one more time. This charity showdown will be a clash between Team Love and Team Hope. Team Love consists of the current national selection, while Team Hope is a squad of invited players, with the notable exception of Baek Hayan. In a twist, Team Hope will have the national team coach, Baek Jeho, on their roster. And of course, the legendary Seo Mun-Yeop joins the fray. Jeho admits he is worried since it has been ages since he held a weapon, but he humbly asks the team to cover for his rustiness. The captain of Team Hope, Park Chul-ho, bows respectfully and assures the legend they will do their utmost to support him. Munyop observes his friend, knowing that even rusty, Jeho is 1,000 times better than these rookies. He analyzes the data of Jeho and Baek Hayan, concluding the three of them can carry the match. The rest of the team, however, is completely unimpressive trash. Suddenly, his analytical gaze locks onto one specific player. He scans Choi Hyuk's data while the rookie politely asks the coach for guidance. His special abilities are Focused Aura, which concentrates energy into a weapon, and Reinforced Durability. His maximum strength is a staggering 90. Munyop realizes this kid could be a top-tier tanker and immediately calls him over. Choi Hyuk formally introduces himself as a proximity dealer. Munyop blinks, asking if he heard correctly, and the young man proudly confirms he is a dealer for the Samsung Spirits. The boy explains that he originally dreamed of being a tanker, just like the legendary Seo Mun-Yeop. However, he was forced to become a dealer solely because of his short physical stature. When asked about his Esper ability, Choi Hyuk claims he can only focus aura on weapons to attack. Munyop instantly realizes the tragedy the kid has not awakened his reinforced durability yet. In a flashback, a foolish coach tells young Choi Hyuk he is too small and fast to tank. The incompetent man seals the boy's fate, designating him as a dealer and wasting his true potential. Back in the present, Seo Mun-Yeop barks an order to Hayan. She scrambles, dashing off to fetch him a proper shield. Meanwhile, Munyop tosses a heavy pot lid to Choi Hyuk. Here, hold this. There is no time for gentle lectures. Munyop drills the basics instantly. Lock that shield to your chest. Move with purpose. Attack, then retreat. The lesson is brutal and fast. Choi Hyuk panic, stammering. But I'm a damage dealer, not a tank. Munyop cuts him off with a single icy glare. Did I give you permission to talk back? The gallery watches in stunned silence. Is he insane? He's completely changing the position of a pro player he met 5 minutes ago. Desperate, Choi Hyuk turns to Baek Jeho, begging for salvation with his eyes. But the coach is stone cold. Baek Jeho ignores the silent plea and drops the bombshell formation. 4 tankers, 6 dealers, 1 support. The realization hits Choi Hyuk like a truck he has been abandoned by his own coach. As he crumbles into despair, Baek Jeho claps his hands. All right, suit up. It is time for war. In the locker room, Munyop tests the armor. It is impossibly light. Baek Jeho nods, confirming the specs. It has the durability of war-era heavy plating. Comfortable? How are you doing? Baek Jeho asks. Munyop pauses, adjusting the fit. It feels alien. He never imagined he would wear a regulation uniform again. Baek Jeho hands over the weapons, his eyes gleaming. Don't worry. We only made slight adjustments to the originals. They will sing in your hands. Munyop grips his shield, inspecting the weight and balance. It is perfect. His eyes light up as he checks the spear's hidden mechanism. Clean work. Baek Jeho smirks proudly. We paid special attention to that detail. They are historical weapons that save the world, Baek Jeho muses. Munyop scoffs. Historical? I used these less than a year ago. To the world, it is history. To him, it was yesterday. Baek Jeho's expression hardens. Don't get cocky. You are strong, but you fought monsters and burrowers. These kids? They are bred to kill times humans, times in the arena. Their game sense is different. Munyop flashes a confident, predatory grin. I will remember that, Coach Baek. He shoots a thumbs up, eyes burning with anticipation to test these so-called pros. Outside, the stadium erupts. The legend is back. The giant screens flash. Team Hope versus Team Love. Down on the field, the pressure is palpable. One player whispers that up close, the national team looks terrifyingly different. Munyop scans the opposition like a hawk. High stats, he mutters. But boring. They look mediocre. No wild cards, no special talents. He glances at Baek Jae-ho. You score players when recruiting, don't you? The coach nods. We analyze a final aggregate score across all categories. A teammate chimes in, explaining the flaw in that system. Since it is based on general averages, he whispers. The opposing team is full of jacks of all trades. They don't have anyone with legendary talent in a specific area. Sudden movement catches Munyop's eye. He spots a young man in the center of the enemy formation, casually chewing gum. Munyop's analysis skill triggers. The kid's overall levels are decent, but his focus stat? Absolute garbage. Another rich family's brat? Munyop wonders aloud. The kid catches him staring. What are you looking at, old man? Recognition flickers in the young man's eyes. It is Shim Young-soo. He realizes he is standing before the legendary Seo Mun-Yeop. Shim Young-soo sneers, remembering Munyop's commentary during the America match. You said I didn't know the battlefield, he spits. Bold words for a retiree. Munyop signals a teammate. Switch with me. Now. He steps right up to Shim Young-soo's face. You seem to have a big problem with me, kid. Young-soo puffs his chest. Yeah. I didn't like your attitude during the last match. Pretending to know everything when you haven't played in years? It's a bad look, Young-soo mocks. Munyop just chuckles. A low, dangerous sound. What's so funny? The rookie snaps. Munyop leans in, his voice calm. Quick question. What does your daddy do? Young-soo blinks. He is the association vice president. Why? The siren blares throughout the arena, L players to the field. Munyop grins. All right, daddy's boy, let's play. He turns to leave, but Young-soo grabs his arm. What did you call me? And why ask about my father? Munyop shakes him off. I was just curious what kind of man raises an idiotic bastard like you. His eyes turn cold. Munyop lived through hell. He has zero patience for spoiled children who have never known true struggle. With a dark smirk, Munyop flips a rude hand gesture. Thanks, kid. You just gave me a reason to actually try. He points a finger at Young-soo's throat. You are dead meat. The announcer screams. Seo Mun-Yeop. The name echoes through the stadium, shaking the very foundations. The moment the world has waited for is here. The hero has finally entered the arena as a player. The commentators are losing their minds. Despite being a charity game, the viewership numbers are shattering records. This is unparalleled. The VIP box is stacked with legends. Gerald Walker from the U.S. national team. Super agents Joe Fellman and Jake Rand. Everyone is watching. Even Sulan of the Seven Heroes and the infamous Morrow brothers have tuned in. The charity match begins now. The holographic map materializes. The battlefield for the first match. The Spiral Cave of Aza. It is a complex 3-ring dungeon, laced with secret passages and crawling with skeleton arachnids and basilisk serpents. A clash of generations. Team Love, the current national elites, versus Team Hope, led by the myth from 17 years ago. Flashback to 10 minutes prior. The strategy room. Munyop points to the map. We spawn in Zone 5. They are in Zone 1. Opposite sides. The main squad hunts in Sector 5-2, he commands. But I'm going to Sector 5-3, solo. I'm taking the boss serpent myself. Killing the serpent collapses the tunnel, Baek Jae-ho warns. We need perfect synchronization. Munyop smirks, cracking his knuckles. Relax. I'll take it easy on them. Their strategy is set. After obliterating Zone 6, they will utilize the hidden passage to breach the smaller inner circle. That choke point marks their first true collision with the enemy. It is there that Baek Jae-ho and Seo Mun-Yeop will hold the line against the opposition. For a powerhouse like Seo Mun-Yeop, a head-on clash guarantees victory. But Baek Jae-ho has become cautious as a coach, preferring safety over glory. In this best-of-3 showdown, the first round is merely a warm-up. It gives Seo Mun-Yeop the perfect chance to dissect the battlefield. Zone 5-1, Team Hope's starting point. Inside the gloom of a cavern, the squad assembles. The captain barks orders, commanding everyone into formation. Baek Hyun, the devastating main damage dealer, secures the rear guard position. Baek Jae-ho, the support dealer, readies his weapon. Beside him stands the legendary tank, Seo Mun-Yeop. Every frontline defender, including Cho-huk, rallies around their ace. Seo Mun-Yeop cracks a grin, greeting an unseen presence in the dark. It has been a long time. A teammate points a trembling finger upward. The cave ceiling is alive. Thousands of spiders writhe in the darkness, a nightmare waiting to drop. Meanwhile, in Zone 11, Team Love begins their slaughter. Captain Chae Woo-hyun barks a command. ordering Yongsu to engage the Arachne. Yongsu unleashes his power. The strike lands with devastating precision, slamming the beast into the dirt. Shim Yongsu, the ace damage dealer of Team Love, resets his stance. He is just getting started. The inevitable clash between Shim Yongsu and Seo Mun-Yeop is the match's true core. As a monster falls behind him, Yongsu scoffs, questioning the fated glory of the seven heroes. He unleashes a torrential combo of attacks, screaming for his enemies to perish. He vows that Seo Mun-Yeop will fall by his hand today. But Seo Mun-Yeop ignores the noise, signaling Baek Je-ho. Time to move. He explodes forward, tearing across the battlefield. Launching himself skyward, he becomes a whirlwind of destruction. He spins mid-air, carving a bloody path through the monster horde. Baek Je-ho joins the fray, his weapon flashing as he engages the enemy. A creature spits a vile acid stream. Je-ho shouts a warning, but Seo Mun-Yeop is one step ahead. He slams his shield down, surfing the impact and negating the fall. Caught it, he smirks. Baek Je-ho continues the massacre, slicing through beasts on all sides. The commentators lose their minds, witnessing the return of the legendary duo. The crowd erupts. These Arachnes are nightmare fuel in groups, yet the duo obliterated them in seconds. Baek Je-ho signals the ceiling is clear, groaning and clutching his back like an old man. But the swarm isn't finished. More spiders crawl forth. These two? He asks. Without a word, the duo moves in perfect, lethal synchronization. Cho-hook watches in awe. Arachnes aren't high-tier monsters, but their iron-hard carapaces usually render standard attacks useless. Yet Seo Mun-Yeop crushes them like insects. He doesn't even slow down, already locking onto his next victim. Seo Mun-Yeop's grip tightens on his spear. Cho-hook realizes the legend is using his arts. Inspired, he channels focused aura into his own shield. It feels foreign, awkward in his hands. But he pushes forward, desperate to test the technique on live prey. He strikes. The monster counters instantly, but Cho-hook raises his shield. The focused aura flares, absorbing the blow. From a distance, Seo Mun-Yeop watches the rookie's growth. A proud smile touches his lips. "I can't let you have all the fun," he murmurs. Suddenly, a massive Arachne bursts forth, charging with killing intent. Seo Mun-Yeop stands like a fortress. He catches the beast's charge on his shield, then explodes forward, driving his spear deep into its gut. The monster screeches, reeling from the impact. But Seo Mun-Yeop shows no mercy. With a thunderous crush, he obliterates the creature's torso. In the stands, the Moro brothers go wild. They recognize it instantly, the 100 Sims throw, Seo Mun-Yeop's signature ultimate. Su Ryun confirms the legend. Su Ryun explains the terror of the technique. To the untrained eye, it looks like a simple, common spear thrust. But in reality, he throws the spear at terminal velocity, catching it again before it travels even 100 units. The result? A kinetic impact far beyond human limits, generating momentum that defies physics. The timing requires godlike precision. One slip means death. Yet, Seo Mun-Yeop executes it as naturally as breathing air. Su Ryun sighs, admitting that 17 years ago or today, Seo Mun-Yeop is just plain annoying. Back in the fight, Munyop glances at Baek Je-ho. "Is your side clean yet?" A shadow looms behind Cho-hook. The creature strikes from the blind spot, but the tank is ready. Seo Mun-Yeop flashes in, intercepting the blow. "I'm in a hurry," he growls. Vaulting over the beast, he delivers the execution strike. As the monster falls, he checks his imaginary watch. "I have an appointment. Can't be late." Zone 51 is secured. The captain praises the squad, turning to give the next order, but Seo Mun-Yeop is gone. Cho-hook speaks up nervously. He went to clear Zone 53. He said to follow him. The captain sighs, but nods. Seo Mun-Yeop is impulsive, but never reckless. Trusting the legend's instincts, he orders the team forward to Zone 52. The scene shifts to Zone 53. The very air trembles. Standing alone, Seo Mun-Yeop stares down the zone boss, the serpent. "Feels like we fought just yesterday," he quips. His playful demeanor vanishes, replaced by absolute suffocating focus. The real battle begins now. He taunts the beast into combat. The monster roars and charges in a straight line of destruction. Seo Mun-Yeop slides across the floor, locking into his stance. He plants his shield, bracing for the inevitable crash. He stands like an iron wall. With a savage upward strike, Munyop shatters the serpent's jaw in one go. He doesn't let up the pressure for a second. Turning with a smirk, he asks his team if they finally decided to show up. He scoffs, remarking that he thought they would take forever. The squad stares in disbelief. He just soloed the boss without breaking a sweat. He lectures them on the meta. The match system is about farming points for power, and right now, they are starving for them. Time to move. He separates from the main group, signaling Baek Je-ho and Baek Hayan to follow his lead. Munyop reveals a master plan. The elite trio breaks off, stealthily invading Team Amor's hunting zone while dodging mob aggro. Munyop muses to himself. That serpent nearly crumbled from a single critical hit. He breaks down the math. Hunting small fry like arachnes is a waste of time. They need big points to win. Baek Jeho hesitates. Is this 110-point logic really affecting his judgment? He presses Munyop for answers. They are closing in on Team Amor. Where are the orders? Munyop reveals the target. Shim Yong-soo. High skill, but a fragile mentality that cracks under pressure. It is a conditional play. If Yong-soo is absent, they observe. But if he is there, the trap springs immediately. Elsewhere, Team Amor makes their move. Captain Choi Woo-hyun splits his forces between zones 9 and 11 to maximize efficiency. The order is given. In Zone 9, the 5-man squad engages a new wave of beasts, unaware of the predator watching them. Shim Yong-soo unleashes his power. He crushes one of the creatures with a devastating blow. He smirks, convinced his point-hoarding strategy is perfect. Arrogantly, he mentally challenges Munyop while commanding his squad to advance. He dreams of one-shotting Munyop. Suddenly, a warning cry rings out. Too late. A shield slams into him like a freight train. He stumbles back, clutching his face. The reality of the hit sinks in. A spear grazed him. It was not an accident. It is a calculated ambush by the enemy team. Chaos erupts in Zone 11. Munyop materializes from the shadows, striking Team Amor before they can even blink. His squad rises from the dead angles behind the fallen players. The entire battlefield freezes in shock. Flashback to the strategy room. Munyop had ordered the main force to flank the enemy immediately after the serpent fell. His order was absolute. Fight to the death against the national team. He promised to reinforce them the moment he could. Now, the team marches forward across the battlefield with burning determination. Baek Jeho grunts. The throw was blocked. Munyop grins, telling him to go easy on the rookies for now. Luck is for the weak. Jeho demands to be thrown at once. Munyop obliges, gripping his teammate like a human weapon. With a roar, he launches Baek Jeho through the air like a missile. He follows up instantly. The shield flies from his hand with terrifying force, trailing right behind the living projectile. Perfect synchronization. In midair, Jeho catches the shield to amplify his impact velocity. The enemy captain panics. He screams to protect Yong-soo, and the team collapses inward to shield their ace. Bait taken. Baek Jeho blinks past them, teleporting to smash the unsuspecting tanks instead. Target the tank, they scream. Jeho takes a heavy hit from the blind side amidst the chaos. Team Amor smells blood. They order a relentless assault to finish him before his teleport cooldown resets. Father! Baek Hayan screams. Her whip snaps out, dragging him to safety as she dives into the fray. She dances through the air. Using the whip as a tether, she slingshots herself toward the enemy lines. Munyop steps in, deflecting the kill shot meant for Jeho. Was that exciting? He teases. Jeho just glares in disdain. The enemy tanks are down. The trio regroups. Munyop smirks. Now it is a proper 3-on-3 brawl. The remnants of Team Amor steel themselves. The dynamic has shifted completely. Pick your prey, Munyop commands. Shim Yong-soo steps forward, rage burning in his eyes against the challenge. The stadium erupts. Commentators lose their minds over the fake-out play that eliminated 2 defenders in one stroke. They recognize the signature style. This is Seo Mun-Yeop's legendary opening move, controlling the spear to dictate the flow. A true tactician utilizing every common ability to its god-tier potential. But before the commentary can finish, Munyop launches Baek Jeho into the air once again. Baek Hayan bursts forward, closing the distance on Shim Yong-soo like a predator. Hot on their heels, the final survivor of Team Amor scrambles to catch up. Nathan Bernard launches a surprise strike from the shadows. But Hayan leaps away with lightning reflexes. Suddenly, a looming presence appears behind Shim Yong-soo. It is Seo Mun-Yeop. Asterisk crack. Asterisk. Yeop slams his shield directly into Young-soo's face. Before the fool can recover, Yeop hurls the shield, crushing him to the ground in a single brutal motion. The legend steps calmly over his fallen prey. Panic spreads through the opposing side. They realize with horror that their entire 5-man squad has been wiped out. Team Amor's captain stares in disbelief. How could they lose everyone so fast? Frustration boils over as the situation spirals completely out of his control. Desperate to turn the tides, he screams for an all-out assault. On the front lines, Choi Hyuk braces himself against the oncoming storm. Time slows as Hyuk recalls the training. In his mind, Seo Mun-Yeop demonstrates the ultimate defense. Hold your ground, the lesson echoes. Back in reality, Hyuk executes the technique perfectly. The weapon clangs uselessly against his guard. But the enemy spots a split-second gap in his stance. Too slow, Hyuk weaves through the rapid-fire strikes with unexpected grace. Amor's captain is stunned. How does an improvised tank possess such an impenetrable defense? Refusing to accept it, the captain unleashes his own devastating attack. He aims to crush this so-called fake tank once and for all. The captain lunges for the final blow, and Hyuk rushes to intercept. But a flash of steel cuts between them. Seo Mun-Yeop intervenes, instantly taking down the enemy leader. Not bad, kid. Yeop grins, acknowledging the rookie's grit. Now, step back and let the pros handle the cleanup. We end this in 5 minutes. True to his word, Team Hope dominates the first set, 8-0. The crowd goes wild as Baek Jae-ho is crowned the match's MVP. Back in the waiting room, excitement explodes. A teammate rushes in, praising the coach for the incredible play calls. Surrounded by his cheering squad, Baek Jae-ho is told he belongs in the pro leagues. He smiles humbly, soaking in the admiration. At my age, it's a bit embarrassing, he laughs. But a spark lights up his eyes, wielding a weapon after 17 years. It felt exhilarating. His gaze shifts to the corner of the room. Seo Mun-Yeop sits alone, detached from the celebration. Jae-ho knows the truth. None of this glory would exist without that man. Unbothered by the noise, Yeop is glued to his tablet. A cheesy line from a drama plays. Love returns. He scoffs. Ridiculous. The break is over. The commentators announce the second set's battlefield. A complex nightmare of shifting rooms and treacherous stairs. The holographic map flickers to life. It is the infamous labyrinth of the condemned. A graveyard that claimed countless Espers. Until Seo Mun-Yeop conquered it. As the history weighs on the audience, both teams march into position. Tension fills the air. Who will survive the maze? Across the stage, Chae Woo-hyun glares daggers at Yeop. Since returning, Yeop thinks, I only attract trouble. The media trying to manipulate him. The fanatics worshipping him like a god. And the fools like Shim Young-soo testing his patience. They doubt me? Yeop slides his visor down, his eyes hardening. Fine. I'll show them exactly who I am. A chilling smile creeps onto his face. Brace yourselves. This will be far more terrifying than you can imagine. At Team Hope's spawn point, Jae-ho begins briefing the squad on the layout. But a voice cuts through the strategy session. I'm going solo, Yeop announces flatly. You guys figure out the rest. Jae-ho is stunned. Do you even remember the path from the clear? Yeop looks back, almost insulted. Remember it? I'm the one who designed this map. But it's been a year, Jae-ho presses. Has the structure shifted? No, Yeop answers instantly. It's exactly the same. Don't overdo it, the captain warns. Yeop waves him off. Worrying is a waste of energy. Just prepare to be shocked. His aura shifts. This time, he's serious. If Team Immortal started opposite us, I know exactly where they are. With a burst of speed, he vanishes into the maze. Hayan watches him leave, anxious. Is Uncle Yeop safe on his own? Jae-ho sighs, but his voice is firm. When it comes to dungeons, his judgment is absolute. He definitely has a plan, Jae-ho assures her. Hayan's eyes sparkle. Uncle really is amazing. But the moment she turns away, Jae-ho's face drops. Asterisk. Does he actually have a plan, or is he just winging it? Asterisk. Yup, he screams internally. But the legend is already deep in the dungeon. He sprints through the corridor, deflecting hidden traps with effortless shield work. He slides across the stone floor, narrowly dodging a blade. From the shadows, 2 skeleton warriors rise, their bones rattling with dark magic. Yeop skids to a halt, shifting into his combat stance. A smirk touches his lips. Now this. This brings back memories. Good to see you boys again. He launches himself into the fray. Dodging a lethal swing, he spins midair, his spear striking like a viper. He lands, instantly blocking a dual assault. Asterisk, clang, asterisk. Using the shield's edge, he bashes an enemy aside and doesn't stop moving. Suddenly, a massive skeletal hand grips him from behind. With superhuman force, the monster hurls him into the abyss. Yeop flies through the dark expanse of the labyrinth. He enters the void, a zone with no floor, where gravity crushes down 10 times harder. Yet, he navigates the empty space like a bird in a storm. He slams into a distant wall. Instead of falling, he uses the impact to launch himself forward again. He catches a protruding beam, swinging wildly to gain momentum. Yeop grins maniacally. Thanks for the lift. This is the perfect shortcut. Asterisk, boom, asterisk. He lands heavily, shield raised, directly in the path of Team Immortal. The enemy freezes. Less than 10 minutes. And the Reaper is already at their throats. Seo Mun-Yeop stands amidst the chaos, his voice dripping with arrogance. He informs his victims that his analysis of their weaknesses was completed long ago during the very first match. The dust settles, revealing the predator preparing for the hunt. With a cold stare, he tells the mediocre players to make their peace, for they are already dead men walking. Panic erupts in the enemy ranks. Team Love's captain, Chae Woo-hyun, screams for order, demanding an immediate retreat. He is convinced that a monster like Munyop could not possibly be alone. Munyop pursues the fleeing prey, amused by their desperate scramble. He admits that retreating was a sound tactical decision, but their assumption about him having backup was a fatal error. He decides to take it as a compliment. Since a direct clash would end the game too quickly, he resolves to toy with them just a little longer. A terrifying light flashes in his eyes. His scanning ability activates, locking onto the heat signatures of the terrified players scattering before him. He processes the data instantly, discarding the small fry one by one. Finally, his gaze locks onto a target. With a fluid motion, he launches his spear, the weapon finding its mark with a sickening crunch. The victim doesn't even have time to scream before disintegrating into pixels. The system voice booms across the arena, announcing Seo Mun-Yeop's first brutal elimination. Munyop reaches out instinctively, satisfied. He knew from the trajectory that the player had zero chance of dodging that lethal strike. A momentary frown crosses his face as he realizes he can't retrieve his weapon yet. But the rest of the herd has fled. Gazing at the towering structure above, he decides to claim the high ground. Elsewhere in the maze, Team Love huddles together in a secluded corner, gasping for air as they try to regroup from the sudden assault. Chae Woo-hyun curses their luck, furious at being ambushed. However, a teammate grumbles that they should have stood their ground, arguing that Munyop was clearly operating solo. The captain snaps back, his voice edged with fear. He explains there was no way to confirm the enemy's numbers in that chaos, and now they must watch every shadow. Up in the commentary booth, the casters watch in awe. Seo Mun-Yeop has scaled the architecture, and the world holds its breath, wondering what insanity he is plotting next. His mind works like a supercomputer. He calculates their movement speed and the time elapsed since their retreat, concluding that this vantage point offers the perfect angle for destruction. A wicked smile spreads across Seo Mun-Yeop's face. He deduces their location with terrifying accuracy. A 50% chance, he muses, gripping his spear. Those are odds I'm willing to take. He whispers the word love with mocking tenderness. Muscles coiling like steel cables, he launches the weapon with catastrophic force, shouting that their love is being returned. The spear becomes a blur of motion. It streaks through the labyrinth's complex geometry, a missile of pure kinetic energy seeking its target. The structure groans as the projectile tears through the ceiling. Below, the members of Team Love look up in horror, sensing the calamity descending from the heavens. The spear slams into the center of their formation with the force of a meteor. Chae Woo-hyun stares blankly at the weapon quivering in the cratered floor, unable to comprehend the impossible trajectory. The commentators lose their minds. They scream into their microphones, declaring that an unbelievable, defying all logic scene has just unfolded before their eyes. The system chimes coldly, confirming Seo Mun-Yeop's second kill. High above, the hunter grins, noting that his gamble on the 50% probability paid off beautifully. The narrators are in a frenzy. They proclaim this moment as legend, the most impressive long-range elimination in the entire history of the Korean battlefield. Dust and debris swirl around the survivors of Team Love. They stand frozen, their morale shattered by an attack that defied the laws of physics. Shim Young-soo snaps. He roars that he is done running like a coward. He asserts that Munyop is definitely alone and demands they turn and fight. Chae Woo-hyun tries to restrain the hothead, but Young-soo is past reasoning. He argues that while they cower in fear, the enemy is picking them off like fish in a barrel. The captain tries to explain the strategy, insisting that splitting their diminished forces now would be suicide. But Young-soo ignores him, demanding to know the actual plan of attack. Suddenly, a voice drips from the darkness above. Seo Mun-Yeop lands on a beam, mocking their internal conflict and calling them a pathetic bunch of cowards. Young-soo's temper explodes. He threatens to roast the arrogant intruder alive, but a teammate urgently warns him to conserve his spiritual energy for the critical moment. Irritated by the leash, Young-soo asks if they actually want to lose. His hand ignites with roaring flames, and he hurls a devastating fire blast toward the voice. The explosion rocks the corridor, scorching the wall where Seo Mun-Yeop had been standing. Shim Young-soo smirks triumphantly, bragging that he knew the rat was hiding there. Over here, idiot. The voice comes from behind. Young-soo spins around in shock, looking up to see the real Seo Mun-Yeop standing casually on a higher ledge. Munyop tilts his head, eyes full of mockery. He asks if Young-soo really thought he was clumsy enough to make noise by accident, or if he was just being baited. Your acting is terrible, Munyop scoffs before leaping into the shadows. Young-soo stands trembling, unable to believe his attack was read so easily, even as his teammate notes the full power behind the strike. Another teammate swallows hard, analyzing the damage. In terms of raw firepower, Young-soo's ability is strong enough to compete in the major leagues. He concludes that blocking such an attack shouldn't have been easy. The fact that Munyop evaded it so effortlessly means they cannot afford to underestimate him for a second. Chae Woo-hyun makes a hard call. He agrees with Young-soo they need to eliminate the threat now. He orders the three main damage dealers to begin the hunt. The strategy is set. The trio will flank through the west path, feigning a scouting mission, only to ambush Seo Mun-Yeop from his blind spot. Once they secure some hunting points to buff their stats, the remainder of the team will join the fray to crush him with overwhelming numbers. The narrator observes the shift in momentum. Team Love is moving to the offense, but catching a ghost like Seo Mun-Yeop will be easier said than done, because there is one factor they forgot. Seo Mun-Yeop knows every brick, every trap, and every shadow of the labyrinth of the condemned better than anyone alive. From the shadows, he watches the three damage dealers approach. He questions their predictable movement patterns before leaping out, his voice dripping with disappointment. The commentators realize what's happening. Munyop had read their plan like an open book, and now the hunter descends upon Team Love's strongest fighters. He crashes down, slamming his spear into the earth. The impact creates a shockwave, forcing the three opponents to scramble back to avoid being crushed instantly. Seo Mun-Yeop lands gracefully amidst the debris. He looks at his stumbling opponents and offers a condescending praise for their decent reaction speed. Seo Mun-Yeop blocks the attack effortlessly. Analyzing the trio, he realizes the truth: they are all damage dealers with zero defense. A predator's grin spreads across his face. These aren't opponents, they are prey. In a blur of motion, he seizes the first player by the neck. With terrifying force, he hurls him directly into the wall. Asterisk, crash. Asterisk. The system voice rings out cold and clear. Seo Mun-Yeop, third elimination confirmed. He doesn't stop to breathe. Before the dust settles, he pivots to the next target. Using the defeated player's unconscious body like a ragdoll, he launches a ruthless projectile attack. Asterisk. Bam. Asterisk. The human projectile slams into the second opponent. The system chimes again. Fourth elimination. 2 down in seconds. Munyop stalks toward the final hunter, his voice dropping to a whisper. Your turn. Terror seizes the player's heart. His legs shake. Overwhelmed by the monster before him, he turns his back and flees in a desperate sprint for survival. But you can't outrun death. Munyop hurls his spear with sniper-like precision. Asterisk, thwack. Asterisk, fifth elimination confirmed. He pauses, calculating the numbers. Only 6 enemies remain on the field. A dark amusement dances in his eyes. Why drag this out? He decides right then and there to crush the remaining survivors. In one fell swoop, the stadium erupts. The audience can't believe their eyes. 3 national-level players, wiped out in less than 60 seconds. It's absolute insanity. Even the VIP guests in the luxury box are stunned into silence. The speed, the efficiency, it defies all logic. The match ended before it even truly began. The Morrow brothers weigh in on the age-old debate. What happens when a legendary hero faces the modern generation? After the Walker match, and now this? The answer is undeniably clear. Soo-eun watches with bated breath, the realization washing over him. The king hasn't lost his touch. He is truly, undeniably back. While the casters scream about his domination, Baek Jae-ho's voice crackles over the comms, asking about the sudden kill streak. Munyop's reply is chillingly simple. My aura turned red. We're coming to support you, Jae-ho insists, demanding coordinates. Where are you? Zone 31, comes the calm reply. Munyop locks eyes on the distant silhouettes of the remaining enemies. He scoffs at the offer of help. Don't bother. It'll all be over before you even get here. He rises to his full height, cutting the line. I'm going in. Don't interrupt. Jae-ho tries to shout back, but it's too late. Munyop has already vanished, a blur of speed tearing across the map. In the blink of an eye, Munyop crashes the party. He stands before the remnants of Team Love, a relaxed grin on his face. Sorry to keep you waiting. I got here as fast as I could. Panic flares, but Captain Choi Woo-hyun barks orders. Don't lose your heads. Spread out. Maintain formation. The team scatters, executing a rapid encirclement tactic. Munyop watches them fan out, realizing they must have prepared a trap specifically for him. Tension thickens as the members of Team Love lock onto their target. The strategy is obvious. Surround the beast and strike from every angle simultaneously. But Munyop is steps ahead. Even with a 360-degree assault, the first one to reach him will be the one with the highest mobility stats. Just as predicted. A shadow dashes forward. Munyop's eyes narrow, identifying the skill immediately. Instant acceleration. The opponent triggers the skill. For the next 30 seconds, his movement speed breaks the limits of human capability, accelerating continuously. Asterisk clang. Asterisk Munyop parries the strike effortlessly. He admits it's a decent skill, granting a terrifying boost to agility and reflex for a short burst. For half a minute, this kid is faster than any Esper alive. But Munyop sighs. This is exactly why they fail in the International League. They rely on stats, not strategy. Shock paints the attacker's face. How did he dodge? Munyop's inner monologue is brutal. Your body might be fast, kid, but your brain processes fear too slowly. No more games. With a single, devastating blow, Munyop crushes him. The system announcement echoes like a funeral bell. Sixth elimination. Desperation sets in. Choi Woo-hyun screams at the top of his lungs, "Shim Young-soo, use the explosion sphere." Now, Young-soo unleashes a barrage of explosive energy, screaming, "Go to hell." Smoke and debris swallow the arena. Blinded by the chaos, another attacker rushes into the haze. "Get in there, Ji-hun." But the hunter running into the smoke finds nothing but air. Suddenly, death descends from the sky. Munyop strikes from above like a hawk. Asterisk, crunch. Asterisk, seventh elimination. The remaining two freeze, their minds unable to process the violence. Munyop calmly retrieves two spears from the ground, dual-wielding them like a god of war. He doesn't give them time to breathe. In one fluid, lethal motion, he strikes. The system voice overlaps itself. Eighth elimination. Ninth elimination. Silence falls over the immediate area. Munyop steps over the fallen bodies, not even bothering to look back. He lowers his spear, the tip dripping with virtual blood. He stares down the final two survivors. Is this it? Just you two left to entertain me? Choi Woo-hyun and Shim Young-soo are shaking in their boots. The captain bites his lip, realizing the horror this pressure is suffocating. Far worse than their match against France. Munyop scans Choi Woo-hyun. Special ability detected, deceleration. A crowd control skill. Not a bad trick, Munyop sneers. But compared to the monsters overseas, your Esper ability is mediocre at best. He glances at the trembling Young-soo. I'll handle this garbage myself. What did you say? Before the captain can react, Munyop closes the distance. The predator lunges for the throat. The clash is over in an instant. System update. Seo Mun-Yeop, 10th elimination. He turns his cold gaze to the trembling Young-soo. So, you're the final rat? Stay back. Young-soo stumbles backward, terror consuming him. But realizing there's nowhere to run, he screams and charges. Shield raised, he throws everything into one final, desperate tackle. Munyop meets the charge head-on. The impact shockwave ripples through the air. He grabs the tank, lifts him, and slams him into the earth. Asterisk boom. Asterisk 11th elimination. Game over. The commentators lose their minds. History has been made today, folks. For the first time in the history of the Korean battlefield, a single player has achieved an all-kill. It's undeniable. It's impossible. But it happened. In the second set, a lone warrior wiped out the entire opposing team. A legendary all-kill. The stadium shakes with the roar of the crowd. Netizens are blowing up the forums. He didn't just win. He dismantled the entire national team single-handedly. All those experts who claimed he was washed up, that he needed time to adapt, shattered. Seo Mun-Yeop just proved he is in a league of his own. As the dust settles, Munyop walks side by side with Baek Jae-ho across the arena floor. The chant starts low, then becomes a deafening roar, thousands of voices screaming one name in worship. Seo Mun-Yeop spots a drone buzzing overhead and points a finger. What is that thing? Baek Jae-ho sighs, replying dryly that it is obviously a camera. Jae-ho explains the feed is broadcasting live to the entire arena. The moment Munyop's face hits the giant screen, the crowd erupts in thunderous cheers. Realizing millions are watching in real time, he stares dead into the lens and flips the bird. Panic mode. Baek Jae-ho tackles him instantly. Have you lost your mind? But Munyop just grins, a devilish twinkle in his eye. What? It's fun. Desperate to save face, Jae-ho drags the maniac away, before he causes an international incident. Where are we going? Munyop demands, digging his heels in. His brother-in-law doesn't stop dragging him. The MVP interview. Now, under the blinding studio lights, reporter Lee Yoon-gi flashes a professional smile, introducing the stars of the match to the world. She praises their godlike performance, turning first to Baek Jae-ho, the MVP of the first set. Did you expect this level of dominance today? Jae-ho shakes his head humbly. Not at all. He confesses the truth with a heavy sigh. I was practically dragged here by Seo Mun-Yeop's stubbornness. But, he clenches his fist. Fortunately, my body still remembers the art of war. Lee Yoon-gi nods gracefully, thanking him before shifting her sharp focus to the man of the hour. Seo Mun-Yeop, did you anticipate an all-kill today? Without skipping a beat, Munyop smirks. Yes. Once I started, I realized, this is barely a warm-up. Piece of cake. He shrugs casually, leaning back. I actually went easy in the first set just to get the feel of it. Second set? I decided to stop playing nice. The reporter leans in, sensing a headline. Do you have any advice for Team Love? His expression turns cold and analytical. Their synergy is garbage. Positions don't match their aptitudes, and half of them don't even know how to use their own abilities. Don't blame the coach, Munyop adds ruthlessly. This is on the leader. He lacks the eyes to see the battlefield. Would you take the helm then? Munyop scoffs. With that low level? Not interested. A pause. But, depending on the situation, I might change my mind. After all, we live in a capitalist world. Later, in the sleek interior of their car, Munyop glances out the window. Where to now? Post-game party? Jeho answers. Munyop groans loudly. I have a show to catch, but Bak Jeho shuts him down instantly. Forget the TV. Just one night. Everything is such a pain, he mutters, slouching in his seat like a petulant teenager. Jeho sighs. Stop whining. And why did you say that in the interview? He glances sideways. That wasn't a hard no about coaching. Munyop clarifies. I have zero interest in being a player again. But teaching? That might be entertaining. Speaking of which, Munyop asks, why did you become a coach? It's not your style. Jeho grips the wheel tight. Pressure. I didn't have a choice. After 11 years of following your orders, Jeho admits, I thought I could do it. I just tried to copy how you used to teach us. I thought it would be enough. I watched you mold legends like Ambrosia into renowned coaches. I thought I could follow that path. Munyop shakes his head. Fighting today proved it. No one in this country knows how to teach technique properly. Jeho's eyes widen. Then, do you want to be a technical coach? If the pay is good, Munyop grins, money signs practically visible in his eyes. Besides, he adds, his tone softening slightly, I'm only doing this because times the coach. Jeho smiles, grateful. Consider this a free trial, Munyop says. Do exactly as I say. Jeho nods seriously. I'm listening. Put Choi Hyuk as the tanker. Use Yu Bu-ko for the finishing blow, he can't control his own speed yet. And move Ju-hoon to the rear guard. Finally, Munyop's voice drops. Cut the vice president's son. Jeho freezes in shock. Remove Yang-soo? Why do you care about his title? Munyop scoffs. Have you forgotten who I am? I am one of the 7 heroes. But look at the data, Jeho argues. His firepower is insane, and he possesses the strongest aura on the team. We can't just drop him. And what good is power with the focus of a toddler? Munyop counters sharply. You lost today because of him. He is a liability. It's a waste of talent, Jeho insists. No, Munyop corrects. He is unusable until he fixes his mind. So, swap Young-soo for Choi Hyuk? Jeho asks hesitantly. Exactly, Munyop confirms. Focus on Hyuk's strength training, and the results will be instant. The tactical lesson concludes. Munyop leans back, satisfied. Tell the association president, he adds lazily. If he wants to hire me, he better prepare a mountain of cash. The car glides to a halt at the Hunter's Hotel. As they step into the lavish party, the air fills with whispers. Uncle! Baek Hayan sprints over, beaming with excitement. You finally made it. She shoves a glass into his hand. Try the vodka. Munyop raises an eyebrow. You know your booze, kid. I heard it was your favorite, she giggles. So I started practicing. Munyop laughs. You grew up well, didn't you? As Jeho heads off to find the president, a voice cuts through the noise. Now that the nuisance is gone, we can finally drink in peace. But the atmosphere shifts. All eyes lock onto Seo Mun-Yeop. The legend has entered the room, and the sharks are circling. Joe Feldman, the American field agent, straightens his tie, ready to pounce. But his assistant blocks his path. Wait, she warns. Don't approach him with a job offer yet. You'll only offend him. Feldman pauses, nodding slowly. You're right. He decides to bide his time. But suddenly, a shoulder bumps past him. Excuse me. A man steps directly in front of the legend. Seo Mun-Yeop turns, his eyes narrowing. He recognizes the face immediately. Jack Rand, the European agent. Greetings, Rand smiles. Munyop corrects his pronunciation instantly. From the shadows, Feldman watches, his eyes sharp. The game for the hero's contract has begun. Joe Feldman steels himself, remembering that past grievances with Rand are meaningless now. He doesn't need to be defensive, just because a player was poached before. He realizes Seo Mun-Yeop is no ordinary recruit. Simple tactics won't work. He needs to understand the hell this legend has walked through to even stand a chance. Jake Rand slides his business card over with a smooth smile. Call me if the itch to play ever returns. Munyop pockets it casually. I'll think about it. Baek Hayan stares at her uncle, bewildered. How is your English so perfect? Munyop smirks, adjusting his collar. I learned it the hard way traveling the world. Hayan narrows her eyes, suspicious. Then why did you only speak Korean when we faced Walker? You made me translate everything. Munyop taps her forehead lightly. Because you have a peanut brain. Hayan pouts, rubbing her head. That is so mean. Watching Jake Rand retreat, Joe Feldman sees his opening. He steps forward to make his move, but a surge of people shoves him aside, chanting apologies as they block his path. The Morrow brothers stride towards Seo Mun-Yeop, greeting him in flawless English. The world's greatest Esper. Munyop doesn't miss a beat. I speak French too. You know. Munyop's eyes narrow in recognition. He knows exactly who they are, the infamous French arms-dealing brothers. Hayan leans in, whispering with wide eyes. Uncle, that's them. They own Paris Lumiere, the #1 battlefield team on the planet. She continues, voice trembling with excitement. Nathan Bernard is with them. Munyop recalls the name a speedster who once rivaled the legendary Baek Jeho in his prime. Naturally, Munyop assumes they are here for him, but when he asks, the brothers shake their heads. We wouldn't dare presume to recruit a legend. They bow respectfully. We know a man of your stature does only what he desires. Though, having you would be the greatest honor of our lives. The brothers turn their gaze toward the girl. In truth, we are interested in the young lady. Hayan freezes, shocked by the sudden spotlight. Munyop nudges his niece. Looks like they want you, kid. Hayan stammers her thanks, but Munyop cuts in sharply. Don't let it go to your head yet. His expression hardens. Is this genuine? The brothers place hands over their hearts. We would never speak falsehoods in the presence of a player. They explain their logic. We hesitated before because of her indecisiveness. A warrior who cannot choose is a liability. But her transition to a close-range damage dealer? Their eyes gleam. It was like finding the final piece of a divine puzzle. Munyop nods slowly. Accurate analysis. He glances at Hayan. If she sharpens her sword skills, she'll fit right in. The Morrow brothers beam. Exactly. You, Nathan, and Hayan. It would be a triangular formation capable of conquering the world. Munyop shrugs. I'll consider it if I ever decide to play. The brothers bow deep. For that day, we will prepare a contract that defies imagination. Do battlefield owners actually make money? Munyop asks bluntly. Immensely, they reply. As long as we forge players, the world is desperate to watch. As longtime fans, please accept a personalized weapon. Munyop grins. He never says no to free loot. I'll take it. The Morrow brothers bow one last time. Await your gift with anticipation. With that, they bid their farewells. They vanish into the crowd as quickly as they arrived. Munyop shakes his head. Those two are like a human tornado. Baek Hayan tugs his sleeve urgently. What did they say? Munyop groans, rubbing his temples. I'm tired. I just want people to stop talking to me. We can discuss it over vodka, he mutters. But Hayan insists. Suddenly, a voice cuts through the noise, calling his name. He turns, annoyance written all over his face. What is it now? Munyop snaps. An older man in a suit steps forward, bowing politely. A moment of your time, please. I am Young Min Young, from the Blue House Secretariat. Munyop raises an eyebrow. And what does the president's office want with me? Are you familiar with the Esper merit system? Munyop scoffs. You mean that fake law about pensions for war heroes? It is not fake, Min Young corrects firmly. You are a level 1 contributor, just like Baek Jeho. You are entitled to 12 million won per month. Seo Mun-Yeop stares blankly. So what? That's pocket change. The official smiles. We are here to provide the retroactive pension you missed for 17 years. He pulls out a document. The total amount is 2,560,000,000 won, tax-free. The number echoes through the silence of the hall like a thunderclap. Seo Mun-Yeop freezes. Asterisk. 2.5 billion. Asterisk. His mind races, calculating the total with his other rewards. He just hit the jackpot. Hayan approaches, confused. Uncle, what's going on? But before he can answer, another man steps up. Joe Feldman, American agent. Munyop sighs heavily. If you're here to recruit me, save your breath. I'm exhausted. But Feldman stands his ground. I just need to tell you something. Please. You saved everyone, Feldman says softly, but you can't get those 17 years back. You're likely still adjusting to this strange new world. Munyop pauses at the mention of his troubles. Joe Feldman continues, his voice sincere. In time, you will find a new purpose. You will get used to the peace you fought for. Don't feel discouraged. He hands Munyop a card. Remember this. As the agent walks away, he wonders if he just sounded like a complete fool. Hayan watches him go. Did he try to recruit you too? Munyop frowns. He was. Strange. Hayan's curiosity peaks. That's Joe Feldman, she explains. A big fish in the American Major League. They call him the money ghost because he gets rich poaching Korean espers. Seo Mun-Yeop looks at the card, puzzled. That's odd. For a money ghost, he didn't mention cash once. Just spouted nonsense. Hayan shrugs. He tried to buy my dad years ago with a fortune. Maybe he's changed tactics. As Seo Mun-Yeop watches Feldman disappear into the distance, the atmosphere shifts. The presenter takes the stage to announce the gala's main event, the Grand Donation Exchange. The tension rises as he reveals that the announcements will be made by a special guest, the legendary figure who donated more than anyone else in history. The name rings out through the hall, Seo Mun-Yeop. The man himself blinks in confusion, wondering if they are actually calling him. Invited onto the stage, he walks up under the blinding spotlight, the thunderous applause of the crowd washing over him. Mic in hand, Munyop demands to know the total of his fortune. The presenter drops the bombshell. His donation amounted to a staggering 1.74 trillion won. Park Jin-tae quickly clarifies the situation. Following Munyop's own past instructions, he and Coach Baek took the liberty of donating every last cent. Munyop grips the microphone, stunned. He knew the association president warned him, but he never imagined the mountain of gold was this massive. A dry chuckle escapes him. It is hilarious, really. He was celebrating receiving a measly 2.5 billion won, while he had practically thrown away over 1 trillion. The audience bursts into laughter as he jokes that perhaps he should have clawed some of those assets back before they vanished. His expression suddenly turns serious. 17 years have passed since that money was given away, and the world has changed drastically since his return from the nightmare of the dungeon. He addresses the crowd, acknowledging the praise he receives. Everyone calls him a hero, lauding his noble sacrifice to save humanity, but he decides to shatter the illusion. There was no noble meaning. The truth is simple. He just really enjoyed fighting in dungeons. He confesses that sometimes, he even prayed the enemies wouldn't fall too easily, just so the thrill of battle could last a little longer. That is why the title of Savior feels hollow to him. He feels no sense of accomplishment, only the emptiness of a fun game coming to an end. However, there is one solitary thing that gives him pride. It is the fact that the children saved and supported by his vast donations have now grown into healthy adults. That reality is more gratifying than saving the world ever was. He simply did not want any child to suffer the unhappiness he endured. With that, Munyop exits the stage to a standing ovation. Park Jin-tae intercepts him immediately, noting with a smirk that Munyop certainly knows how to manipulate a crowd with a speech. He questions if donating 1.7 trillion won is enough to gloss over Munyop's chaotic personality. Munyop shrugs, blaming his jagged edges on a miserable childhood. Park Jin-tae scoffs, claiming Munyop was born a troublemaker. The hero cuts to the chase, asking why the association executive is really tailing him. The mood sharpens. Park confronts him about annihilating the national players. Munyop fires back, asking if they really needed to be trained so softly. Park laments the disaster. That charity match humiliated the KB League, an entire organization defeated by a single man. But Munyop believes that is just the law of the jungle. Munyop gets annoyed, pointing out that thanks to his actions in the past, the government barely funded Espers, treating them like dangerous monsters. Park Jin-tae shouts back, reminding him that Munyop contributed to that fear. He recalls how the hero used to treat the National Assembly and the Blue House like they were street thugs. Park yells that because of Munyop's rampage, the politicians became convinced that all Espers were ticking time bombs. Munyop retorts effortlessly, claiming those suits started bad-mouthing him first. It was purely self-defense. Ending the argument, Park finally plays his hand. He invites Munyop to become the technical coach for the national team. He offers a blank check, but Munyop rejects it instantly. With a sly grin, the young legend says there is something else he wants to try. Back in the car, Munyop runs the numbers. The total comes to around 16 billion won. Baek Jae-ho looks at him, confused by the sudden math. Munyop drops the bomb. He wants to own a club. The declaration catches his companion completely off guard. Munyop explains that his heart aches watching the national team play like garbage. He believes he can fix them, but only by coaching players he handpicks himself. Jae-ho questions his patriotism, warning him that even a bottom-tier league team costs 20 billion won. Munyop considers buying a second-division team instead. Jae-ho realizes the truth. This has nothing to do with patriotism. It is purely about making money. Munyop laughs, confirming it without a shred of shame. Obviously, cash is king. The car pulls up to their destination. Jae-ho tells him to get out, but Munyop freezes mid-step. His aura shifts. Down the street, a silhouette stands waiting. A woman stares back at him, her presence heavy and undeniable. Jae-ho recognizes her instantly as Julan. He asks why she is here, and she replies coldly that she has business to attend to. Seo Mun-Yeop stares her down. Unlike the past, her face is an iron mask. He cannot read a single emotion on her. He triggers his system interface to check her status. His eyes widen. Her abilities are nearly maxed out, and she possesses a new skill called location. Realizing she has become a monster in her own right, Munyop turns to her. He asks point blank if she came all this way to kill him. She admits the thought crossed her mind when she learned he had become immortal, but she shakes her head. That is not why she is here. Munyop smirks, doubting she could kill him even if she tried. He advises her to let go of old grudges and enjoy being alive. Shulan replies that the hate is gone. She has already forgiven him for the hell he put her through. Confused, he asks again why she came. She reveals the simple truth. She just wanted to see with her own eyes that the ghost had truly returned. Confirmation received, Shulan turns on her heel. Munyop and Baek Jae-ho are left standing there, baffled by the bizarre encounter. But as she walks away, the shadow of her true purpose begins to loom over them. The memory surfaced like a nightmare. Seo Mun-Yeop glared down at her, his eyes cold. Should I just kill you right here? Young Seo Rin trembled. She had reached her breaking point. All she wanted was to go home. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. She looked up in terror. A massive stone golem rose from the earth, casting a deadly shadow over her. Seo Rin knew she had to act. She needed to fire her extinction ray now. But her body refused to move. She was completely drained of energy. Boom! In a flash, the monster was obliterated. Seo Mun-Yeop stood amidst the debris, brushing off dust. He smirked. Can you seriously not even handle a pebble like that? His tone softened slightly. You okay? The young girl couldn't speak. She just stared, processing the gap in their power. Back in the present, Seo Rin clenched her fists. It was true. He had really returned. Meanwhile, Seo Mun-Yeop grinned at his phone. The deposit had hit his account. Now came the fun part. Picking a club to buy. Baek-ho looked at him skeptically. Do you even know how to use a banking app? And are you seriously buying a Battleground club? Munyop didn't hesitate. Absolutely. Scrolling through his phone, Munyop shrugged. I am thinking of investing. Just as a hobby. Baek-ho sighed. That is an expensive hobby. He made an offer. Let me buy you a KB1 League club. It is the least I can do. The legend waved him off. I do not want your money. He pointed at the screen. What is this KB7 thing? Baek-ho explained. The KB7 League matches feature 7-player teams. It is significantly cheaper to maintain than the major leagues. Munyop asked, does that league have a deep player pool? Baek-ho shook his head. Not really. The skilled ones all aim for KB2 or higher. KB2 it is then, Munyop decided. I need to buy one soon. He paused. I haven't researched any teams though. I will just ask the association president. He dialed the number immediately. As soon as it connected, he screamed into the receiver. Hey, I have a great idea. The president's voice came through. I will gladly welcome you back, even as an owner. Is that why you rejected the coaching job? He added. But please, lower your voice. Munyop cut to the chase. Any clubs for sale? Park Jin-tae checked his files. There are 3 open to offers, and one that needs to sell urgently. The young man's eyes lit up. Urgent sounds cheap. Which club is it? They arrived outside the Incheon Battleground Stadium. Munyop looked up at the building. Is this the place? He scanned the massive stadium screen. It announced the upcoming match, GT versus Hanjung. Munyop raised an eyebrow. Is the team from Hanjung Industry? The battle arena opened up before them. The crowd roared in excitement. While many cheered, a loud section shouted insults at the Hanjung team. Seo Mun-Yeop settled into the stands. He adjusted his disguise. Perfect. No one will recognize me like this. But the crowd whispered immediately. Look at that guy. He looks suspicious. People began shuffling away from him in fear. He sighed, ignoring them. I just need one usable player. The secondary league has to be worse than the national team, but there must be a gem somewhere. The announcer's voice boomed. Entering the arena, the GT Knights, and their opponents, Hanjung Industry. Seo Mun-Yeop's eyes narrowed. Analysis mode engaged. The first player? Terrible. He scanned the next. Garbage. Mediocre at best. It was not looking good. His gaze locked onto one player, Nam Gung Ji-hoon. He checked the stats of him and No Jung-won. Why is the skinny kid a support? His barrier ability fits the role, Munyop muttered. But look at that tech score. 74 out of 95. He grinned. This kid isn't a support. He has the potential to be a top-tier damage dealer. It was a classic case of misuse. The player was unique. Without someone to spot his true calling, his talent would have rotted away forever. I will take him, Munyop decided. He shifted focus to another player. Strength and endurance limits. They rival the national player Cha Woo-hyun. Common strength ability, but that strengthening percentage is insane. Another approval. Seo Mun-Yeop leaned back. The rest are trash. He turned his attention to the bench. Suddenly, someone on the sidelines caught his eye. A hidden presence among the substitutes. He pulled up the status window for Lee Na-eun. She was cheering desperately for her team, unaware of the legend watching her. Special ability, high jump, max height 20 meters. Munyop did the math. If I crank her speed to 100, she could be a devastating archer. 1 hour later, the match ended. Munyop looked at the final scoreboard. It was a slaughter. They were ridiculously weak. A twisted smile formed on his face. Perfect. The deeper they are in the mud, the more fun it will be to drag them to the top. He pulled out his phone again. It is decided. His voice was firm. I am buying Hanjung Industry. 2 days later, at association headquarters, the former owner signed the papers. He looked defeated. I am sorry. The players suffered because of my incompetence. Seo Mun-Yeop shook the man's hand firmly. Do not worry. I will turn them into the ultimate team. The owner looked at him with renewed hope. The former owner bowed. I will be rooting for you. Breaking news flashed across the internet. Seo Mun-Yeop acquires Hanjung Industry for 519 billion won. The comments sections exploded. Outside the building, Park Jin-tae approached. Congratulations, owner. Munyop shrugged it off. It is just a purchase. The older man frowned. Be careful, a club is not a toy to play with. How do you plan to manage them? Park asked. The young legend smirked. For now, I will let them do their thing. I will pay the players a visit soon enough. Park Jin-tae bid him farewell. As Munyop walked away, Park squinted at the parking lot. Wait, is that your new ride? Seo Mun-Yeop makes it clear he needs his independence. He can't just rely on Jae to chauffeur him around forever. He reveals his new ride, a motorcycle bought with the pocket change left over from purchasing the entire club. Without wasting a second, he tears onto the Yeongbu highway. The engine roars as he weaves dangerously between cars, ignoring the angry honks. A driver rolls down his window, cursing at the lunatic on the bike. He points out the maniac isn't even wearing a helmet, but Seo Mun-Yeop just keeps speeding into the distance. Another driver watches the blur pass by. Recognition dawns on him, that's the legendary Seo Mun-Yeop. Whispers spread between the cars. He can ride like that because his body is immune to damage. In fact, not wearing a helmet makes it easier for the police to recognize who they're dealing with. Suddenly, the bike screeches to a halt in the middle of the lane. Seo Mun-Yeop has arrived, staring up at the headquarters of the Hanjung Industry Club. His eyes scan the roof of the dilapidated structure. It's a total dump, he admits, but at least it has plenty of space. A man rushes out to intercept him, shouting that visitors are banned. But the moment he sees Seo Mun-Yeop's face, fear paralyzes him. He stammers, introducing himself as head coach Choi Dong-jun. Seo Mun-Yeop's eyes instantly analyze the man's physical constitution. The status window pops up, revealing the truth. The coach is an awakened Esper, a former support class player in his prime. Seo Mun-Yeop bluntly asks the man's age, and he replies that he is 43. Seo Mun-Yeop throws a heavy arm around the coach's shoulders. He declares himself the elder by 4 years, leaning in with an intimidating grin until the coach nervously agrees. The hierarchy is set instantly. He tells Dong-jun to just call him boss, though the terrified coach insists on addressing him as sir. With the power dynamic established, he orders Dong-jun to show him the building. The coach leads the tour, explaining that the club currently manages 14 players. Seo Mun-Yeop scoffs at the ridiculous number, though he is relieved the facility basics are intact, despite the rot. Finally, Choi Dong-jun pushes open the heavy doors to the training arena. The new owner scans the vast, worn-down space. He frowns, asking why there are only 11 training modules for a squad of 14. The coach explains with a sigh that the equipment is incredibly expensive. They barely scrape together enough funds to equip the main starting lineup. Seo Mun-Yeop surveys the arena with a critical eye. The coach isn't the worst he's seen, but he realizes the real rot lies within the player roster itself. He makes a snap decision to shake things up immediately. Startling the coach with his speed, he demands the listed players be brought to him right now. Inside the lounge, tension fills the air. Seo Mun-Yeop stands before them, introducing himself as the absolute owner of this club. A young woman steps forward nervously. She introduces herself as Lee Na-on, bowing and saying it is an honor to meet a legend. He extends a hand, his eyes sharp. He casually notes that she must have been practicing relentlessly with her bow lately. Her eyes widen in shock, asking how he could possibly know. He points to the telltale calluses on her fingers, the mark of endless repetition. Seo Mun-Yeop hits the nail on the head. She is drowning in worry because her skills have plateaued despite her hard work. She nods silently, knowing her technique is flawed. In any other team, she'd be benched forever. But he cuts through her despair. He tells her it's fine, promising to make her a main player. The statement leaves her stunned. Seo Mun-Yeop reveals his master plan. Their team concept will be the Phantom Thief, and from this day forward, she will be the thief who steals the opponent's focus. He presses her again about her struggles. No matter how much she trains, she just can't seem to level up her archery, can she? Lee Na-on agrees, her voice trembling with hopelessness. Suddenly, Seo Mun-Yeop smiles and points a finger right at her face. You're out. Panic seizes her heart. Is she being expelled just for admitting her weakness? But he quickly waves it off. He's not kicking her off the team. He doubles down on his promise. He will transform her into a starter. She stares at him, asking if he truly means those words. Seo Mun-Yeop nods with absolute conviction. In his expert opinion, she possesses a specific, lethal skill. The girl asks if he means her archery. He looks at her like she's crazy. How could an awakened Esper be bad with a bow? He reveals the truth. Her talent isn't shooting, it's running. She blinks, repeating the word running in confusion. He instructs her to forget aiming and focus entirely on perfecting her speed and jump mechanics. The strategy is simple but devious. If she fires arrows while moving at high speed, she can steal kills and escape before the enemy can retaliate. The young woman connects the dots. He wants her to harass the opposing team? He confirms it with a grin. Just harass them until they break. The new owner lays it out. The enemy won't be able to ignore her, but she will be too fast for them to catch. Her job is to be a living nightmare for the opponent. After all, Annoying the enemy is the most fun part of the game. Hope rekindles in her eyes. She asks if this path can really make her a main player. He guarantees it if she performs well. She could even aim for the national team. Lee Na-on trembles with excitement. Is this really happening? She leans over the table, desperate for confirmation. Seo Mun-Yeop simply nods. The words main player and national team echo in her mind like a prophecy. She bows deeply, thanking him and promising to give her life to training. He dismisses her coolly, ordering her to send in Namong Ji-hoon. The door creaks open again. A voice announces its presence, and Seo Mun-Yeop lazily authorizes the entry. Namong Ji-hoon steps in, introducing himself as the team's support. He bows respectfully to the new boss. He asks why he was summoned, assuming it's a standard interview. Seo Mun-Yeop drops the bomb immediately. From this moment on, you are no longer a support. Wait, I am a support. The player's voice cracked with disbelief. But Seo Mun-Yeop cut him off cold. Wrong. There has to be a mistake, Nam Gung-jun pleaded. But the new owner's eyes were like steel. From this second, that life is over. Jun felt the ground crumble beneath him. Why even call him here? Munyop pulled up the stat sheet. Look. Close-range damage dealer. That is your destiny. The owner didn't stop there. He leaned in, eyes gleaming with a strange intensity. You have a hidden gift, kid. The way you handle a sword. It is wasted on defense. Jun blinked, confused. Did you actually watch my matches? I slept through them. Munyop yawned. Boring. As Jun sputtered about his low agility, the owner silenced him. You are slow because you hide in the back, relying on skills like a coward. Jun bristled. Support is not for cowards. It is a vital position. You think you know better than me? The pressure in the room spiked. Jun swallowed hard, terrified. No, sir, Munyop scoffed. I hate supports. 9 out of 10 just stand there, watching their team die. It is like playing 4 versus 5. He raised a single finger. Only 1 in 10 deserves that title. True supports have utility. They control the battlefield from a distance with at least 2 skills. They do not just hide. He stared deep into Jun's soul. All you have is a shield skill. Am I right? The player nodded, defeated. A predatory smile spread across Munyop's face. I will give you a new weapon. Jun hesitated. So, a sword-wielding support? Snap! Munyop grabbed him by the collar. No, you idiot. A close-range damage dealer with a support skill. Jun trembled. I apologize. Why are you so obsessed with the backline? Munyop roared. Are you that terrified of a real fight? Then, his voice dropped to a whisper. A manipulative comfort. Keep thinking like a loser, and you will stay a loser. You will never be a main player with that mindset. But if you listen to me, the world is yours. Hope flickered in Jun's eyes. Can I really succeed? Munyop nodded. If you bleed for it, and if I refuse, the owner's face went cold. Then get out. You are cut from the team. Rot on the bench of the league's worst team, or evolve. He extended a hand. Choose your fate. Namgung Jun didn't hesitate. He grasped the owner's hand firmly. I will do it. I will become your damage dealer. The interview ended. The head coach walked in. Done? Munyop didn't look up. Find me a new trainer. Someone who speaks the language of the sword. Coach Cho Dong-jun frowned. But Jun is a support. Munyop glared. Not anymore. He is a warrior now. And teach Lee Na-on how to run properly. Dong-jun looked skeptical. Will that really work? Munyop ignored the doubt. Fix their stamina first. Compared to the GT Knights, this team is pathetic. The coach sighed, bowing as the owner grabbed his coat. Safe travels, sir. Outside, Seo Mun-Yeop stopped. He looked up at the crumbling team sign. Time for a rebrand. What should I call this sinking ship? The next day, the atmosphere shifted. Seo Mun-Yeop sat alone in the office, head heavy in his hands. Baek Jae-ho approached cautiously. You look serious. Rare sight. Munyop waved him off. Silence. Jae-ho glanced at the dark TV screen. Is this about Hanjung Industry? Are they pressuring you? We only have 14 players, Jae-ho pressed. Are you planning to let the roster die? Suddenly, Munyop shot up. Jae-ho flinched. Recruit, the owner muttered, eyes scanning the room. He stalked to the window. We need fresh blood, now. He looked down at the street. A chaotic swarm of men stood there. Well, look at that. Free loudspeakers. He threw open the sliding door. Dong-jun, get the phone. He was already dialing. We are holding tryouts. Why now? The coach panicked on the other end. We are broke. We can barely keep the lights on. Cheapskate, Munyop spat. I will buy the modules myself. Dong-jun's jaw dropped. Sir, a single module is 200 million won. That is insane. 200 million? Munyop rolled his eyes. Pocket change for a revolution. He leaned over the railing. Post the notice. You have 3 days. Then, without warning, he vaulted over the edge. As he plummeted, he heard the coach's scream. 3 days? That is too short. A month is for amateurs, Munyop shouted back. He had a plan. Below, the coffee-drinking crowd froze. The wooden gate creaked open. Munyop dusted himself off. Gentlemen of the press, good morning. He stood before the shark tank. You want a scoop? You want to know if the legend is returning to the field? A smirk played on his lips. I will tell you everything. But first, you are going to do me a little favor. The command is given. Seo Mun-Yeop announces that open player tryouts will run for the next 3 days. He demands the message be loud and clear. The team isn't just looking for a few recruits. They desire an entire army of candidates. The phone buzzes with electric energy. On the other end, Dongjun reports with barely contained excitement that applications are flooding the system non-stop. Tearing down the road on his motorcycle, Seo Mun-Yeop shouts over the wind. He asks if the number of applicants has already smashed into the thousands. But the coach shatters that illusion instantly. He explains they haven't even cracked 100, only 70 have applied. After all, capable Espers are rarer than diamonds in this world. Seo Mun-Yeop doesn't care about the odds. He orders every single resume to be printed immediately. Moments later, Dongjun slams a massive stack of papers onto the table. The future of the team lies in that pile. Seo Mun-Yeop's eyes sharpen with determination. He declares he will personally scan through the list to handpick the warriors worthy of an interview. In this world, awakening is just the beginning. It is explained that every Esper must undergo a rigorous physical examination at their association to measure their true potential. The tests quantify everything: strength, agility, and aura levels. Seo Mun-Yeop scoffs at the numbers on the resumes. Compared to his own legendary stats, these applicants look like children. Frustration boils over. He crumples the papers in his fist, annoyed. Mere numbers on a page can never reveal the hidden potential or dormant abilities lying within. But he cannot give up. With a heavy sigh, he smooths out the sheets and dives back into the data, hunting for a single diamond in the rough. Suddenly, his eyes lock onto a page. He freezes. The profile belongs to Jo Sun-ho, a 22-year-old delivery man. His physical stats are pathetic, barely 1.5 times that of a mortal Olympic medalist. But his skill set? He possesses the ability to transfer both objects and his own vision to others. A wicked grin spreads across Seo Mun-Yeop's face. Finally, things are getting interesting. They have found a wild card. The day of judgment arrives. The atmosphere at Hanjung Industry headquarters is tense as the interviews begin. The first candidate bursts in with zero composure, practically vibrating with excitement. He declares himself a die-hard fanatic of the legendary Seo Mun-Yeop. Seo Mun-Yeop glances at the file. Kim Jin-ho. The resume says he played in high school, but the kid admits he quit the moment he graduated. Yeop asks if he had a sudden change of heart to return to the battlefield. The answer is pathetic. He just came for an autograph. Disgust flashes in Yeop's eyes, and he coldly commands the fool to leave. The fan stands there, blinking in confusion. Seo Mun-Yeop's voice drops an octave, darker and more dangerous. I said, "Get out." The fan's face twists into ugliness. He threatens to expose Yeop's attitude to the press, asking how the public will react. Then, in a fit of rage, he hurls his cell phone straight at the legend's head. Asterisk, smack. Asterisk. Seo Mun-Yeop doesn't flinch. He dares the brat to tell the world they have a crazy owner. As the fan collapses to the floor in terror, Yeop calmly calls for the next victim. Outside, the waiting room falls silent. A loud crash echoes from the office. The other candidates exchange nervous glances, wondering what kind of hell is taking place inside. The next name is called Mr. Jo Sun-ho. The delivery boy gulps, sweat trickling down his neck, and steps toward his destiny. He enters and bows formally, stiff with nerves. The coach immediately frowns, questioning how someone with such trash-tier stats even made it past the paper screening. The coach demands an explanation, but Seo Mun-Yeop just smirks. His eyes glow with power as he activates his analysis eye, stripping away the surface to see the truth. The data floods his vision. It confirms everything. Jo Sun-ho isn't weak. He is a vessel for 3 distinct special abilities: object transfer, vision transfer, and the crown jewel, aura transfer. Yeop's heart races. Aura transfer is an incredibly rare, tactical masterpiece of a skill. This wasn't on the resume. The boy must have unlocked it recently without even realizing his own evolution. He is a hidden gem. Seo Mun-Yeop turns to the coach, eyes gleaming. The candidate is the exact same age as Lee Na-eun. He chuckles darkly. This isn't coincidence. It is absolute destiny. He addresses Sun-ho sharply. Combat experience? The answer is humble and disappointing. He has only ever fought the traffic as a delivery driver. The new owner leans forward, his presence overwhelming. Your stats are garbage. They inspire zero confidence. So why are you here? Sun-ho clenches his fists. He admits he knows he's weak, but the dream of becoming a player has burned in his heart since childhood. He just used his low stats as a shield to hide from failure. But while working his dead-end job, a thought struck him. Before it was too late, he wanted to create at least one memory worth keeping. His eyes burn with sincerity. Seo Mun-Yeop nods, intrigued. Can you move objects from a distance? Sun-Ho nods vigorously. I've tested it. My range is 2.5 kilometers. The candidate explains the mechanic. To teleport an item to someone beyond his line of sight, he must first lock onto them, using his aura as a tracking beacon. Sun-Ho apologizes, thinking the manual locking process is a flaw. But Yeop cuts him off. In the claustrophobic depths of a dungeon, enemy locations are limited. This isn't a bug, it's a feature. The gears in Seo Mun-Yeop's mind spin. This isn't just a support skill, it's the ultimate reconnaissance tool. It is far more dangerous than he first imagined. A devious smirk plays on his lips. He turns to the coach. Every master thief needs a competent assistant. The coach blinks, utterly lost by the cryptic remark. Seo Mun-Yeop looks the boy in the eye. Joe Sun-Ho, the air stands still. You're hired. Sun-Ho nearly collapses with joy, stammering his thanks, unable to believe it's real. Yeop grins. This boy will become the shadow to Lee Na-eun's light. Shocking the coach, Seo Mun-Yeop stands tall. He points to the trembling rookie. These two will be our main force. He declares that their synergy will drive every opponent in the league absolutely insane. With the roster set, it is time to celebrate the birth of a new legend. The team gathers for a feast. Glasses clink, laughter fills the air, and the players toast to the uncertain but exciting future ahead. Seo Mun-Yeop watches his new soldiers from the sidelines, satisfied. Suddenly, a shadow falls over him as a player approaches to pay respects. The young man bows. No Jung-won, captain of Hanjung Industry. Yeop's eyes flash, instantly analyzing his data. He recognizes this face from a previous match. A solid tanker. No flashy traits, no broken abilities, but solid as a rock. He is qualified to lead. The captain bows low, thanking the legend for investing in their future. On behalf of the squad, Captain Jung-hwan vows they will bleed for victory, but the new owner waves off the pressure, stating he doesn't expect miracles overnight. The captain bows deeply in gratitude, entrusting their fate to the legendary leader. Seo Mun-Yeop analyzes the captain with a sharp gaze, acknowledging his diligence, before his eyes lock onto the rookie duo, laughing nearby. With a simple finger snap, he summons Lee Na-eun and Jo Sun-ho to stand before him. Na-eun bubbles with energy, confirming they've already bonded as the team's new same-age dynamic duo. Munyop grins, declaring they need to be more than friends. They must be thick as thieves. For every master, thief needs a shadow to feed them intel. The revelation drops. Sun-ho isn't just a teammate. He is destined to be the shadow that operates in the dark. Munyop cuts the lecture short, promising to reveal the master plan later, and orders them to go celebrate with a drink. Scanning the room, he calculates that they have finally scraped together the bare minimum roster needed to compete. Looking up at the old building sign, Seo Mun-Yeop decides the past is dead. They need a new name for a new era. Jung-hwan calls for silence, and the legendary hero steps forward to unveil the banner under which they will conquer the league. With a confident smirk, he announces their new identity. 3 months of hellish training flash by in the blink of an eye. The arena erupts as the announcer introduces YSM, the team formerly known as Hanjung Industry, predicting a seismic shift in the league's power balance. The massive screen displays the lineup, leaving the commentators baffled that the roster remains unchanged despite the legendary Seo Mun-Yeop taking the helm. In the locker room, Munyop commands absolute focus on their training, locking eyes with Sun-Ho to ensure he remembers the secret strategy. Jo Sun-Ho swallows hard, asking if their unorthodox tactic is truly safe, but Munyop assures him it is all for the sake of supreme performance. Munyop declares that today is Judgment Day, ordering them to unleash 3 months of blood and sweat upon the world, and the team roars in unison. The atmosphere is electric as the battle between YSM and Incheon BC kicks off with the first set. In the VIP box, a glamorous woman thanks Seo Mun-Yeop for the invite, admitting she hasn't stepped foot in an arena for ages. She confesses she used to cheer for Hanjung, but gave up when the national team's quality plummeted. She had been waiting for the national level to rise, and Munyop realizes she has missed witnessing his tactical genius in person. He scoffs at the national team's incompetence, but when she asks if his team is different, he flashes a devilish grin and tells her to prepare for a show. Radiating arrogance and power, he promises her a match so entertaining it will be etched into her memory. The announcer reveals the battlefield for the first set. Wizard's Canyon, a deceptively beautiful death trap. Experts note the map requires mastery of both land and sea combat, a brutal test of adaptability for the YSM players. A flashback takes us to 3 months ago. The coach stares at his stopwatch in disbelief as Lee Na-eun clocks 100 meters in just over 3 seconds. 3.01 seconds. Seo Mun-Yeop watches the girl run, instantly recognizing a talent that defies logic. Munyop notes that, while Jo Sun-ho has speed, Na-eun is a rough diamond with the potential to become a legend. He explains that her unique muscle development is a genetic miracle built for explosive velocity. The coach tries to flatter his eye for talent, but Munyop cuts him off cold, ordering him to focus on dungeon adaptability instead of empty praise. He guarantees that with corrected running form, Lee Na-eun won't just be fast, she will be a phantom on the battlefield. 40 days into training, the results are terrifying. A teammate cries out in frustration as Na-eun steals his monster kill yet again. He questions reality, unable to comprehend how she closes the distance with such nimble, ghost-like movements. Perched on high ground, Na-eun smirks to herself, confirming she has left them all in the dust. Seo Mun-Yeop observes the chaos with satisfaction, noting her passivity is gone, and taunts Team B about their helpless state. A breathless player admits her hunting speed has doubled, and her movements are becoming impossible to track. Na-eun thanks the owner for the praise, beaming on the outside. But beneath the smile, a storm of anxiety is brewing. Doubts crash over her like waves. Can a permanent benchwarmer from the worst second league team really evolve into a main slayer? The imposter syndrome hits hard. She wonders if this is all a dream, and if she will crumble when the real pressure hits. A voice pierces through her spiral of negativity, snapping her back to reality. Captain Jung-hwan notices her distraction and asks if the nerves are getting to her, but she quickly denies it. He tells her to drop the act. The captain confesses a humiliating secret. He was so terrified during his debut match that he vomited his guts out. He assures her that nerves are human, but she must never let doubt poison her belief in her own skills. With a reassuring smile, he reminds her that the hero, the leader of the seven, chose her times to be the ultimate thief. Na-eun nods, her resolve hardening. Jung-hwan declares they fight under the banner of the legendary Seo Mun-Yeop, and they must deliver a victory worthy of his name. The team unites, their voices thundering as one. The strategy is locked in. The caster's voice rises in shock. YSM has fractured into 3 squads. Could this be the legendary 4-4-3 formation? 3 players blitz through the dungeon, ignoring every monster in sight. It is a containment play, and they are moving at breakneck speed. At the precipice, the trio halts. Lee Na-yeon holds up a hand. Hold. The floating island before them begins to shift. Jo Sung-ho crouches, grasping a simple stone. This should do. With a hum of energy, his spatial transfer activates. Space warps, and a shimmering portal rips open before them. Sung-ho connects his senses to the object. His vision expands, sweeping across the map like a radar. Target located. He locks onto the enemy squad. Park Jong-hyuk, Cho Young-il, Jung-yoon, and Lim Ji-wook. 4 targets ahead, Sung-ho reports. Got it. Lee Na-yeon steps to the very edge of the abyss, eyes locked on her prey. She launches herself toward the floating island. Landing with feline grace, she kicks off backward to propel herself forward, accelerating like a bullet. Suddenly, she brakes. Ahead, a massive beast ambushes the enemy team. She spots them engaged with dragons. Target acquired. Lee Na-yeon leaps, crashing right into the heart of the chaotic melee. Her bow is drawn, confidence radiating from her stance. No one can dodge this. The enemy team tightens their formation. An enemy player cheers. We have almost cleared them. Stay focused until the end. Asterisk, thwack, asterisk. An arrow pierces the dragon out of nowhere. The crowd gasps. Lee Na-yeon grins. A perfect steal. They stole our hunting points, the enemy cries. Their leader barks, forget it. Focus on the battle. Ji-wook, take her out. The warrior charges at supersonic speed. He strikes, but Na-yeon backflips, dancing out of reach. Asterisk. Boom. Asterisk. His attack gouges a massive crater in the earth. Where did she go? He panics. Right here, a voice teases. She unleashes another shaft and blurs across the battlefield, a phantom of speed. Ji-wook grits his teeth. Stop running. If you jump, I just have to strike where you land. He winds up a devastating blow. But mid-air, the archer defies physics, twisting her body to change trajectory. Too slow, she mocks. You will never catch me at this rate. His fury hits the boiling point. Lee Na-yeon is driving them insane, the caster yells. But wait, her quiver is empty. She is out of ammo. Across the map, Jo Sung-ho's ear twitches. The signal has come. Asterisk flash. Asterisk Lee Na-yeon's quiver is instantly replenished via Sung-ho's portal. Unbelievable, the caster screams. What a terrifying containment strategy. Jo Sung-ho has become the MVP in just 3 months with this one ability. The camera cuts to Sung-ho. He pulls back a blanket to reveal. A comic book? Asterisk. The Chronicles of Seo Mun-Yeop. Asterisk. Lounging amidst a pile of quivers, he flips a page. Just tell me when you need more, he mutters. The caster is baffled. Is he reading a comic book in the middle of a pro match? Asterisk. Flashback. Asterisk. Weeks ago. Hurry up and catch her. She has already stolen 6 kills. Lee Na-yeon weaves through them like smoke. Impossible, she is too fast. Watching from the sidelines, Cho Dong-jun smirks. She was born to torment people, a natural harasser. The issue is Jo Sung-ho. He takes too long to find a safe sniping spot, leaving her vulnerable. The solution? Attach Nam Gung-jun to him. Absolute defense. Back to the present. Sung-ho finds a nook, surrounded by ammo dumps. He casually grabs a quiver. The coaches watch the absurdity unfold from the monitor room. Is he really going to just sit there? He has to. He is defenseless on his own. Isn't that a bit pathetic? No, the coach decides. It is better to look hilarious than useless. On the field, Sung-ho turns a page, bored. Asterisk. Whoosh. Asterisk. A stray arrow flies inches from his nose. Suddenly, a monster lunges. Nam Gung-jun intercepts. Asterisk. Clang. Asterisk. His barrier repels the beast, shielding the lazy genius behind him. While his tank fights for his life, Sung-ho does not even look up from his comic. In the stands, a spectator clutches his head. How are we losing to these clowns? Reload. Na-yeon's voice crackles over the comms. Without looking, Sung-ho grabs a quiver and warps it instantly. Elsewhere, the legendary Seo Mun-Yeop bursts into laughter. Did you tell them to do this? A woman asks. It is absolutely hilarious. My eye for talent is frightening, isn't it? He boasts. She sighs. Help my husband. I already have. He grins. Seo Mun-Yeop explains he advised the team to utilize Choi-hyuk as their main tanker, but that arrogant scoundrel refused to listen. She admits she is in the dark about her husband's work, but even she knows there is bad blood brewing between the two men. He asserts that a true coach must use crushing force to solve problems when necessary. Meanwhile, in the arena, Jo Sung-ho's distraction tactic catches the enemy's eye. Two Incheon players storm into the fray. The situation turns critical for Lee Na-yeon in an instant. An enemy charges, roaring for her capture. Jo Sung-ho barks a sharp command, dodge the strike, and use their own path to escape. Lee Na-yeon accepts the dangerous gambit. Jo Sung-ho's voice cuts through the chaos. Can you pull this off? Watch me. She vaults away, forcing two opponents to scramble after her. A lethal attack slices the air inches from Lee Na-yeon, but she is already prepping her counter. Seo Mun-Yeop's promise echoes in her mind. She would become the absolute best. Determination flares in her eyes like a dying sun reignited. Her team fights under the banner of the hero, Seo Mun-Yeop, honoring his living legacy. She grits her teeth. She will not fail him today. The girl becomes a blur. She weaves through attacks with godlike agility, spawning illusory copies to drown her opponents in confusion. She's too damn fast. Her enemies curse, desperate to keep her within their sights. She tears across the battlefield like a lightning bolt. Above her, enemies swoop down from the sky, hunting her like birds of prey. With spectacular aerial acrobatics, she evades death from above. She sticks the landing on a narrow ledge, eyes locked on the next phase. Lee Na-yeon glances over her shoulder. They took the bait, she whispers. The hunters close in, screaming to crush her before the point gap becomes insurmountable. End of the line. An opponent sneers as she halts at a treacherous cliff edge. Surrounded and outgunned, escape seems impossible. The enemy leader taunts her to check her footing. She looks down into the abyss, a dizzying drop into nothingness. Not even you can survive that fall, he gloats as the rock beneath her cracks. But Lee Na-yeon just flashes a chilling smile. You're right. She suddenly screams in mock terror. I'm cornered. Nowhere to run, leaving her hunters baffled by the sudden outburst. You really won't let me go? She teases while they stand confused. Suddenly, the earth beneath their feet begins to tremble violently. That's fine by me, she smirks. Behind her, the entire YSM team scales the cliff face like demons rising from hell. We won't make it easy either. As her teammates crash land around her, she shoots a playful wink. Nothing you can do now. Seo Mun-Yeop watches with a satisfied grin, while his companion gapes in shock at the YSM players launching off the moving floating island. The commentators go wild. The evolved YSM is ready to slaughter Incheon BC, who just blew their only chance to hunt. A YSM striker smashes into the enemy line. The casters scream the verdict. Incheon BC has absolutely no hope left. Another enemy is obliterated by a surgical strike. The rest of Incheon BC rushes to help, but they are arriving at a graveyard. A crushing victory, 9-0. YSM, the eternal last-place underdogs, dominate the first set. Lee Na-yeon and Jo Sung-ho rise as the new dynamic duo. The crowd erupts, chanting the names of their new gods of victory. Lee Na-yeon stands stunned, overwhelmed by the roar of adoration washing over her. Her gaze finds Seo Mun-Yeop in the stands. He leans back, eyes gleaming. Did you see? Remember what I told you? Seo Mun-Yeop points right at her, reaffirming his vow to forge her into a legend. He flashes a thumbs-up, mission accomplished. Lee Na-yeon shrugs with a radiant smile, leaving Jo Sung-ho confused beside her. The arena booms. winner of the first set, YSM. Incheon BC is left trembling in the wake of the upset. Meanwhile, the YSM squad stands tall, radiating the aura of kings. Second set, the duo executes the same suffocating containment strategy. Incheon BC is massacred before they can even twitch. YSM shows no mercy. They ride the momentum to a clean sweep, winning the match 2-0 with a humiliating point gap. Destiny fulfilled. Lee Na-yeon is crowned MVP. She dedicates the glory to Seo Mun-Yeop, and the internet instantly catches fire. Her post-match interview breaks the web. Articles flood every feed, praising the revolution in their playstyle. The fans don't miss a beat, comments pour in celebrating Jo Seung-ho, the mind thief who orchestrated the chaos from the shadows. The match catapults two rookies to superstardom, but all eyes turn to the puppet master behind it all, Seo Mun-Yeop. The world is forced to remember, Seo Mun-Yeop's God-given eye for talent is unmatched in history. Days later, a skeptic confronts him. Did you really discover Lee Na-yeon and Jo Seung-ho yourself? Lounging on a sofa, Seo Mun-Yeop scoffs. Why would I lie? He boasts of his divine eyes. The man presses on. Can those two make the national team? You need to convince Choi Hyuk first, the man warns. Seo Mun-Yeop smirks. That monster? I already have him in the palm of my hand. The man reveals the snag. Choi Hyuk is desperate to represent Korea, but his current team is blocking the transfer, dragging out the clock. He drops the hard truth. The national coaches hate your guts. To them, you're just an outsider clinging to the ghosts of past glory. Seo Mun-Yeop leans forward, daring the critics to spew their trash to his face. His companion scoffs, noting those cowards wouldn't dare not unless they have a death wish. Ignoring the noise, Munyop shifts gears instantly. He demands to know the current market value of Choi Hyuk. He presses for the price tag again. Meanwhile, the news cycles are exploding. YSM has secured their 5th straight victory. The world is finally witnessing the Seo Mun-Yeop effect. A man thrusts his phone into the air, euphoria trembling in his voice. 5 consecutive wins. A legendary record previously unimaginable for this team. Amidst the roaring celebration, a teammate breaks down in tears. The reality of this miracle is simply too overwhelming to grasp. Seo Mun-Yeop cuts through the emotion with a sharp question. He wants to know their previous best, just how deep in the mud were they? The man admits the shameful truth. They never even managed 3 wins in a row. But now, Lee Na-eun's name is dominating the internet, proving Mun-Yeop's eye for talent is absolute. Mun-Yeop silences the praise, citing Choi Dong-jun's statistical analysis. Hold your applause, he commands. The war isn't won yet. He lays out the harsh reality. Jo Seung-ho is the linchpin of their strategy, and by now, every rival team has painted a target on his back. The staff member suggests prioritizing Seung-ho's protection, though his voice wavers. Mun-Yeop acknowledges the man isn't completely useless before casually demanding water. The man freezes, blinking in confusion. Mun-Yeop's erratic shifts between tactical genius and demanding boss leave him stunned. A heavy hand lands on his shoulder. Mun-Yeop grins, asking if he can keep up this frantic pace once the real hell training begins. Choi Dong-jun doesn't flinch, confirming with absolute confidence. Mun-Yeop loves the attitude. He orders them to stack up every possible win before the mid-season break. Then, he drops the bombshell target. A 50% win rate. No less. The staff member reels back in shock, but adrenaline takes over. He shouts his agreement. No Jung-hwan sits nearby, muttering that such a number was a fantasy for the old squad. But Jung-hwan knows better now. Seo Mun-Yeop calculates everything. The legend turns to Dong-jun, affirming his trust in the analyst. No Jung-hwan reflects on his origins. He only became a Battleground player because Hanjong Industries threw him a lifeline. Destiny is calling. It is time to repay that debt. Seo Mun-Yeop rises from the table, deciding he's done teasing Dong-jun for now. He climbs onto a chair, commanding the room's attention like a general addressing his troops. He has a declaration to make. The promise is simple but massive. If they hit that 50% win rate, he will pour his own fortune into the team. They have proven they are worth the investment. The response is immediate and thunderous. Yes, sir. The team is united under his banner. Seo Mun-Yeop bids them farewell, ordering them to stay put. As he steps into the night, the cheers fade, and his mind turns to the real problem. Recruitment. Their strategy is fragile. Jo Seung-ho's range is capped at 3 kilometers. If the enemy bypasses him, Lee Na-eun will be neutralized, leaving them defenseless. They need fresh blood, new talents, and a brutal training regime to survive. Thanks to the new sponsorships, the budget has opened up. He can finally look beyond players who only joined because of his legendary name. He walks through the dark streets, obsessed with acquiring Choi Hyuk. Suddenly, his phone buzzes, breaking his concentration. It is a message from Baek Je. He suggests scouring the youth leagues, hinting that overlooked gems might still be hiding there. A smirk tugs at Seo Mun-Yeop's lips. For the first time in history, Baek Je is actually making himself useful. The plan is set. Recruitment begins the moment the first half ends. Just as Munyop predicted, the YSM winning streak snaps at 6. Rivals cracked the code, countering the duo. But the team didn't crumble. Captain No Jung-hwan stepped up, evolving their tactics beyond simple containment. They started at rock bottom 20th place out of 20, the laughingstock of the league. But they clawed their way up. 10 wins, 8 losses, finishing 11th. The first half is over, and now, the hunt for new warriors begins. The scene shifts to a high school battleground club. A crowd gathers, murmurs rippling through the students as a legend arrives. Coach Kim Jong-hoon hurries out to greet him. Seo Mun-Yeop introduces himself, not as a player, but as the owner of YSM. He plays it cool, claiming he is just browsing. The coach, eager to please, offers a personal tour of the grounds. Stepping inside, Munyop scans the area. He nods in approval for a mere school club. The facilities are surprisingly top tier. Suddenly, his eyes lock onto a target. The coach asks what's wrong, following his gaze to a player moving with impressive agility. That kid isn't bad. The coach sighs. That one is already gone. Snapped up by the Mirai Phoenix of the KB1 League. Munyop clicks his tongue in annoyance. He lowered his standards and still got beat to the punch? Unacceptable. He doesn't need a star. He needs a raw diamond, a kid with unpolished stats averaging 90 and a hidden ability. The coach interrupts his scheming. Hours pass. Practice ends. Munyop watches with a hawk's eye, but finds nothing. Zero potential. Frustration bubbles up. Finding a young prodigy who hasn't been poached by the vultures is harder than winning a championship. The gym door creaks open. A boy rushes in, breathless, bowing profusely. He apologizes for his tardiness, citing exam prep. The boy looks up and freezes. He recognizes the legend standing before him. Seo Mun-Yeop narrows his eyes. Who is this? Curiosity piqued, Munyop activates his analysis ability. He asks if studying makes the boy late often. The kid confirms he is prepping for college. The scan begins. Seo Mun-Yeop cuts straight to the chase, asking if any other guilds have made contact. The boy simply shakes his head. No one has even tried to recruit him. The young fan trembles with excitement, calling it an absolute honor to meet a living legend. Seo Mun-Yeop smirks, asking if he wants a handshake. The young man hesitates, stammering about the rumor that Seo Mun-Yeop beats up his fans. But the legend just laughs, reassuring him that today is an exception. He extends his hand, his grip firm. I'm doing this because you're about to sign a contract with me. The young man, Yoon Beom, freezes in shock at the sudden proposal. At that moment, his status window flashes open, revealing his unique ability, Shadow Walk. It is a conditional skill, increased speed, and the power to blend perfectly into darkness. Seo Mun-Yeop notes that, in the Korean League, a skill like this is all one needs to survive, leaving the boy completely bewildered. Determined to snatch up this hidden gem before the vultures circle, Seo Mun-Yeop invites him to join YSM immediately. Yoon Beom, however, is suspicious. He asks how a stranger could possibly know enough about him to offer a professional contract on the spot. Seo Mun-Yeop bluffs smoothly, claiming he watched him play on TV. The boy instantly retorts that he spent the entire season warming the bench. The legend doesn't flinch. He just smiles. Changing tactics, he explains that he sought him out precisely because times he couldn't understand why a talent like him was a reserve. In his expert eyes, the young man possesses a hidden potential that the rest of the world has been too blind to see. Still, the boy insists there must be a mistake. He calls himself weak, cursing his ability as terrible and useless. He acknowledges that Seo Mun-Yeop is incredible, but he genuinely asks what part of a benchwarmer looks like talent. Without hesitation, the recruiter points a finger directly at him. The answer is obviously your ability. He breaks it down. Yoon Beom's power seems vague, restricted to shadows for a measly 20% bonus. The young man shrinks back, wondering why anyone would want such a trash-tier skill. To clarify, Seo Mun-Yeop drops some knowledge. Abilities usually evolve based on the owner's personality. This passive, hiding style reflects the boy's own shy nature. He explains that a shadow power is perfectly compatible with him right now, but with proper training, it could become a lethal weapon. He confirms he can see the evolution path of the ability, a revelation that leaves the boy stunned. He then throws down the offer. Join the team for 2 years. If he likes it, stay for another 3. And if you decide to leave after 2 years? Seo Mun-Yeop grins. I'll give you 300 million won as compensation. The amount hits Yoon Beom like a physical blow. The boy stammers that he needs to ask his mother, but Seo Mun-Yeop grabs him by the collar and drags him away. No time. In the garage, the legend pats the seat of a sleek motorcycle and commands the young man to hop on. Moments later, they are tearing down the street, the engine roaring over Yoon Beom's desperate pleas to wait just a second. The contract is signed in record time, including the special clause guaranteeing the 300 million won severance package. Holding the document, Seo Mun-Yeop remarks that it wasn't a bad start. In the background, Yoon Byum's parents stand like statues, their souls having left their bodies. Satisfied, the recruiter hops back on his bike, thrilled to have secured a player at the very first school on his list. As the engine revs, he wonders what kind of monster Esper he will find at the next institution. However, reality hits hard at the new location. He is told bluntly that every single student has already been signed by other guilds. Without wasting a breath, he turns and leaves. He is convinced he will find someone at the next school. After all, the list is long. The recruiter scours institution after institution, but the result is a catastrophic failure. High school after high school, the answer is the same. The talent pool is completely dry. There are no players left. Annoyed, Seo Mun-Yeop realizes this was the last school on his list. With 0 candidates remaining, he heads to the gates of Jingyeon High School for one final attempt. Seated at a table, he listens as the young man in front of him politely apologizes, stating clearly that he has no plans to become a professional athlete. With a calm, infuriating smile, Cho Jung explains that he views the battlefield as nothing more than a hobby. An older scout whispers the data. The boy has been heavily scouted and has decent stats, but he stubbornly refuses every career offer. Curious about this waste of talent, Seo Mun-Yeop asks if his parents support this insanity. The student admits they are against it, unable to understand why he would choose a life of poverty over a pro contract. Still, the young man makes it clear, he does not give a damn what others say about his life path. Seo Mun-Yeop narrows his eyes, identifying the real problem. Placing a hand on his chest, the student reveals his true ambition, to become an author who inspires hope and dreams. Faced with this, Seo Mun-Yeop immediately recognizes the diagnosis. It is the troublesome, rare condition known as the artist's defect. In a reflective tone, he repeats the words hope and dreams, tasting the irony on his tongue. He then formally introduces himself. I am Seo Mun-Yeop, the hero who brought hope and dreams to a world that nearly ended 17 years ago. Seizing the narrative, he proposes a deal. Use that writing talent to record his legendary life story, from an orphan in the gutter to the survivor of the dungeons. The young man's eyes light up. The idea of turning this living legend's life into an epic dark fantasy novel is irresistible. As a final hook, Seo Mun-Yeop leans in. I'll even give you the exclusive details about the final dungeon, a secret he has never shared with a living soul. However, Seo Mun-Yeop delivers a stone-cold ultimatum. He will only sign the contract if he joins the roster as an active player. The condition acts like a lightning bolt. Choi Jung leaps to his feet, shouting his agreement instantly, desperate to secure the legend. The deal is sealed right then and there by Seo Mun-Yeop. It includes a staggering 160 million won deposit and a 55 million won salary. It is a price far higher than Yubian offered. But the recruiter is playing a long game. He is betting everything that the young man's observation skill will evolve his technique into something godlike. With the ink barely dry, Jungmin steps forward with a burning question. Seo Mun-Yeop casually grants him permission to speak freely, asking what is on the rookie's mind. Jungmin does not mince words. He looks the legend in the eye and asks how it is possible for a human being to possess absolutely zero weaknesses. Jungmin confesses that he has never witnessed an existence like him. He mentions watching the French national team when they invaded Korea, and although those players were monsters in their own right, none of them held a candle to the sheer pressure of Seo Mun-Yeop. The hero simply shrugs, as if the answer is obvious. He questions how anyone else could possibly exist on his level. He then reminds the boy that he dislikes killing humans, a fact that was proven during the charity match. Curiosity satisfied, Seo Mun-Yeop dismisses him. He sends the rookie back inside, promising that the coach will be in contact soon. As the young man disappears from view, Seo Mun-Yeop pulls out his phone. It is time for the main event. He dials back Joe, who answers immediately, asking if he managed to scout any diamonds in the rough. Seo Mun-Yeop explains the situation with a sigh. The top-tier talents were already snatched up, but he still managed to secure 2 promising souls for the team. He adds that if he manages to secure Cho Hyuk, the roster will hit 18 players. That is exactly why he is running behind schedule. Ending the call, he promises to explain everything in person. A faint, confident smirk plays on Seo Mun-Yeop's lips as he asks, where else would he be? Moments later, he arrives at the headquarters of Sangsung Spirits. He is here to hunt down the coach, a man who supposedly has a bone to pick with him. Security guards block the entrance, trying to halt his advance. But Seo Mun-Yeop stares them down, reminding them that the Blue House once tried the exact same thing. A terrifying memory surfaces from the past. It shows Seo Mun-Yeop storming the Blue House, ready to tear it down just to demand an audience with the president. Crushed by his overwhelming aura, the guards beg for permission to report to their superiors. Seo Mun-Yeop graciously agrees to wait. While waiting, he strolls through the facility. His sharp eyes take in the pristine condition of the equipment. Everything smells of new money. He pauses for a moment, gazing up at the towering modern architecture that looms over him. He comments casually, though his voice carries weight. This club is swimming in cash, possessing facilities that make his own team's base look like a ruin. Meanwhile, back at his headquarters deep in the mountains of Gangwon-do, the only training available is hiking up the steep, unforgiving slopes. Suddenly, a voice cuts through the air. Club owner Seo Mun-Yeop. He turns his head to find the source. The man bows, introducing himself as Kim Jin-tae, the head of Sangsung Spirits. He explains that he rushed over the second he heard the legend had arrived. Seo Mun-Yeop cuts to the chase. He asks if the head of the organization is responsible for scouting and transfers, receiving an immediate confirmation. He notes that Coach Cho usually handles those duties. Kim Jin-tae tries to flatter him, commenting on how multi-talented the legendary hero is. Seo Mun-Yeop is not amused. His expression darkens as he snaps at the man, warning him not to say such things even as a joke. Kim Jin-tae stiffens, cold sweat forming on his neck. He reminds himself to tread carefully. The man standing before him is a ticking time bomb. Cautiously, he brings up the rumor that Seo Mun-Yeop was looking for the coach. He confirms that this visit is indeed about a player transfer. On the Korean battlefield, everyone knows the truth. Seo Mun-Yeop recommended a position change for Cho Hyuk, but the stubborn coach rejected the suggestion flat out. Fearing the destruction that might ensue, Kim Jin-tae suggests they handle the matter directly between the two of them, bypassing the coach entirely. But Seo Mun-Yeop refuses. He insists on speaking to the coach face-to-face to avoid repeating himself. He demands to be taken to him immediately. As they march toward the office, Kim Jin-tae offers a silent prayer. He mentally apologizes to the coach for failing to stop this calamity from arriving at his door. The door opens. Seo Mun-Yeop steps in, introducing himself as the owner of YSM. He extends a hand, stating he is here to talk business with Cho Mu-nong, the coach of Sangsung Spirits. The man takes the hand, but his grip is trembling. Sweat pours down his face like rain, a reaction that confuses Seo Mun-Yeop. Suddenly, a high-pitched ring pierces Seo Mun-Yeop's ear. A sharp, warning sound triggers deep within his senses. The coach's panic intensifies as Seo Mun-Yeop leans in closer. The hero narrows his eyes, commenting that the man's face looks suspiciously familiar. A young player cuts into the tension, asking if Seo Mun-Yeop knows the coach. Annoyed, the legend turns to question who this newcomer is. The young man introduces himself as Yeom Ji-hook, the team captain. He explains that the coach summoned him in the middle of practice. The coach stammers out a justification. He claims the captain needs to be present for all matters related to player transfers. Seo Mun-Yeop ignores the excuse entirely. He dismisses the interruption and slowly turns his gaze back to the trembling coach. The pressure is suffocating. Unable to bear the silent scrutiny, the man finally asks why he is being stared at with such intensity. Seo Mun-Yeop does not blink. He presses forward, his voice low and dangerous, asking if they have truly never met before. Wiping the sweat from his brow, the coach denies it desperately. He insists Seo Mun-Yeop must be mistaken, claiming he knows too many people to keep track. Munyop narrows his eyes. He knows times this face. Desperate to deflect, the other man frantically shifts the topic to the negotiation regarding Choi Hyuk, but the diversion fails. At the mere mention of the name, the coach visibly recoils, his composure cracking under the pressure. Seeing the fear in his eyes, Munyop pauses. "I can't discuss business yet," he declares, digging through his memories while the man sweats bullets. Munyop focuses, the gears turning in his mind. Across from him, the coach prays silently, begging the gods that this dark history remains buried. "Don't stress yourself over it," the man stammers in panic. But Munyop cuts him off cold. "No, this wasn't just a casual meeting. I know you." Asterisk flash. Asterisk realization strikes like lightning. Munyop's gaze turns predatory. "The dungeons, right?" he asks. The coach freezes, his worst nightmare confirmed. A cruel smile spreads across Munyop's face. "I never forget a face," he growls. "Especially the bastards who pissed me off during a raid." He pins the man with a stare. 1993. The Temple of the Vengeful Spirit. The specific date hangs in the air like a death sentence. Munyop tilts his head menacingly. "Why are you still breathing? I was sure I planned to kill you the moment that raid ended." Trembling, the coach clutches his face. "I even grew a mustache to hide. Please, I beg you, let the past stay in the past." The scene dissolves, warping back to 1993. Seoul Station. 200 elite raiders stand ready, the air thick with tension. An 18-year-old Seo Mun-Yeop stands at the front. "Listen up," he commands. "The monster count is massive and the traps are deadly." "Hold it!" A voice slices through his briefing. A man steps forward from the crowd, sneering. "With these numbers, we should just rush the boss and end it." It's Choi Moon-hong, 24 years old and overflowing with arrogance. "This kid's fame is all hype," he scoffs. "I'll take the lead." He puffs out his chest confidently. "Clearing a few dungeons makes you an expert? Please. Real war is about strategy, not luck. Munyop's vein pops. You crazy bastard. But before he can strike, Jin-tae grabs his arm. Let it go, Munyop. Focus on the mission. Just finish the briefing, Jin-tae urges, desperate to keep the peace. We need to get inside before the window closes. Munyop steps back, eyes cold. Fine. We settle this after. Moon-hong just laughs, as if I'd follow orders from a child. I'll conquer this place myself, he boasts. But karma strikes instantly. A massive, stone golem rises from the shadows to attack. Shields up, Munyop roars, instantly taking control. Tanks, rotate formation, grind them down one by one. He charges into the fray, a whirlwind of destruction. Don't stop. Keep pushing forward. The formation must hold. But Moon-hong, sword in hand, sneers at the strategy. Too slow. There is no reason to listen to a brat like Munyop. After today, the world will know my time's name. He steps heavily onto a strange stone slab. Asterisk. Click. Asterisk. The sound echoes. He freezes. In that terrifying second, Munyop's warning about hidden traps crashes back into his mind. A rumble shakes the earth. Above him, the ceiling gives way, sending massive boulders plummeting down. You idiot! A hand yanks him back by the collar just as the rocks smash into the ground, obliterating where he stood a second ago. Dust settles over disaster. The path is completely sealed. A scout reports the grim news. The detour. It's going to add 6 hours to the raid. Silence falls. Slowly, Munyop manifests behind the trembling Choi Moon-hong like a vengeful ghost. He grabs the fool's collar, his voice a low growl. Pray we survive this, because once we're out, you're mine. Back in the present, the coach shudders. He remembers the beating that followed, a thrashing so severe, his bones still ache at the memory. He tries to play dumb, but Munyop cuts him down instantly. We need a private chat. Now. What are you going to do? The coach squeaks, voice trembling. Munyop smiles, terrifyingly calm. Relax. No need to be scared. Do you really think I'm petty enough to hold a grudge over something from decades ago? Munyop asks, his tone unreadable. He glances at the others. Get out. Unless you want to hear this man's humiliation? The coach squirms, trapped and helpless. Ji-uk, take the chief outside, Munyop commands. I have unfinished business with our guest. The door clicks shut. So, Munyop begins. You're the genius who ignored my orders for some half-baked theory. The coach hangs his head. He remembers defying the plan, turning a simple raid into a 9-hour nightmare. I remember, he whispers, defeated. I was wrong. But I was young. I was immature back then. Young? Munyop's eyes narrow mercilessly. Funny. I recall being 6 years younger than you. But you already beat me half to death, the coach cries, pointing to phantom bruises. Hasn't the debt been paid? Munyop nods thoughtfully. True. Beating you for the past would be petty. His expression darkens. So, I'll beat you for what you did times today, asterisk. The coach blinks, stunned and horrified. Today? What? What did I do? Asterisk snap. Asterisk Munyop points a finger. Forget the past. You made a new mistake. And stupid mistakes require painful lessons. He advances slowly, cracking his knuckles. Don't worry. I know how to hold back when dealing with the elderly. The killing intent is suffocating. Tell me, the coach screams. Munyop looms over him. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? Opposing Choi Hyuk's position change was your funeral. Furthermore, he twists the knife deeper, pointing out a crucial detail the other man ignored. The coach knew full well that Bak Je-ho was listening to every word, making his arrogant behavior even more unforgivable. Abandoning physical violence, Seo Mun-Yeop pulls out his phone, deciding to play the game exactly how the coach started it. With a chillingly calm smile, he reveals his plan to leak this entire dirty story to the reporters, who are starving for a scandal like this. The threat hits a nerve immediately, and the coach stammers about suing for slander. But Seo Mun-Yeop dares him to try. He warns him that he doesn't waste time with lawsuits. He destroys reputations directly. The coach, now desperate, asks what he wants. And Seo Mun-Yeop's answer is razor-sharp. He demands the immediate transfer of player Choi Hyuk. He reminds the coach that with only 1 year left on the contract, the club will lose the player for nothing in just 6 months anyway. He ruthlessly accuses the coach of ruining an athlete's prime years out of sheer stubbornness and petty personal feelings. Defeated by the logic, the coach finally caves, grumbling that there are plenty of other melee damage dealers to replace him. However, he tries to salvage some pride by setting the transfer fee at 1.2 billion won. Seo Mun-Yeop just smiles, calmly repeating the staggering figure of 1.2 billion. He looks around at the luxurious office, asking how a rich club could be so greedy towards a poor team owner like him. His voice drops an octave as he admits this greed is starting to annoy him, and his fist is itching to strike again. He delivers the ultimatum. Lower the price, or consider the difference the cost of his life. The mention of his life's value freezes the coach's blood. In that terrifying moment, he remembers that Seo Mun-Yeop is a man who always keeps his word and is fully capable of killing him. Trying to negotiate for his survival, the coach offers 1 billion, but Seo Mun-Yeop asks if his life is only worth 200 million. The price instantly drops to 800 million, but Seo Mun-Yeop remains unimpressed and stone-faced. Terrified by the silence, the coach drops it to 500 million, but the predator across from him still isn't satisfied. Seo Mun-Yeop asks one final time if he's really willing to gamble his life over money. In complete desperation, the coach screams and finally breaks, offering the player for just 100 million won. They shake hands, and the trembling coach begs that there be no more bad blood between them. With a satisfied smile, Seo Mun-Yeop agrees, formally addressing him as Coach Choi Moon-young. The coach replies that he will hold Mr. Seo Mun-Yeop to that promise of peace. Convinced the nightmare is finally over, the coach thinks to himself that this man is a demonic bastard. However, Choi Moon-young fails to realize that Seo Mun-Yeop is far more vengeful than he could ever imagine. A few days later, at the YSM headquarters, Seo Mun-Yeop greets the newest member of his family. Choi Hyuk stands before him, suitcase in hand, ready for a fresh start. With a confident grin, Seo Mun-Yeop welcomes him, declaring that from this day forward, he belongs to this team. Choi Hyuk's contract is settled with a generous annual salary of 600 million won for 5 years. Thanks to the aggressive negotiation with Coach Choi, the final transfer fee paid to the Samsung Spirits ends up being a measly 50 million won. The contracts are signed, sealed, and finally finalized on the table. Slumping onto the sofa, Seo Mun-Yeop laments that even with 3 new recruits, he only has 18 athletes, far short of the 22 needed. Suddenly, a young woman enters the room, complaining about the stifling heat, and he greets her warmly. She approaches him, calling him Uncle Munyop, and asks why he's been working so hard that she hardly sees him anymore. He shoots back that she's the one who has been busy, prompting her to mention that Seong was upset about his absence. At that moment, Seo Mun-Yeop points to the book in her hands, curious about what she's reading. She reveals it's a French for beginners book, and he takes the opportunity to tease her about the title. Continuing the joke, he laughs that the world is a wonderful place if it produces children's books like that, but she insists she is serious. With tears welling in her eyes, she complains that French is too difficult and begs him to come to France with her. Taken aback, Seo Mun-Yeop asks what on earth she is talking about. Jake Land, the European battlefield agent, joins the conversation to explain that her contract will be finalized after a physical test in Paris. In the first half of the season, Baek Hayan had evolved into the MVP, becoming Korea's best melee dealer. He eyes the invitation with suspicion, questioning the true motive behind it. The agent explains their goal is twofold. They need him to act as Baek Hayan's interpreter, and there is a special gift waiting for him in person. A gift? The simple mention of a tribute catches the legend off guard. Memories flash back to a previous encounter. The Moreau brothers, absolute fanatics of his legacy, had once offered to forge a custom weapon worthy of his strength. Seo Mun-Yeop recalls their desperate desire to arm him. The agent smirks, remarking that a mere weapon is a small price to pay for the presence of a god. Even with such a tempting offer, he declines. I have no time for freebies, he explains. I am too busy rebuilding my team before the season clock runs out. He adds a dose of harsh reality, admitting his team is practically a poor neighborhood club with zero budget. Hearing this, Jake Land can only lament the pathetic situation of a hero. Sensing an opening, the agent plays his ace card. He suggests a detour to Paris to scout for fresh, affordable talent. Jake Land lays out the strategy. The Korean League allows 5 foreign mercenaries. France is a goldmine where we can find elite athletes on reasonable terms. He presses the advantage, highlighting that this trip would be more than just a vacation. It would be a crucial experience for a club owner, allowing him to observe the advanced operations of the French League up close. Seo Mun-Yeop ponders the potential of signing foreign aces. A slight, predatory smile forms on his lips as he admits, that plan doesn't sound bad at all. The scene shifts instantly to the bustling chaos of Charles de Gaulle International Airport in Paris, France. Striding through the terminal, Seo Mun-Yeop drags his suitcase, his sharp eyes scanning the foreign crowd. Baek Ha-yeon takes a deep breath. It has been ages since I was in Paris. She adds softly that it would have been perfect if Baek Je-ho could have joined them. Seo Mun-Yeop shakes his head. He is busy grinding and training. He suggests they stop dreaming and use the time to find her a place to live. Suddenly, the air erupts with noise. A horde of reporters swarms them, screaming Seo Mun-Yeop's name over and over. Annoyance flashes across his face. Damn vultures are the same in every country. Amidst the flashbulbs, he spots a man in a blue suit waving and immediately identifies the culprit. Intrigued by the audacity, Seo Mun-Yeop demands to know why the club owner came in person. The man smiles smoothly. explaining that he directly oversees player management and wouldn't miss this for the world. He admits the legend isn't wrong to be suspicious, but insists that this level of media attention could be a massive boost for a rookie like Hayan. Seizing the spotlight, the man suggests Seo Mun-Yeop grant an exclusive interview alongside his dear niece. Facing the wall of cameras and microphones, Seo Mun-Yeop puts on a relaxed face. I feel good. For once, I am traveling for leisure, not to clear a dungeon. He sets the record straight immediately. I received an offer, yes, but I am only here to support my niece. I have no intention of signing anything myself. A reporter shouts a question above the din. Since you are in France, do you plan to meet Eric Thuram, one of the 7 heroes? Seo Mun-Yeop searches his memory. Baek Jeho had mentioned that Thuram married a smart woman and retired to a quiet life in the countryside. He shrugs nonchalantly. I won't be in the country long, but if he happens to be in Paris, I wouldn't mind saying hello. Meanwhile, somewhere far away, a figure watching the broadcast spits out their drink in pure shock. In a remote location, Eric Thuram, one of the legendary 7 heroes, spills hot coffee all over himself as Jake Land calls him. He stares at the screen, stunned to see Seo Mun-Yeop in France. Without a second of hesitation, Eric Thuram sprints to the edge of his boat and dives headfirst into the water, while Jake Land screams his name in panic. Already bobbing in the waves, Eric shouts back, "Emergency! I must return to France immediately. We can fish another time." Only then does Jake Land realize the absurdity of the situation. They are in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. The scene transitions to the opulent headquarters of the Paris Lumiere Club. Inside the luxurious building, the Moreau brothers greet them with explosive enthusiasm, barely containing their joy at Seo Mun-Yeop's visit. They waste no time. "Since you came all this way," they plead excitedly, "you must sign a contract with our club as well." Unmoved by their desperation, Seo Mun-Yeop shuts them down. "My niece will do the work in my place. Take good care of her." The brothers pivot quickly, inviting him to observe the club's physical test. "We guarantee our equipment provides extremely accurate results," they boast. Their fanboy nature takes over again. They overwhelm him with requests for autographs, exhibition matches, and even offer a film crew to document his every move. Trying to rein in their madness, Seo Mun-Yeop tells them to calm down, but he is interrupted. "Preparations are already complete," one of them declares. A woman clad in full combat gear steps forward, radiating intensity. She is ready to begin the test. In the high-tech evaluation room, Seo Mun-Yeop translates the brothers' question. Baek Hayan nods, confirming she is comfortable and ready to fight. The test begins. Digital particles swirl, and several grotesque creatures materialize inside the arena. The instruction is brutal and simple. Defeat them all. Seo Mun-Yeop translates the final condition with a serious tone. The time limit is just 1 minute. She doesn't flinch. Without hesitation, Baek Hayan explodes forward, charging at high speed toward the enemy. The dark monsters rush to intercept her in the center of the arena. Just before impact, her eyes glow with an intense, otherworldly light. It's a massacre. With a rapid, precise sequence of strikes, she cuts down every single creature in her path, leaving nothing but data fragments behind. 22 seconds. That was all it took for her to demolish the test, casually remarking that it was actually fun. Seo Mun-Yeop looked on, asking how she felt, while simultaneously praising her terrifying growth. She admitted she'd been pushing her limits in training. Witnessing this, one of the Moreau brothers didn't hesitate for a heartbeat. He decided to hire her right then and there. The results displayed on the screen were monstrous, far exceeding anything the management had dared to expect. At 24 years old, her stats window revealed a terrifying truth. She was still in her growth phase as an Esper. With the elite trainers available at this facility, she could refine her strength, endurance, and technique until she hit the absolute peak of human potential. Although her aura control and special ability still needed polish, her raw physical capabilities already made her an immediate key player for the team. Signing a prodigy of her caliber for just 4 million euros was practically highway robbery. But suddenly, a voice cut through the celebration, asking for Mr. Seo Mun-Yeop. It demanded attention. Seo Mun-Yeop turned his gaze toward the source of the sound. Baek Hayan's eyes widened, recognizing the newcomer instantly, while the woman beside her whispered a comment about his striking appearance. Seo Mun-Yeop analyzed the figure from a distance. A top-tier aura. He identified him as one of the 3 kings of the current battlefield. It reminded him of the old days, when speedsters ruled the raids. Back then, it was rare to find anyone who could match the agility of Jay in his prime. But Nathan Bernard, one of the club's top 3 stars, was exactly that kind of monster. Seo Mun-Yeop never imagined their paths would cross like this. The man finally turned, revealing his face. It was indeed Nathan Bernard. The memories of 2005 resurfaced when Seo Mun-Yeop and the 7 heroes conquered the final dungeon. With the Great War finished, many legendary fighters had laid down their weapons, choosing the quiet life of retirement. In this new era of peace, the battlefield was reborn as mass entertainment, raising the ultimate question: who would inherit the title of the strongest? This competitive format turned many Espers into celebrities. Yet, in every debate about power, one name was never omitted: the ace of the French national team, the King of Paris Lumiere, a living legend named Player of the Year for 3 consecutive seasons. That name was Nathan Bernard. Two men questioned why he was at the facility on his day off, but he simply replied that he had come for one reason: to see Mr. Seo. Seo Mun-Yeop watched the young legend approach, a confident smile playing on Nathan's lips. Nathan briefly turned to greet his new teammate. The woman in the chair waved back, starstruck. She frantically asked her friend what he said, but the language barrier was too thick. Closing the distance, Nathan bowed slightly, formally introducing himself to the legendary Seo Mun-Yeop. The veteran just stared in silence, reading him. Suddenly, Nathan lunged forward with his arms wide open. Instinct took over. Seo Mun-Yeop braced himself for an attack. But instead of a strike, Nathan pulled him into a bone-crushing bear hug. The young superstar tensed up, freezing for a second, overwhelmed by the moment. Then, Nathan released him, warmly welcoming the hero to Paris. Seo Mun-Yeop replied coolly that he already knew who he was, having analyzed recordings of his matches. Hearing a compliment from his childhood idol, the world-class athlete became visibly flustered, like a fanboy meeting a god. A system window materialized, displaying Nathan Bernard's profile, detailing his terrifying stats and special ability. Seo Mun-Yeop's analytical eye broke it down. Aside from stamina, every attribute had a potential limit of 90. His unique skill, Alter Ego, allowed him to create a clone at the cost of half his aura, Hayan observed from the side. With room still left to grow, Nathan had the potential to surpass even his own current peak. His technical mastery allowed him to weave other skills freely while his clone was active. Furthermore, his stamina was absurd, ranking higher than even the average tanker in the KB1 League. Calculating the data, Seo Mun-Yeop wondered how this prodigy would fare against a monster like Gerald Walker. A nudge snapped him out of his analysis. Hayan stepped in, asking if he had finally settled things with Gerald Walker. Confused, Seo Mun-Yeop asked why she brought him up. She explained that Munyop had been praising Walker non-stop since returning from Korea. With a calm, arrogant smile, Munyop replied, "He was simply the better fighter. He had just taken Walker to school." Nathan watched the exchange, the nuance lost in translation. Seo Mun-Yeop clarified the situation. He had shown Walker exactly who the boss was. He confirmed the beatdown was televised, though the memory seemed to annoy him slightly. The Moreau brothers could barely contain their excitement, thrilled to hear that Seo Mun-Yeop had dominated the fight. Nathan, incredulous, asked if he could truly defeat Walker in a direct clash. Picking his ear with disdain, Munyop gave a simple answer: "Walker is only human." Hearing this, the Moreau brothers nodded sagely. Now they understood the secret behind his rapid improvement. They expressed their admiration. Munyop had intentionally strengthened a player who could be a future rival. True confidence. They raised their fists, hailing him as the best, leaving Munyop speechless as he tried to shield his eyes from the blinding glare reflecting off their bald heads. Seo Mun-Yeop stepped back from the shine, while Nathan stood there, still processing the revelation of Walker's defeat. Internally, Nathan admitted the truth. Even he avoided facing Gerald Walker in one-on-one combat. In an official match, there are rules, but a fight with no environmental limits or time constraints? That was a different nightmare entirely. He felt a pang of regret. For so long, he believed he'd never get the chance to test himself against Seo Mun-Yeop, thinking the legend was dead. But now, the dragon had returned. Now aware that he survived, Nathan felt a new resolve harden within him. He was determined to face the man who defied death, no matter the cost. Elsewhere, Baekju whispered a sharp warning to Hayan to tread carefully around that man. Hayan scoffed, dismissing him as not her type, until a woman suddenly interjected, asking with a sly smile what her ideal type actually was. Hayan didn't hesitate for a second. Her eyes sparked with intensity as she declared she preferred someone rougher, a man radiating raw, unpolished bravery. As she spoke, her gaze drifted, locking onto Seo Mun-Yeop, who was observing her silently from the shadows. The woman countered that men like that were magnets for disaster, but Hayan shot back with conviction. She argued that those were the precise kind of men destined to carve greatness into history. Turning to face the woman, Hayan firmly stated she was the master of her own heart. Nearby, Seo Mun-Yeop watched the exchange in stoic silence, his mind churning. Moments later, Hayan chirped a goodbye to Uncle Munyop, announcing a shopping trip with her mother. She promised to bring him back some gifts before departing. Nathan stepped forward, offering to serve as their escort for the day. Munyop nodded his approval, offering a brief word of thanks for the gesture. As Munyop watched them disappear, one of the Moreau brothers stepped in. They suggested a trip to the workshop, hinting at a delivery that simply couldn't wait. His interest piqued. Seo Mun-Yeop offered no resistance. He gestured for them to lead on, curious about what they had in store. Sparks flew inside the workshop. The group watched in awe as a blacksmith hammered a piece of glowing metal, the heat radiating through the room as he displayed his work. One of the Moro brothers swept a hand across the room, revealing an arsenal of deadly steel. Chests puffed with pride, they declared every masterpiece was forged right there. Seo Mun-Yeop's sharp eyes scanned the display case, lingering on the gleaming blades that lined the walls. He lifted a sword, testing its balance. A compliment escaped his lips, coming from a legend who had wielded countless weapons in his lifetime. It was high praise indeed. The brothers beamed, their egos swelling at the recognition from a true master of warfare. They admitted the workshop cost a fortune to build, but the results spoke for themselves. They were now forging some of the finest equipment on the planet. Throwing their arms up in triumph, they celebrated turning a crisis into a goldmine. Then came the real news. They had crafted a special gift exclusively for Seo Mun-Yeop. One brother tapped a button on a nearby panel. With a mechanical hiss, a hidden section of the wall slowly slid open. Revealed within were several magnificent spears, mounted on a rack proudly engraved with the name Seo Mun-Yeop. One of the brothers handed him a weapon, inviting him to test its metal. Gripping the handle, Munyop frowned, unable to find a mechanism to extend it. The blacksmith's voice cut through the air, instructing him to pour his aura directly into the steel. Munyop tightened his grip, channeling his power. In a flash of light, the compact handle transformed, extending into a majestic, full-length spear in his hands. One brother explained that while the old collapsible spear was a relic, these were forged from cutting-edge technology and high-tech materials. They admitted the durability was slightly lower, but waved it off. On the battlefield, these weapons could be mass-produced and replaced instantly. Munyop retracted the blade, musing that with the era of dungeons over, this weapon would likely only see the light of day in the arena. As he admired the equipment's incredible portability, the brothers stepped in with a correction. They assured him that with proper care, its potential was limitless. Intrigued, Munyop asked the burning question, did they really build this empire just for him? A brother nodded, but clarified the catch. This wasn't a one-off artifact for exclusive use. Their logic was cold and brilliant. If the legendary Seo Mun-Yeop wielded this spear, the replicas would fly off the shelves. Munyop was left wordless at their scheme. The trap was sprung. They revealed the weapon was part of a sponsorship contract, a realization that visibly annoyed the veteran. Rubbing his fingers together, one of them revealed the numbers. The proposal involved a base payment of 1.5 million per year. The contract spanned 5 years. Even sweeter, they offered a staggering 3 million bonus for every single match where he wielded the spear. Seo Mun-Yeop tilted his head, weighing the astronomical figures against his pride, as they asked for his thoughts. Spear in hand, he accepted the deal. The noble hero might have scoffed, but the pragmatic club owner knew better than to reject a fortune. As Seo Mun-Yeop scribbled his signature, one brother leaned in, asking if he had truly read the fine print. They pointed out a clause requiring him to keep the weapon. Munyop scoffed, wondering why he would ever discard such a masterpiece. Then came the curveball. The brother asked if he was currently an active player on the battlefield. He answered in the negative. Munyop explained that technically, only registered players could carry Esper weapons, though he assumed his immunity would cover it. The brothers shook their heads. Customs wouldn't care about immunity. Realizing the complication, Munyop shot to his feet. He declared he wouldn't force the issue. He refused to bring trouble to Baekju or Mr. Gente over a weapon. At that moment, the two brothers struck a dramatic, flamboyant pose. They announced there was a painfully simple solution. Leaning in with mischievous grins, they dropped the bomb. If he couldn't take the weapon because he wasn't a player, he just had to become one. Just then, Hayan and her mother returned, bearing gifts. They found Seo Mun-Yeop frozen in place, his jaw slack with shock. Seeing him slumped in the chair, Hayan frowned, asking what on earth had happened to him. The scene shifted back hours earlier. The brothers had laid out the ultimate condition, to wield the spear. The legend had to register with the association once more. They pressed on with their logic, insisting that since the International Association regulates player registration, the specific country is irrelevant. Their trap was simple, yet brilliant. Register in France, and he could declare his weapon at customs without a single red tape hurdle. In that split second, Seo Mun-Yeop realized the truth. This entire setup had been orchestrated from the very beginning. The brothers struck their signature flamboyant pose again. Annoyed by their theatrics, Seo Mun-Yeop glared at them in icy silence. They began to circle him like sharks, preaching that the true art of negotiation is letting things flow, even when the hidden agenda is already laid bare. Smoothly, they assured him there were absolutely no downsides to registering, only the freedom to participate in more matches if he chose. To prove their loyalty, they revealed they were his ultimate fans, having bought his charity car at an auction. But then came the killing blow. They had also acquired the diary he gave up on writing after just 4 days. Humiliation and rage exploded within him. Furious that they possessed his private diary, Seo Mun-Yeop roared for them to call an employee immediately. Back in the present, the headache continues as he complains to Hayan about being forcibly registered as an active player. She simply smiles and congratulates him on the sponsorship deal, pointing out that, like it or not, he is now officially a professional player again. Seo Mun-Yeop counters that no one can force him to play. But right on cue, the Morrow brothers appear at the door, inviting him to sign with Paris Lumiere. With a menacing aura, he steps toward them. The brothers, sensing the danger, scramble backward in a panic. Ha-yeon then voices her true desire. She wants him on her team, hoping they can fight side by side just as he once did with her father. Seo Mun-Yeop falls silent. To him, those legendary days feel like they happened only a few months ago. Ha-yeon breaks his reverie, mentioning rumors of a new weapon. Nathan enters the room at that moment. Seo Mun-Yeop confirms the bald duo gave him the gift, prompting the young ace to suggest they test its power immediately. Even though he is technically on vacation, Nathan explains the reality of a pro player's life. The team still grinds through training twice a week for the upcoming season. Nathan invites him to join the practice, a spark of challenge in his eyes. Hearing the tone in his voice, Seo Mun-Yeop realizes this young man isn't even trying to hide his burning competitive spirit. A slight smile touches his lips. He finds this attitude interesting. He taps his fist against Nathan's chest, accepting the challenge. The next day, at the Paris Lumiere headquarters, players chat excitedly about their vacation plans, until one asks about a missing teammate. Baek Ha-yeon stands apart, clenching her fists tightly. She senses the team's lack of focus. Noticing her tension, Seo Mun-Yeop advises her to relax, teasing that she is the only one overflowing with unnecessary enthusiasm. He remarks that she is exactly like her father, a man who got so nervous in his first dungeon that he passed out in just 10 minutes. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts. Two players holding hands freeze as they watch the duo arrive. Another player turns, eyes widening. Slowly, a wave of whispers ripples through the group as they recognize the living legend, Seo Mun-Yeop. Disbelief fills the air. Some mutter in shock that the club owners actually managed to recruit him. In the distance, Eric Thuram watches the scene in silence. Hayan notices the stares and whispers directed at her great-uncle and tries to compose herself. Suddenly, a towering figure approaches and calls out to Seo Mun-Yeop. He introduces himself as Chi-Chi Lucas, the main tank for Paris Lumiere. He states his name and role, while Seo Mun-Yeop simply asks what he wants. Completely unintimidated by the legend's pressure, Seo Mun-Yeop faces him head-on and asks if there is anything else. The tension breaks instantly. With a relaxed smile, Chi-Chi Lucas asks for an autograph on his jacket. Obliging the fan, Seo Mun-Yeop signs his name and adds a short message. He then introduces his niece to the tank. Chi-Chi nods politely, commenting that he looks forward to training with her. Seo Mun-Yeop watches the giant walk away. Proudly, Chi-Chi Lucas shows off the fresh autograph emblazoned on his chest to his teammates. A system window materializes, displaying Chi-Chi Lucas's profile, revealing his stats and hidden skills. Seo Mun-Yeop's analytical gaze sharpens. While Nathan is the flashy ace, this analysis reveals that Chi-Chi is the irreplaceable core of the team. He is not inferior to Walker or Nathan. In fact, with his speed stat, he could surpass the star player. One skill, Green Blessing, particularly catches Seo Mun-Yeop's attention. He watches the tank disappear down the hallway. Just then, Nathan approaches, asking if he has already spoken with the big guy. Nathan explains that the imposing player also runs a charity foundation dedicated to forest preservation. With that puzzle piece, Seo Mun-Yeop immediately understands the origin of the Green Blessing skill. Nathan then comments on his teammate's perpetual good mood. Unable to hide his own excitement, he admits he can't contain his happiness at seeing his dream finally come true. His gaze locks onto the legend. He declares directly to Seo Mun-Yeop that he has always wanted to defeat him. In a flashback, a young Nathan stares up at the statue of the hero who saved the world, viewing him not just as a savior, but as an idol to be surpassed. The memory shifts to a darker day. He remembers standing before the memorial for Seo Mun-Yeop, the hero who had perished in the final dungeon. At that crushing moment, young Nathan believed his dream had died, along with his idol. Back in the present, the two warriors face each other. Seo Mun-Yeop muses aloud that humans truly love to dream. Nathan declares that as long as breath remains in his lungs, he will keep striving. Today, he will fight with everything he has. With a faint, acknowledging smile, Seo Mun-Yeop simply wishes him good luck. Suddenly, the Morrow brothers burst onto the scene. Striking flamboyant, over-the-top poses, they greet the room with explosive energy. Right on their heels, the mastermind steps forward. Dubois Gouffini introduces himself as the head coach of Paris Lumiere BC. He scans the assembled talent and drops the question. Shall we divide into teams? The coach explains their usual protocol. Typically, the roster is split right down the middle, centered around their two heavy hitters, Chi-Chi and Nathan. But today, the script is flipped. Because of their special guest, the coach announces a new rivalry. It will be Team Seo Mun versus Team Nathan. Seo Mun-Yeop steps up, his tactical mind already at work. He asks the crucial question, how will they balance the positions and skill levels? The coach's expression turns mischievous. He claims there's a special method for organizing these high-stakes practice games. With an amused smirk, he reveals the ultimate technique. Rock, paper, scissors. Fate decides the rosters. Seo Mun-Yeop's squad comes together, securing the powerhouse Chi-Chi Lucas and other key players by his side. On the other side, Nathan rallies the remaining warriors. The teams are locked in, and the air crackles with anticipation for the upcoming clash.